While a young man sat perched on the school's iron fence with his arms spread wide, suddenly from the sky, enormous pillars of light resembling streams of code shot straight down to the ground. Because he was in a high place, Rikuto was able to witness this phenomenon. At first he thought it was lightning and was a bit surprised since the sky was still perfectly sunny. So where would lightning come from? But this was just the beginning of the invasion. Suddenly all the phones seemed to be electrified, forcing everyone to drop them. This strange event made the students so terrified. They screamed out loud, catching Rikuto's attention. From inside the phones, endless lines of code appeared. Those lines of code seemed to want to escape the small screens, gradually materializing into the form of a terrifying monster. Instantly, countless horrifying monster creatures appeared from thin air, beginning a frenzied slaughter of any human in sight. Soon the entire student body in the schoolyard had been massacred, their bodies piled up like mountains. Witnessing this horrific scene, Rikuto was completely stunned. What the hell is this? On a beautiful day, a massive number of mysterious creatures suddenly appeared all over the globe, heralding the apocalypse. Human civilization was annihilated in the blink of an eye, and the world's population plummeted to less than 1.1%. The cause of this catastrophe remained unknown until a group of teenagers discovered the truth. From the start, humanity knew only one thing: that this monster invasion came from within their phones. That was it. In this desolate world, those who focused on survival gave that tragic day a name: the Day of Reckoning. Back in the present, Rikuto was still panicking. Is this reality? The kind of monster that should only exist in a fantasy world was now brazenly tearing people apart. It was all too sudden. At that moment, he tried to come up with a reason to calm himself. Ha ha ha, damn it, I get it. I must have died ages ago. This must be the dream that signifies death. Sitting high above, Rikuto witnessed his classmates being torn to shreds like they were being fed to a zombie horde. At that moment, he felt a sudden sense of satisfaction. Ha ha, how pathetic. The very people who always looked down on me, a bunch of garbage. How do you feel now? You all treated me like an idiot day after day. It's what you deserve. All of you just die. Go to hell, you scumbags. But that feeling was fleeting and quickly faded. Rikuto grew anxious and uneasy. This dream is far too real. There are people here who never did anything to me, yet their survival is impossible. I can't watch anymore. Rikuto squeezed his eyes shut, covered his ears, and screamed, "What is this? What the hell is happening? Enough. How long am I going to be trapped in this dream? Just let me die. My life is a complete mess. My parents died young, and everyone around me is like a pack of wild dogs, not to mention my scumbag brother. Nothing matters anymore. Nothing is important, as if I care. But this isn't right at all. No matter what, letting everyone die like this is just wrong. Stop it, please. If this is a dream, then let me wake up." Rikuto's inner turmoil was overwhelming. A series of negative emotions washed over him, leaving him paralyzed. Just then, a loud noise echoed from behind him. A blood-soaked monster was slowly approaching. In that instant, Rikuto's survival instincts kicked in, and he knew this was real. This was the absolute, undeniable apocalypse. And thanks to that instinct, Rikuto managed to dodge the attack. The monster barely clung to life as Rikuto collapsed to the ground, gasping for air and watching in utter despair. As the monster advanced on him, Rikuto stared at the head it was carrying, utterly hopeless. "This is it. This is death. I'm going to die. Is this how it ends?" Just then, it was as if another version of Rikuto appeared on the other side of the fence, whispering incessantly into his ear. "Nothing else matters anymore, does it? It's almost like you planned this all along. You wanted to put an end to it all. This wretched life." Rikuto smirked, his mind a tangled mess. After all, this life really is a complete disaster. This whole apocalyptic world is garbage anyway. If I die, nothing will change. But when he actually witnessed death firsthand, Rikuto suddenly realized he didn't want to die like this. He instinctively grabbed a nearby iron bar, ready for a desperate fight for survival. Against the monster. "I don't want to die. Death is ugly, painful, and just too tragic. Once you know what death is really like, who would ever choose it? No, I don't want to die. It wasn't like I wanted to end my life from the very beginning, you idiot." These words seemed directed at his past self. At that very moment, Rikuto felt everything slow to a crawl. Humans can enter a state known as the zone. For whatever reason, when a person concentrates to an extreme degree, they can achieve a state of perfect mastery over both mind and body. It's said that when someone achieves this zone state, they gain a panoramic view of their surroundings, and can execute the best possible action through pure reflex and intuition. By some miracle, having entered the zone, Rikuto surged up and shoved the monster To the ground. He relentlessly swung the pipe, smashing it into the monster's head until it finally stopped moving. Once the adrenaline faded, Rikuto immediately threw up at the sight of the monster's mangled corpse. Then he suddenly looked up, fell to the sky, and let out a massive scream as if releasing all of his pent-up frustrations in an instant. This life is such crap, but for some reason, from the very depths of my soul, I want to live. And then the after effects of entering the zone suddenly struck. Completely exhausted, Rikuto collapsed. It wasn't until nightfall that he jolted awake, discovering that Nishi had found him. Lying motionless next to the monster's corpse. You're alive. Thank God your head was bleeding so much. You really had me worried. I thought you were a goner for sure. Rikuto, still dazed from waking up, glanced around in confusion. This is the guy from before, right? His name is Nishi, I think? Just then a sharp pain shot through his head, making Rikuto feel a little, dizzy. Without a word, he slowly got to his feet and surveyed the city burning below. This whole scene is completely, insane. Who would have thought this apocalypse could happen in less than a single day? Suddenly, the cries of other people, drew Rikuto's attention. The students and teachers who had been lucky enough to escape this monster invasion had gathered together and barricaded. The door leading to the rooftop. Nishi began to explain the current situation. That's a barricade to stop the monster invasion. We built it with whatever we could find. Everyone was running for their lives from those, mysterious monsters. With nowhere else to go, we fled to the rooftop and put up this barricade as our last hope for survival. But there are still others left behind inside the school. They're begging to be let in from the other side, but Nishi trailed off, clutching his head. As the horrific scene replayed in his mind. Ignoring the desperate pleas for help the people here was forced to watch as other students were torn apart by a monster right before his eyes. Although he wanted to help, he had to accept this cruel reality. Damn it, I wanted to survive. That's why I didn't open the door for them. Now, I'm filled with guilt. He clenched his fist helplessly. After hearing everything, Rikuto spoke up to comfort him. It's not your fault. You know that, right? No one wants to die. It's horrible, it's pathetic. I'm the same way. I'll do anything for survival. Seeing Rikuto look at the monster's corpse on the ground, Nishi asked with curiosity, You killed it. That's incredible. I had completely broken down. I never thought something like this was possible. I was too, full of myself. Damn it, if I had more courage, I could have saved them. This time, Rikuto could only remain silent. Even he himself didn't know how he had managed to kill this monster. Just then, the gym teacher Oyama shouted loudly, Everyone gather around. First, we need to assess the current situation this afternoon. Strange monsters escaped from the phones, right? At that moment, the students remembered and checked their phones. They were all stunned to find that not a single phone had any battery left. As for Rikuto's, it was completely smashed. Seeing this, Oyama became furious because they couldn't call for help. Only Rikuto calmly analyzed the problem. But what does that even mean? The monsters escaped from the phones and now all the phones are broken. This means they were connected to the phones. Somehow. As he said this, Rikuto suddenly hesitated and looked at his own phone. None of them escaped from my phone because it was already broken. After Rikuto's analysis for someone with a brain full of muscle like Oyama, it was like water off a duck's back. He suddenly yelled, This isn't getting us anywhere, so let's just stay put. We'll wait for the police or the National Self-Defense Force to come rescue us. Do you all understand? Hearing this, the students could only lower their heads and silently obey. Only Rikuto stood up to object. Are you kidding, sir? They came from the phones. It's not just our school. This monster invasion has spread everywhere in the city. Nowadays, everyone uses a phone. It's not just in Japan. This is most likely a global situation, a true apocalypse. I don't think they can help us now. The other students, realizing the grim truth, started crying with their heads in their hands. These kids lacking basic survival skills could only panic. At this moment, Nishi understood what Rikuto was trying to say and spoke up. In other words, we need to find a safe place to hide instead of just waiting here. Right, Rikuto said that if we don't want to die, then that's the only way right now. Just then, Takeda clicked his tongue and stood up. Why is a pathetic loser like you acting all high and mighty, giving orders? He looked annoyed as he walked over, grabbed Rikuto by the collar and yelled, If I don't beat you, you won't get it, will you? Speak up, you loser. Rikuto said nothing, just staring at him with a lifeless gaze. What's with this guy spouting such nonsense at a time like this? The other students actually agreed with Takeda. They started bad-mouthing Rikuto. In their eyes, Rikuto was just a useless failure. Seeing the situation getting out of hand, Nishi tried to stop everyone. A fellow student named Kuzu Sakura also helped out. Hey everyone, should get along okay? But Rikuto's attitude only made Takeda's blood boil. Hey, open your mouth, are you so scared you've gone mute? Oh really? Rikuto still didn't care at all and continued to size him up, thinking he looked like a chihuahua compared to that monster. Finally he spoke up. Don't ask me something so trivial, it's so annoying. These words left every single one of them completely stunned. Until now, Rikuto had only ever silently taken the abuse, never daring to talk back like that. Because of this, Takeda flew into a rage and swung his fist, shouting, "You son of a bitch, who do you think you're talking to?" Nishi was about to rush in and stop him, but something unexpected happened. Rikuto not only caught Takeda's fist, but he also easily threw him to the ground. Witnessing this scene, everyone's jaw dropped in astonishment. After all, Takeda was a well-known bully in the school. Pinned to the ground, Takeda still refused to submit, struggling constantly and screaming, "Let go! Let go of my hand, damn it, you loser!" It seems he still hasn't grasped the current situation. At this moment, Rikuto sighed. This is ridiculous. Why was I ever afraid of this guy? Hearing that, a furious Takeda screamed, "What, you're dead meat, you're so dead!" But no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't get up. Suddenly, Rikuto's eyes turned dark. You are a cancer of society. Then he started to forcefully twist Takeda's arm. Just at that moment, Nishi rushed in and pulled Rikuto away. Rikuto's cold gaze sent a chill down Nishi's spine. Phew, he's insane. He was really going to break that guy's arm. Is this really the same person who was bullied before? The other students also felt scared of Rikuto and began to whisper amongst themselves. Did you see that he pinned Takeda down so easily? Just then, Takeda managed to sit up, clutching his arm. He blustered with threats. You bastard, I'll kill you to prevent things from going too far. Nishi stepped in front of him and shouted, We don't have time for this. Let's end it here. After Takeda left, Nishi turned to remind Rikuto as well. You should stop too, can't you just let it go? Rikuto remained as cold as ever, slowly walking forward, sure, instead of barking nonsense, figuring out our survival is more important. Takeda, though furious, could only tuck his tail and leave, not daring to cause any more trouble. Afterwards, Rikuto looked at the teacher and asked, So shall we continue our discussion? Tarier. Shall we, Mr. Oyama? Having witnessed what just happened, Oyama was a little intimidated and could only go along with the students. After the discussion, Nishi stood up to state the conclusion. So to sum it up, there's nothing useful up here and we have no idea when we might be rescued. In the worst-case scenario of this apocalypse, no one is coming at all. We need to find a safe base for our survival at all costs. We also need to find sources of food and water. At this point, Rikuto added that if possible, we should also find some weapons. Sakura raised her hand to ask, But how a safe base does such a place even exist? That was the same problem Nishi was struggling with. Suddenly, Rikuto spoke up. I think we need to see what it's like inside the school. We can't make a move if we don't know where to go. The moment he finished, Saito Shinjiro stood up to object. I object, it's too dangerous. We could run into a monster or even a zombie down there, you know? We should just sit tight and wait for rescue. He looked toward the teacher, hoping for support, but Oyama agreed with Rikuto's idea. What Rikuto said seems reasonable. We should move quickly. At the very least, we need to check the hallways. Upon hearing about confronting a monster from the invasion, the students trembled in fear. Are you kidding, sir? Who would willingly walk into a monster's den in this dangerous situation? In this dangerous situation, no one wanted to be the one to risk their life. Just then, Oyama yelled out, Rikuto! And you! Takeda, the two of you will go. Go check and see what's inside. Hearing this, Rikuto remained silent, but Takeda had a strong reaction. Why me? At a time like this, the teacher should be setting an example, right? Oyama used the excuse that he needed to stay and protect everyone to get out of it. The female students seeing this also agreed with him. That's right, you two go on. Are you men or not? Just then, the sound of clashing metal suddenly echoed nearby, drawing everyone's attention while everyone was arguing. Rikuto had already picked up the iron bar he used to kill the monster and was approaching the door. Seeing this, Takeda's voice. Daiyum trembled as he asked, Hey, damn it, are you serious? Rikuto immediately replied, What do you mean not serious? The longer we stay here, the worse things we'll get. We either starve to death or become a meal for some monster. In other words, in this apocalypse, death is inevitable. I don't want to die. I want to live. For our survival in this situation, there's no other choice but to go outside. After he finished, Nishi smiled, then slung his bag over his shoulder. Since you've said that you must have your own convictions, I'll go with you. In the end, Someone's got to make it out alive for this to be a true survival story. Seeing Nishi preparing to leave, Oyama quickly tried to stop him. Nishi, wait, if something happens to you, how can I possibly take responsibility for that? The female students also started trying to persuade him. Nishi, don't do it, it's not safe, it's too dangerous. In Nishi's eyes, these people were just a bunch of hypocrites. Just a moment ago, they didn't hesitate to push someone else into danger. But now they're trying to stop him. In the end, it's all just because of his reputation as a national archery athlete. At this moment, Rikuto suddenly pointed at Takeda and said, honestly, I'm so glad you're coming along, Chihuahua. The poor guy didn't seem to want to go at all. Seeing Takeda's trembling form, Nishi couldn't help but laugh out loud. He really does look like a little chihuahua. Before they set off, Rikuto suddenly asked again, but are you sure about this? Honestly, it's dangerous. The chances of dying are extremely high. Nishi replied with a determined look in his eyes. I'm just like you. I don't want to die. I have a reason I can't die. I can't die in a place like this. Just like that, the two of them started to bond, laughing and talking together. It was at that moment Nishi suddenly realized he didn't even know the name of his new partner. Dropping his cold demeanor, Rikuto smiled and introduced himself. From that moment on, the two of them became trustworthy partners in this fight for survival. After clearing away the pile of junk blocking the door, the two stared straight into the dark staircase ahead, their eyes filled with determination. Okay, let's go. Time to find life in the jaws of death. The entire school was now plunged into darkness. The aftermath of the monster invasion was clear as the corpses of students and teachers were scattered everywhere. Witnessing this scene, Nishi felt a bit tense, as if he was trapped in a nightmare. Rikuto, walking beside him, carefully reminded him, this is the real world. You need to be constantly on your guard. After walking for a while, Nishi wondered, where have all the monsters gone? I'm not complaining or anything, but this all ended so quickly, it's a little disappointing. After observing for a moment, Rikuto guessed that the monsters had already left the school and headed down into town. When Nishi asked for his reasoning, Rikuto explained, it's because the school has been completely wiped clean. I'm guessing there wasn't enough prey left here for them, so they've gone looking for another hunting ground. Hearing this, Nishi got the chills. That could be it, but that sounds truly awful. But that wasn't the full extent of Rikuto's theory. He was thinking of an even worse possibility. Something akin to a zombie horde moving on. Just then, Nishi cut him off in a hushed voice. Hold on, stop! Rikuto. Rikuto immediately understood and began making hand signals, then carefully approached the wall. After observing, they both spotted a monster wandering nearby. Nishi hesitated slightly and whispered to Rikuto, have you taken down one of those monsters before? After Rikuto confirmed that the two of them could handle this monster, Nishi immediately pulled a bow and arrow set from his bag. Just as you'd expect from a national athlete, his survival gear was top-notch. After getting ready, Nishi aimed directly at the monster and fired the first arrow. But because it was too dark, the arrow didn't strike its head. Instead, it pierced the monster's chest. Unlike a human, this wound barely seemed to affect the creature during this apocalyptic invasion. The monster's movements were hardly hindered at all. It immediately pinpointed Nishi's location and lunged forward without a moment's hesitation. Nishi, caught completely off guard, was still fumbling for another arrow and stood frozen, ready to take the hit. Fortunately, Rikuto intervened just in time, knocking the monster back towards a window. The creature was sent flying and seemed dazed, unable to react before it was smashed in the head by Rikuto. After taking down the monster, a panting Rikuto asked if any others were nearby. Nishi replied that he had been watching carefully and saw no others approaching, which put Rikuto somewhat at ease. But deep down, Rikuto was extremely worried because of what he'd seen on the roof. This was just one type of monster, but compared to the other one, a human would be nothing at all. Afterward, Nishi carefully examined the monster's corpse. But what in the world are these things anyway? No matter how you look at them, they seem just like low-level monsters from a video game, don't they? This one looks like a goblin, or something like that. Rikuto considered this seriously. You're right, I remember the other monsters also looked like creatures. I've seen before. After that close call, Nishi was so scared his hands were shaking uncontrollably. If this were a game, one hit and they'd be dead. But in this reality, our very survival depends on fighting with our lives on the line. Rikuto replied while wiping blood from his iron pipe. That's right. We don't have levels, skills, or any magic to cheese our way through this apocalypse. We're just ordinary people. But after witnessing that fight, Nishi didn't think so. But you're different, Rikuto. You're no... Okay, amateur, are you? Have you trained with weapons before, or did someone teach you? Hearing that, Rikuto recalled his past the time, and he practiced kendo with his wretched older brother. It was a painful memory. Rikuto replied somberly, not exactly. This answer greatly surprised Nishi. He wondered how Rikuto, who moved with such agility and struck so decisively, could have been bullied by that group for so long. Rikuto himself didn't know why, and he didn't much care either. After chatting to calm their nerves, the two started moving again. They passed several classrooms and found the area eerily quiet. Nishi figured, and that the monster they just fought was the only one on the 6th floor. Rikuto quickly pointed out that since this floor was mostly gyms, and it wouldn't have been crowded, but the lower floors will probably have a few more. Nishi's mood, which had just begun to relax immediately, became tense again. From this point on, their struggle for survival would only get more difficult. Before heading downstairs, Rikuto suddenly spoke up. I just want to make one thing clear. Our objective is to understand the situation. Nishi immediately reiterated the plan. I get it. Figure out what this monster invasion force is, how many creatures there are, and how to escape. If we can't get that information, we don't make a move. Rikuto added, we have to ensure our survival and make it back with the others. Essential information is paramount for our survival. So if the situation dictates I have to run, I won't hesitate to abandon you. And you should do the same, understand? The two just stared at each other, the atmosphere incredibly tense, when suddenly, Nishi clapped Rikuto on the shoulder and said with a laugh, all right, deal. We're in a very dangerous situation, so no hard feelings. Okay. The atmosphere instantly eased up. Rikuto was ready to head downstairs, but Nishi suddenly called out to him. He asked, but hey, how do I put this? You act all tough, but from what I've seen, you're the type of person who... A blood-curdling scream for help echoed from the floor below. Without a second of hesitation, Rikuto bolted towards the sound, completely ignoring what Nishi was in the middle of saying. He didn't even listen, huh? Just as I thought. You're exactly the type. Abandon me, he says when you're the one most hesitant. But to abandon others. Seriously, you're going to need someone to look after you. Disregarding the danger, Nishi immediately chased after him. At that moment, a colossal blood-red monster wielding a massive mace was scouring every corner of the lower floor's changing room. Tachibana Kotone was hiding in a locker, clamping both hands over her mouth, desperately trying not to make a single sound. Because of the horrific scene outside, all the male students had been torn to shreds, leaving only the female students to be defiled by a horde of goblins from this sudden invasion. Witnessing this, Kotone couldn't stop the tears from streaming down her face as her entire body trembled. I have to help Misaki, but if I go out there... Wait, what will happen to me? While she hesitated, Misaki was being mercilessly tormented. Even though she tried to block her ears, the horrifying sounds still wormed their way into her mind. Powerless, Kotone could only clutch her head and endlessly, apologize to herself. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't do anything. I'm sorry I ran away. At that moment, memories from her past, flashed through Kotone's mind. She remembered seeing Rikuto being bullied and wanting to step in to stop it, and she had decided to stay silent out of fear. Her classmates then pulled her back to class, leaving Rikuto alone on the ground. At some point, Kotone had passed out in the locker. By the time she woke up, the screams had ceased, replaced by strange, incessant noises. Bewildered and unsure of what was happening outside, Kotone accidentally dropped her phone. Immediately, the sound stopped, scaring her to the point of tears. The noise, it stopped. I can't hear anything at all. Maybe they didn't hear me. After a long moment of silence, Kotone finally dared to breathe a sigh of relief. Right at that moment, the locker door was flung open by two goblins. Behind them lay the countless corpses of female students, a gruesome scene straight out of an apocalypse. Now Kotone was so terrified her legs gave out, with no strength left to even try to run. A goblin grabbed her by the hair, dragged her out, and began its assault. Terrified, Kotone screamed out loud, praying endlessly, "Please, someone please save me, please, please, please." She squeezed her eyes shut in utter desperation. Suddenly, some kind of liquid splattered everywhere. The goblin on top of her went eerily silent. Kotone slowly opened her eyes to find that the goblin on top of her had been killed by a red monster. The moment they saw the red monster, the other goblins immediately surrounded it, but their meager numbers were no match for its absolute power. With just a few swings of its mace, the entire pack of goblins, which had swarmed like a zombie horde, was decapitated. Kotone took advantage of the chaos, crawling toward a corner of the room, hoping to survive. But after dealing with the goblins, the red monster immediately fixed its gaze on her. Kotoni was filled with despair. Kapo and prayed for a miracle. Meanwhile, Rikuto and Nishi were still frantically searching for the source of the scream, letting out a scream. Back with the red monster, it didn't harm Tono, but instead captured her and the pack of goblins, dragging them off somewhere. Held in the giant monster's hand, a desperate Tono begged, "Please, sir, spare me, please let me go." But the monster paid no attention, simply slamming Tono against a wall until she passed out and continuing on its way. Rikuto and Nishi had already spotted the monster, silently observing from behind, witnessing the colossal form of the red monster. Nishi was so scared he was speechless. What the hell is this thing against a monster like that? Will my bow even be effective? Suddenly Rikuto spoke up. That unsettling prediction was right. When we were scouting the upper floor, it was strange how few monsters there were. Right, that's the reason why. Hearing this, Nishi immediately understood the implications of this invasion. In other words, they're being eliminated by something more powerful on the food chain. This is the territory of an extremely powerful monster. This isn't something we can handle. But what should we do? At this rate, that girl. Nishi was struggling with what to do, when Rikuto suddenly stood up. When Nishi stopped him and asked, "What do you think you're doing?" Rikuto, without a moment's hesitation, replied, "What do you mean I'm going to save her? Of course. She's still alive." Hearing that, Nishi hurriedly tried to talk Rikuto out of it. "Do you want to die? No matter how you look at it, that's not something a human can defeat. Even an idiot knows that. So why, for some sense of justice or self-satisfaction, are you going to bet your survival on something like this?" Rikuto replied, "Nishi, earlier today you asked me, are you already dead? Just like you said I was. I was like a zombie. I wanted to die. I was planning to put an end to this damn apocalypse game. But when I faced the fear of imminent death from the bottom of my heart, I felt that I wanted to live. So I'm not going to seek death again. I'm going to save her just because I want to. Maybe that's the only way to prove that I'm still alive." After hearing this, Nishi gritted his teeth in frustration. "Damn it, you're really sick in the head dying because you recklessly confronted. That thing is what you call a reason to live." Rikuto paid him no mind and kept walking towards the monster. "Nishi, go back. You don't need to come with me anymore. This is my problem." At that moment, the words of his damn older brother echoed in Rikuto's mind. "No family, no friends. No one is on your side, not a single person. Simply put, you're already dead. So act like you're dead, you got it, you worthless piece of trash." But those words could no longer shake Rikuto's resolve anymore. "Brother no Serato, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to die now. Even if it kills me." He just kept moving forward, determined to rescue his classmate from the monster. Suddenly, Nishi rushed over, grabbed his shoulder and said, "Wait a second. Listen, Rikuto, I have a younger sister. We're not related by blood and we go to different schools. That's why I can't die here. If I die, she'll be all alone. But if I turn my back on that girl and run, and if, later, I see her in a situation like this, will I be able to save her? Will I be able to fight to protect my sister? Or what if I just make an excuse and run away again? That terrifies me. So Rikuto, we'll do this together. The two of us will save that girl. You and I will do something stupid together for our own selfish reasons. You in?" After hearing that, Rikuto burst out laughing. "Nishi, it looks like you're just as sick in the head as I am. These two guys are definitely crazy together." After deciding to team up, they both stopped to make a plan, even though they had already said they would join in no matter what. They might die, but Nishi still couldn't think of a plan. The problem was, what were they supposed to do now? A direct confrontation against that monster was nothing short of a suicide mission. With Nishi's help, Rikuto finally revealed his plan for survival. Meanwhile, in a nearby classroom, Ms. Tan awoke from a daze. She glanced around and discovered she was tied up to a wooden post surrounded by other goblins from the monster invasion who were bound in the same way. It turned out the red monster was keeping its prey alive and fresh, planning to roast it over a large fire and savor the meal. Realizing she was about to be cooked, Ms. Tan screamed once more. Hearing her cry, Rikuto and Nishi immediately raced toward the sound. After Nishi heard Rikuto's plan, she was certain her friend had gone completely insane, but she decided to follow it anyway, which probably made her even crazier. Back with Ms. Tan, her screams had turned into relentless sobbing. "I'm going to be burned alive and then it's going to eat me. No, this can't be happening. I don't want to die." Just then the monster finished its meal and wanted to enjoy its next dish. It slowly advanced on Ms. Tan, then ripped the wooden post from the ground and carried it toward the fire. Suddenly it stopped, distracted by a noise from the door. The person who made the sound was none other than Rikuto. Seeing the boy who was often bullied, Ms. Tan was utterly shocked. No, it can't be! Rikuto facing the apocalypse monster. Rikuto was completely calm as he spoke. He told Ms. Tan to shut her eyes tight. The moment the monster saw a living person, it immediately tossed the wooden post aside and grabbed its mace, charging straight for the door. Rikuto didn't panic at all. Everything was part of his plan. He reached for the fire extinguisher beside him and sprayed it directly into the monster's eyes. While the monster was blinded, Rikuto quickly ran towards Ms. Tan with a box cutter in his hand. Skipping any pleasantries, Rikuto frantically tried to cut the ropes, but with such a small knife, he couldn't do a thing. The situation was dire. The idea of carrying her out while she was still tied to the post was not feasible in the slightest. With no other choice, Rikuto gripped an iron bar and slammed it on the ground 3 times, initiating Plan B. Receiving the signal, Nishi immediately understood and began executing Rikuto's insane plan. She gripped an arrow tightly in her hand, shouting as she ran, "Damn it, I'm not confident at all, but I'll give it my best shot. If this fails, don't you dare blame me." Back with Rikuto after regaining its sight, the monster closed in on him and let out a massive roar. The sound alone was enough to showcase the terrifying power of this monster. All the surrounding glass windows were shattered into tiny pieces. Though Rikuto was trembling with fear, he still gripped the iron bar tightly, stood before the monster, and assumed a defensive stance. Seeing its prey stand its ground, the monster furiously swung its mace. At that moment, Rikuto was intensely focused, not daring to even blink. A split-second delay in his reaction would mean certain death. His only path to survival now was through a single precise action. At the very moment the monster swung its mace, Rikuto skillfully used a sword-lowering technique to alter the trajectory of the attack. He successfully saved his life by a razor's edge. Unlike the frenzied monster that only knew how to attack, Rikuto calmly observed his foe and countered bit by bit. Instead of trying to block the attack, if you redirect the force with your own strike, it will cause its blow to miss the target without expending much energy while simultaneously converting it into a counterattack. This is a technique from Kendo. Dad, I still haven't forgotten the skills you taught me. Thank you, Dad. After that thought, Rikuto focused with extreme intensity. He kept parrying and launching counterattacks. After all, this was just a mindless monster from the invasion. It had no technique whatsoever. All it could do was leverage its superior strength and swing its weapon wildly. Its attacks were nothing more than simple, monotonous swings with no feints. After several successful counters, Rikuto landed a solid blow to the monster's head, causing it to clutch its skull in pain. Witnessing this insane spectacle, Kotan stood with her jaw agape in utter disbelief. It was incredible. He perfectly parried the attack of that monster. Rikuto was truly astonishing, but it looked like he was struggling. Even though Rikuto was managing to block the barrage of attacks, the impact was taking a severe toll on his body. His body couldn't maintain this fight for survival much longer. The strength in his grip was fading, and worse, the monster's head was as hard as rock. It was only reacting on instinct to the unexpected blows. Facing it head-on in this apocalypse seemed utterly impossible. After thinking it through, Rikuto ran towards the door and shouted, "Hey, you monster, over here!" Despite being taunted, the monster still didn't forget its original prey, Kotan. Hoisting the pillar, it began to frantically chase Rikuto, and everything in its path was smashed to pieces by the monster. If even one of those blows connected, it would be all over for Rikuto instantly. Seeing him risk his life for her sake, Kotan was suddenly struck by a childhood memory. That's right, he was always the one to risk everything for the sake of others. But unconsciously, tears began to stream down her cheeks. She was filled with immense regret for having ignored him when he was being bullied. Meanwhile, Nishi was on the opposite side, getting into position according to their plan. Even while being chased by that horrifying monster, he was still able to dodge its attacks. The guy's a beast, but he's at his absolute limit. Come on, Rikuto, if you can just lure it another 10 meters. This is a straight corridor with no way to turn left or right. It can only move straight ahead. This is where I end this. Failure is not an option. Back with Rikuto, his exhaustion finally caught up to him, and the monster closed the distance. Unable to dodge, he turned to parry the attack one more time, but his body had already reached its limit. He could barely even grip the iron pipe anymore. In a single moment of weakness, he was struck by the monster's attack and sent flying. Seeing the situation take a terrible turn, Nishi became incredibly anxious. Just then he remembered Rikuto's instructions from before. Listen, Nishi, you have to aim for that one specific point. You only get one chance. You absolutely cannot fire until you are certain you will hit the mark. If you miss, it's all over. I'll die, and you will too. With the current situation, Nishi couldn't guarantee a direct hit. There were 3 conditions for a bullseye. The target is unaware of your presence, the distance, and the angle. He couldn't move any closer. If only he could get nearer and secure a better angle, Nishi would be confident he could hit the target, but in this situation he had no other choice. Just as Nishi was about to take the shot, Rikuto suddenly screamed, "Don't shoot! You have to wait until it's a few meters closer. I know what I'm doing. Just wait!" With his battered body, Rikuto still struggled to lure the monster even closer. His legs felt like jelly now. A few more meters felt like an infinite distance. Seeing its prey refuse to give up the fight, the monster let out an enraged roar that shook the entire building violently. Despite being terrified, out of her mind, Kotan managed to scream, "You've done enough! Run, Rikuto, it's going to kill you! Stop worrying about me!" But Rikuto still refused to give up, filling her with overwhelming guilt. "Rikuto, why I'm not worth saving? Not after how I've treated you all this time. I could only abandon you." You don't know, but on that day, Tan had gathered all her courage to stop Rikuto from being bullied. But once again she was stopped by that guy Saito, who said, "Tan, you can't just interfere in things like this without telling me. What would I do if you got hurt? You just need to listen to me and behave. Understand?" And just like that, Tan was once again a coward, only able to stand by and watch Rikuto get bullied. But now she refused to be a coward, any more determined to save Rikuto's life no matter what. As the monster lunged forward in this desperate fight for survival, Tun used her mouth to bite down hard on its hand, taking it by surprise. The creature lost its balance, creating an opportunity for Rikuto to readjust and block the attack, even though he was sent flying far away. But Rikuto smiled knowingly. Just as he planned, the monster no longer cared about Tan and focused solely on chasing him with a single-mindedness akin to a zombie. When the beast entered the perfect range, Rikuto lay still on the ground, not moving at all. "I've closed the distance for you, Nishi." By the time the monster noticed Nishi's presence, it was already too late. At this range, her arrow would never miss its mark. Seizing the perfect moment, Nishi fired the arrow, with the syringe attached straight into the monster's eye, causing it to fall back in agony. About 10 minutes earlier, Rikuto was face to face, full with Nishi in the hallway. Holding the syringe in his hand, he made the proposal, "Use this, Nishi." Instantly, Nishi was stunned, realizing it was the item that the girl Sakura had given them before they started exploring the building, a remnant from before the apocalypse. "That's right." Without hesitation, Rikuto confirmed, "That's right." Then in a flash, he firmly declared, "This is tabor ethanol used in chemistry experiments, 100% pure alcohol." Recalling just a moment ago when Sakura had told Rikuto, "Take this, it'll be useful," Nishi was momentarily suspicious. That girl, why would she be carrying something like this during this invasion? Instantly, Rikuto's voice grew stern as he proposed, "We'll attach it to your arrow and shoot it straight into that monster." But Nishi was skeptical and pressed him, "Will that even work?" Without a moment's hesitation, Rikuto replied, "It will work." He then began to explain in a serious tone, "Alcohol is fundamentally a poison. A deadly one. There's almost no living creature that can't get intoxicated." Rikuto spoke with absolute conviction. For humans, drinking a little 80-proof tequila, just a few milliliters injected directly into the bloodstream, would quickly make them unable to stand. Indeed. For that very reason, he stated with unwavering certainty, with this 100% pure stuff, even that monster would. But before Rikuto could finish, Nishi cut him off. "That's just a theory on paper," she momentarily emphasizing, "Even a child can see that a thin needle like this won't be able to penetrate its skin." Hearing this, Rikuto once again insisted, "That's why, Nishi, you should only aim for one single point, its eye." "Aim for its eye," Rikuto added decisively. "You can definitely pierce through the eye." Hearing this, Nishi was still a bit confused and questioned, "But how can you be sure the monster's eye is a weak point?" In response, Rikuto immediately declared frankly, "Of course I'm going to confirm it with this." Seeing the object in his hand, Nishi asked, "Taro, a fire extinguisher." In an instant, Rikuto revealed his plan, "I'm going to spray this in the monster's face. If it moves to cover its eyes, then we can confirm its eyes aren't any tougher than ours." After saying this, he gave a momentary smug look. The panicked face of Nishi continued with a simple plan, right? Rikuto instantly he smiled confidently and said, "I'll lure it out. You handle it for a moment." The scene shifts outside the building where Nishi is face to face with the gigantic monster. At this moment, he carries the intense hope of Rikuto. "So I'm counting on you." Looking at the monster in front of him, Nishi smugly clicked his tongue and thought, "Damn it, Rikuto, you idiot. recalling what had just happened, feeling a surge of pride. He silently reminded himself that Rikuto's signal was 3 times. In other words, its eyes were the weak point. Immediately, he aimed his arrow straight at it. The monster's eyes looked at the target in front of him, and he couldn't help but chuckle. A simple plan. You say it's easy. Very quickly, the confidence was evident on Nishi's face. He declared, "As for me, I'm aiming precisely at 10 points. At that moment, the monster felt immense pain and frowned, gripping the arrow tightly. Witnessing such a scene, Rikuto felt a surge of pride. He kept asking, "How does it look?" From a distance, Koto gasped in disbelief. Meanwhile, at the same time, due to the intense pain, the monster tried to snap the arrow off its eye, blood flowing down as it let out a painful roar. Then in an instant, it collapsed to the ground. Seeing this, Rikuto silently speculated that it seemed like the effect was working. However, contrary to his thoughts, the monster suddenly surged up, wielding its weapon, charging straight towards Rikuto. Luckily, he managed to dodge the attack, narrowly escaping death. Seeing this, Nishi rushed over from it. He was lucky to dodge the attack and escape death by a hair's breadth. Seeing this, Nishi took the opportunity. This could be a deadly poison, but it couldn't kill it immediately. Then the monster suddenly struck easily, smashing through the wall beside it. In an instant, it regained its composure and staggered towards Rikuto. That could be a deadly poison, but it can't kill it instantly. Then the monster, in a split second, suddenly the monster accelerated and charged rapidly towards him. Rikuto was momentarily panicked, shouting loudly. He immediately hugged the lower body of the monster tightly, causing it to lose its balance and fall backward. Seeing this, Rikuto took the opportunity to push the monster towards the wall. At this moment, the monster was on the brink of life and death. Rikuto looked at it and resolutely told himself, "Just a little more." But at that moment, behind Rikuto, seized the chance to push the monster towards the wall. At this moment, the monster was close at hand. The monster suddenly regained its composure and raised its weapon high, aiming directly at Rikuto under his utterly astonished gaze. Luckily, at that moment, Nishi had rushed over just in time, shouting loudly. The monster suddenly regained its composure and swung its weapon directly at Rikuto right before the eyes of everyone. In an instant, the two of them easily pushed the monster, causing it to crash through the wall. The monster fell down from a high floor, and Rikuto lost his balance and was swept along with it with no way to escape. Suddenly, the monster writhed in pain. In an instant, the two of them easily pushed the monster through the wall, and just like that, the monster screaming loudly as its body hit the ground. At this moment, Rikuto was panting heavily, having narrowly escaped. Nishi, still behind, hadn't recovered yet, exclaiming, "We just..." Rikuto was also cried out in pain as its body hit the ground. At that moment, Rikuto was panting heavily and had just managed to exhausted, nodding, Yeah. The monster at this moment was dead, a tragic sight. From a distance, Koto unexpectedly rushed over, catch his breath. The monster was now dead in a tragic manner. From a distance, Koto unexpectedly rushed over. Breathing a sigh of relief, tears welling in her eyes, the two thanked the heavens. Suddenly, Rikuto called out loudly, "Hey, Nishi!" Without a moment's hesitation, Nishi replied, hesitating. Nishi immediately responded, "What are you talking about? Are you crazy? Are you really that foolish?" But he replied, "What?" Immediately, Rikuto bluntly scolded, "You're really crazy? Are you stupid or what?" But in response, Nishi showed no hesitation and continued, "You have no right to say that, you idiot." Then, as if remembering what Nishi pressed, "On that note, weren't you worried at all? What if I had missed the shot?" Without hesitation, Rikuto stated firmly, "You missed the #1 champion of the national tournament." Really, hearing this, Nishi was left speechless. Powerless, he fell silent. After a moment, he let out a weary laugh. "You're absolutely insane." And just like that, the two of them very quickly untied Koton. Looking at the rope before him, Nishi breathed a sigh of relief, clearly pleased. "All right, it's finally broken." He immediately reached out a hand to comfort Koton. "You must have been so scared. It's okay now, you're safe. Can you stand?" But before his words, Koton completely ignored him and rushed right past Nishi, leaving him momentarily stunned. She instantly threw her arms around Rikuto, excitedly crying out, "Rikuto-kun." Without any hesitation, Koton pressed her face into Rikuto's chest to express her gratitude. "Thank you, Rikuto. You really saved me." Witnessing this scene, Nishi suddenly looked as if he'd realized something. His mouth hung open. He immediately started teasing him relentlessly. "What is all this, Rikuto, you sly monkey? So that's how it is, isn't it?" After saying that, Nishi let out a knowing snort. "You really have to risk your life for your girlfriend, huh?" Hearing this, Koton was instantly startled, exclaiming, "Huh, girlfriend?" Nishi continued to tease her with a smirk. "I never figured you'd have such a pretty girlfriend." Pretty smooth, huh? But Koton flustered answered, "You're mistaken. It's not like that between me and Rikuto." Then Rikuto, Kima, who was standing to the side, couldn't hold back any longer and spoke up. "Can I ask a question?" he asked, jumping straight to the point. "Pardon me, but who are you?" His question immediately made the other two freeze up in awkward embarrassment. Nishi, standing to the side, stammered awkwardly, "Hey, wait a second, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?" But Rikuto was adamant, insisting, "No, I really don't know her." Seeing the situation deteriorating, Koton quickly interjected in embarrassment, "I understand. It's okay. It makes sense that you've forgotten. It was a very long time ago after all." Saying this, she quickly regained her composure and introduced herself with a bright smile. "Koton, my name is, Tachibana Koton. We were in elementary school together." Koton blushed slightly as she reminisced. "We were pretty close back then. Don't you remember we called each other Riku-chan and Koto-chan?" At these words, something seemed to awaken in Rikuto's memory. He whispered her name, Koto-chan. His eyes widened as if he had just remembered something. Rikuto was then flooded with the painful memories. Of that day, there was someone I could never forgive, and a girl I wanted to protect. Rikuto instantly remembered. The day he had rushed to Koton's side determined. It was a fight he could not lose, a day spent grappling with his adversary. Until he was completely exhausted. Rikuto lay panting on the ground, his body covered in bruises. His opponent, in turn, saw this and glared at him in a rage. But that was also the beginning of the end. The crowd around them suddenly started to gossip, buzzing restlessly. "Did you hear? They said there was a car accident?" "That's right, it seems like the brakes failed." Rikuto at this moment was completely breaking down under a torrential downpour. Thinking of that white-haired boy, he angrily muttered to himself, "Missing. Ikon, a part of him. Unbelievable." And that Serato, with his childlike innocence masking a cruel and wicked intelligence that rivaled any monster, had taken everything from him. He thought with a broken heart. Somehow Serato had completely crushed Rikuto's spirit. He was in agony, thinking, that his inner self had died. Back in the present reality of this zombie apocalypse, Rikuto fell into a deep silence. He was suddenly overcome with nausea and hurriedly clamped a hand over his mouth as a series of retching sounds escaped. Watching the scene unfold before them, the other two were instantly concerned. Was stunned and blurted out what Rikuto. Kotoni asked in shock as Rikuto panted on the ground. "Rikuto, what's wrong with you? What happened?" Without hesitation, he forced a smile, waved his hand and replied, "I'm fine. Nothing's wrong." But from a distance, Nishi seemed to realize something, silently guessing that in this apocalypse, it's clear something is wrong with him. Then in an instant, Rikuto stood up and spoke, "I remember now, I understand. So it was you, Tachibana? I never expected that we went to the same high school." But in response, Kotoni became flustered and hesitated. "I'm sorry, Rikuto," she said apologetically. "I meant to contact you sooner, but..." Before she could finish her sentence, Rikuto immediately cut her off. "No, it's fine." Then he sadly added, "Your decision was the right one. Befriending someone who gets bullied brings nothing good at all." Hearing this, Kotoni felt helpless and lowered her head. Seeing the situation getting awkward, Nishi stepped in to cut them off. "The sun is setting. We can't lead you back to the others. Sorry, but you can come with us." "Us," he immediately added in a low voice. "I know you were terrified by that monster back there, but you know..." Hesitation. Kotoni replied confidently. "I know," she decisively agreed. "I'll go with you all." Right after that, they made their way around the school. Everyone was exhausted and panting. They respectfully bowed to the unfortunate victims of the zombie invasion who didn't make it, or directly captured small monster types with interesting attributes. As they walked, Rikuto thought with a serious expression, "There are almost no signs of any monster in the building, or maybe that brain creature was the area boss." He tensed up thinking, but now that the boss is dead, the monster horde might return. Our survival depends on not being careless. Very quickly, the three of them moved to a certain room. There. Nishi breathed a sigh of relief. This should be okay. Quickly, a series of doors were secured. "We've locked the emergency exit by the stairs to floor 1, closed the gate leading to the second floor, and returned to the rooftop where the other survivors were waiting." Seeing the familiar silhouettes of the three of them in the distance, the group was startled for a moment. Then they were instantly filled with amazement and cheered endlessly. "They're back! Nishi's patrol team has returned." From the distance, Oyama rushed over, exclaiming, "That's Nishi for you. I always believed in you, my boy teacher." Nishi could only stare blankly at Mr. Oyama's face. "That damn old geezer!" Suddenly an unexpected voice cried out. "Kotone!" Saito suddenly appeared and pulled her into a tight hug. Startling Kotone for a moment, he immediately beamed with joy. "Thank heavens you're alive. I'm so happy, Kotone." But in response, Kotone was flustered and stammered, Let go of me, Saito." He then looked to Rikuto for help with an embarrassed expression. Seeing this, Nishi could only scratch his head, feeling helpless. "Oh man, this situation is complicated." Nishi then asked, "Is he an acquaintance of yours, Tachibana?" At this question, Kotone became flustered. Without any hesitation, Saito firmly declared, "I am Saito Shin, Jiro, and right now she and I are a couple." Quickly, Sakura came closer and remarked, "So he's your boyfriend, huh?" Nishi was a little surprised and quietly called out. Sakura Kotone also felt helpless and stammered, well, about us dating?" Immediately, Saito laughed loudly and waved his hand. "There's nothing to be embarrassed about, Kotone. After all, the relationship between the two of us has already been approved by both of our parents." He boasted endlessly. "That time you got lost, but I'm so glad. We all made it through this for our survival. Nishi-kun, thank you for saving Koton." Without a moment's hesitation, he bluntly said, "If you want to thank someone, you should thank Rikuto," and then he shot a look at Rikuto. He signaled that Rikuto was the one who had rescued Tachibana all by himself. Hearing this, Sakura couldn't hide her surprise and immediately blushed. Really?" In an instant, the crowd around them began to buzz with whispers, "That pathetic Kogan guy. Seriously." But Nishi was the one who said it. "It's true he defeated Takeda so easily? Is he really the same person?" Hearing this, Saito could only give a helpless wry smile and ask, "It's Kuren-kun, isn't it?" He let out a brief jesting laugh. "To think you were so brave and strong. Allow me to thank you once again. It seems Koton has caused you quite a bit of trouble," Rikuto simply replied. "Not really," but before he could finish his sentence, Saito cut him off. "But everything's fine now. From now on, I'll be the one to protect her. I will be grateful if everyone would entrust Koton to my care." Left with no choice, Rikuto could only agree. "I understand." Saito began to forcefully pull Koton away. "That's right, come on Koton, you must be exhausted." This made Koton visibly uncomfortable and she pleaded for help. "Rikuto-kun, why?" But in response, both Nishi and Rikuto could only stare blankly. Standing to the side, Sakura couldn't help but wonder, is he really her boyfriend? But before Sakura could ponder for long, Nishi immediately spoke up. "Hey Sakura, that thing you gave us before really saved our skins, didn't it?" "Right, Rikuto." Hearing this, she couldn't help but light up. "Really, that's amazing." In an instant, Sakura put on a scholarly air and began to lecture. "That monster horde looked completely unreal, didn't it? But you see, from the perspective of biological structure and the theory of evolution, their composition isn't all that different, you know. Take the shape of their skeletons, for example, and the relative positions of their respiratory and circulatory systems, plus the muscular system too. That's how I figured out that alcohol would be effective." See, hearing her go on, Nishi could only sweat drop as he wondered, "By the way, how did you even get your hands on something like that, Sakura?" At his question, Sakura hesitated and gave a forced laugh. "Well, about that." But just at that moment, Oyama from afar suddenly shouted, "Nishi." The teacher didn't hesitate to press him. "What's it like down there? Can you explain the situation?" Nishi immediately agreed. "Yes, Mr. Oyama." With that, Nishi stood grim-faced before the group and began his report. To be frank, the situation isn't looking good. His expression turned grim and somber. "Other than Tachibana, we couldn't find anyone else alive. Aside from that, the situation is dire. A real apocalypse down there." This news instantly caused the nearby students' faces to drain of all color in sheer terror, but in the next moment, Nishi proactively spoke up to reassure them. "However, we managed to lower more of the fire shutters, so for now the floors below us should be secure," he added in a somber tone. "There are a few rooms we can use to sleep in, and while there isn't much left, with the food in the canteen, our survival is guaranteed for a little while longer." Hearing this, Oyama couldn't help but feel overjoyed and praised him. "Excellent. I knew we could count on you, Nishi." With that, the teacher immediately raised his voice to give an order. "All right, everyone, spread out and gather supplies. We're going to set up a secure base to survive this zombie invasion. I will take command. Let's go. Let's work together to ensure our survival, understand?" But in response to Oyama, the students just kept whispering amongst themselves. "What is that old man Oyama even scolding us for?" The moment he knew we were safe, we began to establish a new base. And so dawn broke once again behind the school as the students diligently carried out their assigned tasks. Everyone was bustling with their own duties. They worked frantically, ignoring their exhaustion and the ongoing apocalypse. Meanwhile, Sakura was busy taking relief supplies out of her backpack. Nishi, on the other hand, stood off to the side, lost in thought and silent. Suddenly, a heavy thud echoed as Rikuto laboriously dragged a heavy bag filled with the bodies of his former friends. Unexpectedly from a distance, Ms. Tan's voice suddenly called out, startling Rikuto and making his eyes widen. "Mr. Oyama is so terrible." She continued to scold, saying he made Rikuto carry that whole pile of corpses by himself. But in response, Rikuto calmly replied, "Someone has to do this job. We need to move them far away from the base before they start to rot." Hearing this, Ms. Tan immediately asked, Once you've gathered them all, what do you plan to do?" In response to her question, Rikuto answered frankly, "With the current situation, it'll be too difficult to bury them. For now, I'm going to haul them up and put them on the roof. There's no other choice but to let them fall from there." Hearing this, Ms. Tan could only nod in agreement, lowering her head. "You're right." Suddenly, Rikuto's expression turned serious as he remarked, "It's strange, isn't it?" This made Ms. Tan a bit confused, and she let out a small, He continued in a somber tone, "He was the one who always bullied me in class." Rikuto momentarily affirmed with a grim face, "And it wasn't just him. All of the people who bullied me in our class, including the teachers, who pretended not to notice." He spoke grimly. "I used to think that it would be so much better if they all just died, that if they were all gone, I could finally laugh from the bottom of my heart." This instantly made Ms. Tan freeze, rendered speechless. "Rikuto-kun." Seeing this, Rikuto could only give a helpless, bitter laugh and continue, "But I can't laugh. It's the worst feeling in the world." In that moment, he felt a wave of helplessness, silently cursing himself. "I feel like I'll never be able to laugh again. Why did this invasion have to happen? Maybe this is divine punishment. A punishment from the heavens for a low-life wretch who wished for other people to die." Hearing this, Ms. Tan couldn't hold back any longer and interjected, "But from what I've seen, you're a hero both now and in the past." This caused Rikuto to look up in surprise, his eyes wide. A hero instantly. He was struck by the memory of a familiar figure, Riku-chan. Not letting him stay lost in thought for long, Ms. Tan took the initiative and stepped closer, and offered directly, "I'll help too, Rikuto-kun." Without any hesitation, Rikuto nodded in agreement. "All right, for a moment," he asked hesitantly, "but are you sure it's a shocking sight for anyone, especially a girl, after a monster attack like that?" Immediately, Ms. Tan replied with confidence, "It's all right, I think I've become numb to it all." She lowered her head, her expression somber, and added, "Besides, I feel like this is also something I shouldn't run away from." Seeing her determination, Rikuto nodded again. "Right, in that case, I'd be grateful for your help." Suddenly, from a distance, the sound of frantic footsteps rushed toward them, and an angry voice shouted out, "Kogen-kun!" The shout made both of them jump in surprise. Instantly, Saito rushed forward and violently shoved Rikuto, sending him stumbling to the ground. He immediately yelled furiously, "What the hell are you making Ms. Tan do?" Watching Rikuto from the side, Kotone was stunned and heartbroken as Saito suddenly and decisively dragged her away. Not forgetting to call back, "Kotone, you don't have to do such a disgusting job, come with me," which made Kotone furious. Instantly feeling helpless, she was unable to resist as Rikuto, watching from a distance, could only keep a straight face and say nothing. Standing before Rikuto, Saito relentlessly accused him, "Seriously, you're so cunning. Kogen-kun, I can't believe it. You tried to force Kotone to do your work for you." He immediately started ranting. "Even if it's just menial labor, you should be ashamed of yourself." Hearing this, Kotone quickly spoke up to object. "Wait, Saito-kun, Riku-kun wouldn't, it's just that I said I would help him." Seeing this, Saito immediately gave a dismissive smile to reassure her. "It's okay, Kotone. It's okay. I can see what's happening here. He definitely used saving you as an excuse to force you to work, right? What a monster. How much do you look down on people?" At these words, Kotone could only ask in confusion, "What are you talking about?" In an instant, Saito took the initiative and declared loudly, "Sorry, Kogen-kun, but I'll have to spread this news to everyone, so they'll know." Hearing this, Kotone panicked and shouted, "What?" He continued with a serious face, "Everyone should be careful of Kogen-kun. You can't trust him." At these words, Kotone couldn't hide her feelings and bluntly retorted, "Why would you say such terrible things, Rikuto-kun is?" But before she could finish her sentence, Saito coldly interrupted, "Quiet, Kotone, this is important." Seeing this, Rikuto from a distance suddenly spoke up indifferently, "Don't care, do whatever you want." This caused Saito to startle. What immediately Rikuto quickly got back to plunging himself into his work. Seeing this, Saito suddenly laughed out loud, his brief shock turning into endless taunts. You act so high and mighty even when you're at the bottom of the social ladder. With that, Saito decisively pulled Kotoni away, not forgetting to call back, "Let's go, Kotoni. From now on, you have nothing to do with him. This social invasion is over, you just need to do as I say." But right after that, a loud smack suddenly rang out, causing Rikuto to turn around in surprise. Kotoni had given Saito a stinging slap, leaving him too stunned to react as she suddenly burst into tears. "I'm sorry, I can't take it anymore." This momentarily sent Saito into a rage, and he asked in confusion, "Koton, what are you doing?" Without hesitation, Kotoni replied, "Saito-kun, because our fathers are friends because of their social status. I tried to be friendly with you, but I can't stand it anymore." At these words, Saito was completely stunned. He stammered, "What are you saying, Kotoni? We promised to be together forever." But in response, Kotoni bluntly asserted, "That was just something our fathers decided on their own." For Saito, her words triggered a personal apocalypse as he dejectedly called out Kotoni's name. Seeing this, Rikuto interjected coldly from a distance, "Hey, do whatever you two want, but can you find somewhere else? I'm trying to work." This truly enraged Saito, who immediately yelled, "You shut your mouth." In the next instant, a flustered Saito turned to explain, "Come on, Kotone, please don't make more trouble. For me? Besides, who else will protect you in this harsh reality of survival?" But in response, Kotone's face suddenly darkened. "Protect? How dare you say that?" She immediately shot back, her voice rising. "After all, Saito, you've used me as a shield before, like some zombie you could just throw away. Sacrificing me for your own survival wasn't it? To save yourself." Those words instantly hit a nerve with Saito, and he hurriedly denied it. "What nonsense are you talking about?" But once again, Kotone firmly continued, "You think I didn't realize back then you—" Time rewinds to that fateful day when the group was desperately fleeing from a horde of monsters during the initial invasion. The situation had become incredibly dire, causing both Kotone and Saito to grimace, and suddenly Kotone unexpectedly spoke up, shouting loudly on this rooftop, "Let's run to that rooftop. Saito, a place without people will be safer." After saying that, she momentarily, I thought helplessly, "This isn't good either. At this rate, they'll catch up to us. How can we possibly survive?" But then, in the very next second, just as it seemed Kotone was about to escape death, Saito suddenly appeared and directly blocked her path. This immediately caused Kotone to trip and fall, letting out a terrified scream, and in an instant, Kotone was left behind by Saito. Watching his retreating back, she thought in a panic, "Saito-kun, just now he tripped me immediately." Kotone helplessly shouted, "Wait!" But then in a flash, the loud roar of a monster from behind immediately had startled her. Very quickly, the zombie-like creatures were right on her heels, and in a moment, close to death, Kotone was stunned, panting as she thought, No, I don't want to die." Fortunately, at that moment, Kotone managed to hide behind a cabinet. Returning to the present, Saito was still adamantly denying it. "You're mistaken. There's no way I would ever do something like that. When I came to my senses, you were already gone." Hearing this, Kotone replied sorrowfully, "Maybe back then Detsu was too desperate. Perhaps I really was mistaken." Hearing this, Saito's heart secretly rejoiced for a moment. "That's right. Tone." But then she once again retorted loudly, "But I've had enough. I can't trust you at all anymore." Kotone suddenly burst into tears, sobbing, "You know what, Saito-kun, I don't think we're a good match." This made Saito a bit stunned. "What are you?" Immediately, Kotone hesitantly expressed, "From now on, I don't think I can look at you the same way anymore. So please forget about me." These words instantly struck Saito, and he quickly moved closer to Rikuto, demanding of Kotone, "Don't tell me you've fallen for this guy, have you?" He then gave a bitter laugh, wondering to himself, I patiently listened to all your complaints, and this is how it ends." In an instant, this surprised Tone, who quietly called out, "Saito-kun." Without any hesitation, Saito bluntly gritted his teeth. "Just shut your mouth." He momentarily clenched, his fist aiming it straight at Kotone and yelling, "You'll listen to what I say and do as I tell you? Got it." This immediately and shocked Kotone, who stood frozen like a statue for a moment. Instantly, a damaging blow came flying up forward. Fortunately, Rikuto managed to block the attack in time, leaving Saito momentarily stunned. "What, Riku-kun, you?" He became visibly angry and warned, "Hey, I'll say this as many times as it takes for you to get it. Can you take your personal matters elsewhere? I'm trying to work here." This immediately enraged Saito, who shouted loudly, "Kogen!" Very quickly, Saito violently shoved Rikuto's hand away and postured, "I don't know how, but your whole vibe has changed." He didn't I stopped questioning him. Even though you've always lived at the mercy of thugs with those lifeless eyes, Saito momentarily, Basu scoffed and pressed, so that's how it is. Huh, he then relentlessly provoked him. You've gotten all high and mighty since this apocalypse began. All your old bullies are dead now in this apocalypse, right? Hearing this, Rikuto fell silent for a moment and Ms. Tono quickly interjected. Wait a minute, Saito-kun, you're going too far. Once again, Saito just laughed proudly. Seriously, a total gloomy outcast. At this point, Rikuto couldn't hold back any longer and pressed him. Can I ask you a question? He then said bluntly, who was that smear campaign aimed at? I don't really care, but doing things like that won't raise your own self-worth. This sent Saito into a rage. He immediately started cursing non-stop. You social outcast! Saito suddenly lunged forward, abruptly striking Rikuto. How dare you lecture a model student like me? Seeing this, Ms. Tono shouted in alarm from a distance. Saito-kun, what are you doing? Stop it! But in response, Saito snapped back decisively. Stay back, Ms. Tono. He then firmly declared that an arrogant person like him who only disrupts order can't be allowed to do whatever he wants for the sake of our group's survival. At these words, Rikuto once again remained silent. Seeing this, Saito couldn't help but get even angrier and declared, Get ready, Kugan. You've only killed one monster. Don't think you're so great. Let me fix that personality of yours. Hearing this, Rikuto could only think helplessly to himself. That stance is probably karate, right? He must have a black belt. In response, Rikuto simply and gently refused. No thank you. This left Saito momentarily stunned and bewildered. What? In an instant he bristled and yelled, You're scared, aren't you? I knew you would be. Before he could finish his sentence. Yeah? Rikuto unexpectedly shook his head wearily. No, that's not it. He then said in a determined voice, You are and Tachibana's friend. Right, if I hurt you, I'd feel bad for Tachibana. At these words, Saito was truly driven into a fury. He momentarily roared Kugan. Immediately, Saito rushed forward from a distance. You! Really don't know when to shut your mouth. But facing this attack, Rikuto was very calm, thinking to himself that experiencing real combat in this monster's invasion takes more than a few years of dojo training. It's unclear how true that is, but Saito's attacks, no matter how many, would only hurt a little. He silently concluded they wouldn't cause much damage. As for Rikuto, after having defeated countless monsters, he was no longer afraid. Indeed, at this moment, Rikuto was looking at him with cold eyes. That composure allowed him to attack calmly yet boldly. In an instant, Rikuto managed to dodge, causing Saito to lose his balance and tumble into a pile of zombie corpses. He cried out in shock. What? Instantly, a bruised purple face from a corpse slowly came into view. Seeing this, Saito immediately let out a horrified gasp. Without a moment's hesitation, Rikuto seized the opportunity and said, So are you going to help me carry that thing? At these words, Saito couldn't help but seethe with resentment. He growled in response. Kugan, at the same time, Nishi appeared from the side asking loudly, Hey, what's all this noise? He directly questioned what happened. This made Ms. Tono standing to the side turn pale. Nishi-kun, in contrast to this, Rikuto bluntly replied, It's nothing. This left Nishi momentarily and unexpectedly bewildered. Nothing? Come on, Saito. He was also so enraged that he froze on the spot. Seeing this, Nishi scratched his head in awkwardness. Well, I guess I'll take your word for it, but... He then asked confusedly, Tachibana Saito, what do you two think? Without hesitation, Ms. Tono, without even bothering to reply, Shane quickly took his leave. All right, no problems here. Watching him leave, Nick had some doubts, thinking to himself, Shane is a good student and great at sports, a truly outstanding kid. He never loses his cool. It seems he's quite fond of Tasha. I just hope they don't end up fighting over her. Suddenly, Rick spoke up, asking, By the way, why are you here? Hearing this, Nick casually answered, The situation with that monster over there is handled, so I came to help you guys out. He then smiled sheepishly, apologizing. Sorry for leaving the tough part to you again. Seeing this, Rick replied gently, Don't worry about it. Thanks to you, our survival is more secure. You made everyone much safer. The demon archer unconsciously. Rick had already drawn himself into a firing stance. 10 points, he thought to himself. Seeing this, Nick's face flushed as he replied, Oh, cut it out. It's so embarrassing to think about now. Looking at their cheerful faces, Kate smiled to herself, thinking how wonderful it was. Then Nick couldn't hold it in any longer and said, Anyway, let's get that person up to the roof and head back. We still need to discuss our next move for survival. With that settled, Rick and Kate nodded in agreement. Okay, Soon after, as dusk fell, the students were gathered here. They were chatting endlessly. Off to the side, Tate was holding a piece of potato, chewing on it noisily. From afar, Mr. Owen suddenly dropped a cardboard box on the floor with a thud and announced, "All right, a supply this large can help us. Hold out for a while in this apocalypse." He laughed heartily, patting himself on the back, as expected of a model teacher. The students could only think in annoyance, Mr. Owen is so extra. Holding the food, Nick expressed his disdain. "I don't feel like eating this." Kate immediately agreed, "Yeah." Looking over at Rick, the two of them gave a helpless, forced smile. "I can't believe you're actually eating that." Rick immediately retorted, "Hey, if we don't eat, we die. This is about survival." Faced with this logic, Nick was at a loss. "That's true, but..." Just as he was hesitating, a loud shout suddenly echoed from the distance. "Damn it!" Sarah yelled out in frustration. "Why won't this work? It's so annoying seeing this." Nick walked over from a distance and asked, "What's wrong?" Sarah, without hesitation, she replied, "Oh, Nick, it's this." Looking at the object she was holding, Nick silently guessed a phone. A disposable one, Sarah confirmed without hesitation. "Yeah, I found it by chance. I thought I could get a charge, but it just won't turn on for some reason." Looking at the phone in Sarah's hand, Nick couldn't help but nod disappointedly. He wondered for a moment. Maybe it was already used up, but Sarah replied to Nick with complete certainty, "No, it was still brand new in its wrapper." Hearing that, Nick could only manage a helpless smile, but it's also possible that any smartphone was basically fried when the monster invasion began. Hearing this, Sarah could only feel a sense of helpless agreement. "Yeah." In an instant, she flopped down onto a mattress on the floor, sighing, "I really thought I could get online for a little while. We need a source of information about this zombie apocalypse." Then Sarah complained, "I wish we had the internet. This is so frustrating." Her words immediately caught Kate's attention. She walked over and asked, "The internet can still work even when the power is out?" Without a moment's hesitation, Sarah replied, "Yeah, you know this is a model development city." She then stated confidently, "If I remember correctly, the server here is an independent type, so it isn't reliant on the main grid. It's powered by an external source, so it still works." That comment made Nishi a bit awkward, so he immediately jumped in saying, "I don't really get it, but is that really true?" In response, Sakura ignored him and continued to sigh again, lamenting, "I wish I had a phone that a monster wouldn't crawl out of." In an instant, Rikuto pulled one from his pocket, a phone which made Sakura momentarily curious. She immediately asked, "What's that?" Without any hesitation, Rikuto firmly emphasized, "A phone that no monster will crawl out of." Then he frankly explained, "My phone was broken before this whole invasion happened, so nothing came out of it." Hearing this, Nishi was at a loss and spoke up, "But it's broken, isn't it? That won't work." Seeing this, Koto from a distance suddenly smiled and said, "Rikuto, that model is the same as mine. We're the same, mine doesn't work either." Hearing that, Nishi immediately became dejected and walked closer, his mouth not stopping its exclamation, "My God, look at that old model you're using. It's from several years ago." At these words, Rikuto was a bit startled and stunned, asked, "Is that so?" But in the next second, Sakura suddenly spoke up, startling everyone, "It can still be fixed." She immediately looked fierce and said with a determined voice, "It can be repaired. If it's that version, it's very possible." This made Nishi, who was standing to one side, widen his eyes in amazement. "Is that so?" Though very quickly a smile appeared on her face. "Perhaps I've found a ray of hope for our survival," Sakura declared, full of confidence. The next morning at the familiar school, Nishi took the initiative to speak. "Everyone, I have something to say." Very quickly, he stated frankly, "I believe everyone knows by now that if things go on like this, things will only get worse. The amount of food we found is only enough for 3 days. We have no contact with the outside world, and we have no information about the current state of this apocalypse." Indeed, Rikuto then also coldly asserted, "Above all, these are all the weapons we could find. The steel pipes can be modified. Speaking of which," Nishi suddenly affirmed, bluntly put, "we're screwed." But then he unconsciously raised his voice as he remembered Sakura's words. "However, according to Kozu, if we get the right tools, she can fix the phone by using parts from Tachibana's identical model, right?" Kozu. Nishi looked directly at her, impressed, who was sitting far away. At his question, she couldn't help but feel flustered and stammered, Well, I can do it probably." This made the group of students behind her think to themselves, "What's with this Kozu girl?" Very quickly, Rikuto abruptly spoke up, "We have you to thank for that, Takeda." At this, Takeda's tone instantly filled with contempt. "Fixing that damn phone of his? What good will that do?" Immediately, Nishi replied in a serious tone, "We can use the internet. If we can get online, we might be able to find out something about the situation. Maybe connect with other survivors. We could also look for shelters or rescue forces. Hearing this, the group in an instant felt a spark of hope and began to murmur amongst themselves. Then in a flash, Koto suddenly spoke up asking, speaking of the internet, what about the computers? But in response, Sakura hesitated. About that. Koto watched intently and quickly. Explained, just like the smartphones, they're broken. Sakura immediately expressed her frustration honestly. It makes no sense at all. When the monster invasion began, whether the computers were on or not, it seems like everything that could connect. The internet has been completely destroyed in this apocalypse. In an instant, she started pulling her hair out, sighing endlessly. Seriously, what is going on? What is happening? It's giving me a splitting headache. At this point, even Nishi was at a loss and decided to speak up. Well, in any case, there's only one thing. Rikuto's phone. The one that was already broken before the monster invasion began, has a high chance of still being able to connect to the internet if we can fix it. And if there are other lucky survivors like Rikuto who managed to avoid having their connection ports destroyed, they're definitely out there. I believe that connecting with them should be our top priority for our survival right now. After saying this, he looked around thoughtfully. Looking around pensively, immediately Rikuto grimly confirmed, so that's the situation. Then in an instant he pressed on. As for where we can find the necessary tools, the discount general store, right? Without a moment's hesitation. Sakura replied, flustered, it's definitely that store. In fact, I used to go there all the time. Hearing that, Rikuto immediately added, then we should head there right away. We can get supplies and weapons there as well. Killing two birds with one stone. Instantly his words alarmed Mr. Oyama, who immediately and firmly objected. Wait a minute, I object. This is far too dangerous. But in response, Rikuto calmly stated, Mr. Oyama. But if we don't go, we'll all die sooner or later anyway. Once again, Oyama stubbornly insisted, we could be rescued before that happens, you know. Then he instantly challenged Rikuto with a barrage of questions. First of all, it's crawling with that monster horde out there. Don't you get it? What do you kids even plan to do? But in the face of this, he was once again very calm. Fortunately, that store isn't too far from here. Rikuto's face immediately turned grimly serious as he continued, we can get there by car. Sir, you have to drive us there. Hearing this, the teacher was startled for a moment and blurted out me. Without a moment's hesitation, Nishi decisively agreed. Yes, that's the only way. To say it would be dangerous to walk there through the zombie-infested streets is an understatement. But contrary to their determination, the teacher immediately became flustered. No, wait a minute. Oyama immediately protested. That's out of the question. If I'm not here, who will protect the other students? Besides, I'm not driving. This is for all of your own good, do you understand? Hearing this, Nishi could only scratch his head in frustration. This is getting complicated. Seeing the situation devolve, Kotone instinctively stood up and offered, then I'll drive. She firmly asserted, I know how to drive, so let me handle it. This statement immediately startled Nishi, and he was momentarily stunned. Into silence, Tachibana. In a flash, a confused Nishi pressed her, you know how to drive, but you don't have a license. Do you? Hearing this, she didn't hide the truth and admitted directly, my grandpa lives on a farm out in the country. When I was a kid, he always let me drive his truck even though he probably shouldn't have. Hearing this, another student couldn't help but speak up in surprise, asking Tachibana, you don't seem the type, but are you a tomboy? Instantly that comment caused the group around them to gasp in surprise. From a distance, Saito challenged her again. What kind of nonsense are you spouting? Now. But in response, Kotone decisively shot back, stay out of this, Saito. At her words, Saito flew into a rage and screamed Kotone. Seeing this, Rikuto paid them no mind and directly asked her, are you sure about this? He put on a serious expression and warned her, it's lethally dangerous out there. Even inside the car, there's no guarantee we'll be safe from this invasion. There's no guarantee that we can protect you. Are you sure you're still okay with this? Without a moment's hesitation, Tachibana confusedly replied, I don't want to die, but I'm just like you know? Then her voice rose in accusation. More than that, I don't want to die like this, knowing nothing and understanding nothing about this monster invasion. Very quickly, Tachibana made a firm declaration from the bottom of her heart. That's why, even if there's only a slim chance of survival, before she could finish, Rikuto cut her off with a bright smile. I get it, he immediately said with admiration. We're counting on you, Tachibana. Hearing this, Tachibana was moved and smiled back. Rikuto-kun. Standing to one side, Saito couldn't hide his seething anger. Glaring at Kogen, Seeing this, Mr. Ohama also couldn't hide his indignation and immediately shouted, "You kids!" He instantly, angrily demanded, "What do you think you're doing making decisions without my permission?" This left Rikuto a bit stunned. He froze. "Mr. Ohama." The teacher glared, his aura filled with killing intent as he scolded relentlessly, "I'm a teacher too, you know. I have a responsibility to protect my students. I won't let you do whatever you want." Hearing this, Rikuto momentarily couldn't help but feel indignant and tried to explain, "But sir, at this rate, if we don't do something for our survival." Before he could finish his sentence, Ohama cut him off directly. "Shut up, just shut up," the teacher insisted stubbornly. "You're just a disrespectful brat. Stop talking like you're in charge as if you're so important. All of you just need to do what I tell you. We will wait. All of us will wait right here in this safe place." As he spoke, he resolutely clenched his fist. Once again, he emphasized, "We have water. If we ration the food, it will last for 1 week. We will all wait here until we're rescued." With that thought, Ohama anxiously and angrily demanded, "Why can't you understand what is best?" In response, a slightly annoyed Rikuto stepped forward. "On the contrary, why can't you understand that's a terrible move?" This instantly made the teacher's face turn pale with rage. "Hey Kogan, that's no way to talk to a teacher." But Rikuto once again spoke assertively. "A safe place. You've already seen that monster out there, haven't you? You can't apply common sense to them." He paused, his voice low and serious. "A safe place? There's no such thing anymore." Just then, a giant pool of water suddenly lunged from behind, instantly restraining a student. The boy panicked and screamed out in terror before the astonished crowd. "What is that?" Tani screamed relentlessly. "Somebody help!" But in response, the students could only stand there frozen and helpless. Tani very quickly, the puddle completely enveloped his entire body. In his final moments, Rikuto rushed in from a distance. Looking at the scene before him, he thought to himself in an instant, "That's right, you can't rely on common sense against this zombie-like thing." Rikuto charged forward, gripping the pipe, resolute in his conviction. "There are no safe places left in this world, ha! Just sitting around and waiting for help will only get us killed in this apocalypse." Instantly, a painful blow landed. Tani cried out in panic. Rikuto shouted once more, his resolve firm. "There's no such thing as a safe place. Sitting still here is just like waiting to die." The monster immediately clamped down on the iron rod, and in an instant it thrashed about, throwing Rikuto to the ground. Tani was thrown free and coughed violently. Instantly, the monster once again began to drag Tani's body away as the others watched in horror. Seeing that, he couldn't help but panic. "What is that monster?" Instantly, Tani started pleading for someone to save him. In a flash, Rikuto suddenly jumped forward, yanking hard on the blinds while resolutely insisting, "I'm trying." He immediately shouted loudly, "Nishi!" Without a moment's hesitation, Nishi charged forward to join forces. "Got it." Looking at the scene before him, Rikuto thought to himself, this slime monster can corrode human flesh, but his clothes are made of synthetic fibers, so they're not being damaged. In this situation, thinking this, he directly threw the heavy Hanto towel onto the monster. In a flash, Rikuto and Nishi pulled together with all their might. 1, 2, 3. Just as they shouted the final word, Scott, Tani was pulled free. Witnessing the scene, Sakura was momentarily speechless. They got it off of him. Immediately, Rikuto slammed the monster onto the ground and panted heavily, cursing angrily at the disgusting creature. "Damn it! It's completely unharmed by our attacks." As he spoke, Rikuto subconsciously deduced normally slimes are immune to physical attacks. In most games, magical's attacks are effective. "Let's test that theory," he immediately shouted, asking Nishi for help. "Fire. Do you have any way to make fire?" At this question, Nishi replied, "Flustered fire. That's a tough ask. I don't know." Luckily, at that exact moment, Sakura approached from a distance with a determined look. "If you need fire, here it is." Nishi watched for a moment, a little startled Kuzu. "Since when did you?" Without wasting a second, Sakura poured gasoline all over the monster. She immediately tossed the lighter at it and shouted, "Take this. I hope it works." In an instant, a massive explosion erupted right afterward. The monster was immediately incinerated by the devastating flames. Faced with this outcome, Sakura let out a huge sigh of relief. "It's evaporating." Rikuto saw this and quickly followed up. Clearly, fire is their weakness, but at his words, Sakura looked a bit confused and hesitant, asking herself, "What did I just do?" Without a second thought, Rikuto stated decisively, "You helped us all." After saying that, he quickly turned back to press Nishi. "How is he doing?" Hearing this, Nishi could only sweat nervously, looking distraught. "Not good." he stammered in a panic. My reaction was too slow. Seeing this, Takeda immediately rushed over from the other side. So was shouting Tani's name, Tani. At this, Rikuto could only nod helplessly. I understand. At the same time, Oyama, standing off to the side, still hadn't recovered from the shock. What just happened? Without a moment's hesitation, Rikuto raised his voice to confront Mr. Oyama quickly and relentlessly, questioning him. You saw that, didn't you, sir? We can't just sit around and wait to die in this apocalypse. If we hesitate any longer, Mom, wouldn't be surprised if this monster invasion wipes all of us out. At this point, Rikuto couldn't hold back any longer and started shouting harshly. And you're still just going to stand here, right? Just waiting for a rescue team that is absolutely never going to come. Hearing this, the teacher collapsed helplessly to the floor. Oyama was momentarily dejected, blaming himself. I understand. Just do whatever you want. A short while later, the scene changed to the outside, where Nishi was now relentlessly finishing off the horde of monsters. Seeing this, Rikuto joined in to support him. In just a few moments, they had dealt with them all. Nishi then spoke up. All right, that was the last of them. Rikuto then added decisively, for now at least there are no signs of any other monsters around here. That's right, Nishi agreed. We shouldn't stay here for too long. Let's go now. But just a second later, Nishi instantly panicked as he reached the car and tried to open it. Hey, this isn't an automatic. Is this a stick shift? Can you even drive that? Before he could finish, Kotoni answered without hesitation. No problem. I'm much more used to a manual stick shift. This left Nishi a bit stunned, and he exclaimed, more familiar with a manual stick shift? You're really something else, Tachibana. Meanwhile, seeing this, Sakura couldn't help but tremble. So I have to go too. Hearing that, Nishi's tone immediately turned serious as he stated firmly, you absolutely have to go. In this fight for survival, you're the only one who knows what we need to fix the phone right. Sakura reluctantly nodded and forced a smile. That's right. With that, she let out a quiet sigh and got into the car, silently lamenting how short life is. This left Nishi a bit puzzled, wondering to himself, what in the world is she carrying in that bag? Suddenly, Nishi was startled by the sight of a familiar figure. Brushing it off, he asked, You're coming too? From a distance, Saito was slowly approaching. His face was grim as he declared in a cold, determined tone, If Kotoni is going, then obviously I have to go with her. After all, my job is to protect Kotoni. Hearing this, Nishi's annoyance was plain to see as he warned, I'll say this one more time. Please don't cause any trouble for our survival, all right? Saito immediately stepped forward with a weary expression. Don't worry, I'm not that stupid. He then continued insistently. I'm just like you guys. I don't want to die in this apocalypse either, so I'm coming along to do what I can. After speaking, he fell silent for a moment, taking in the scene before him. Saito clicked his tongue in disgust, causing Nishi to think with frustration, I sure hope so. Just then, Kotoni suddenly spoke up, asking, All right then, let's get going. Is everyone ready? Without a moment's hesitation, Nishi broke out in a sweat and replied brightly, All right, we're counting on you, Tachibana. Sakura also forced a smile, I'm ready even though I don't want to go. Meanwhile, Saito maintained his sullen expression as he stared out the window. To avoid any further delay, Rikuto immediately urged them on. All right, let's go. Just like that, the car quickly set off. Watching them drive away, the group left behind couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. They're finally gone. One of the students suddenly spoke up. He asked, By the way, Mr. Oyama, shouldn't we quickly cremate that corroded zombie corpse on the floor? Kogen said we should. In response, Oyama didn't answer, his face just darkened in silence. The scene then shifts to Nishi's group, where he was currently exclaiming in awe. The LX was definitely the right choice. The smaller monster creatures from this invasion are no problem at all. But he suddenly trailed off, staring at the scene ahead. Nishi anxiously stammered a warning, But we can't do anything about that giant monster. This road is a death trap. We have to turn back. Looking at the map in her hands, Sakura was momentarily at a loss for what to do in this situation. Seeing this, Rikuto immediately pointed out a route. He calmly and gently suggested, If we go forward about 50 more meters, I think there's a convenience store. We can find food there, a crucial supply for our survival. But Saito hesitantly questioned, Should we really stop there? Without a moment of hesitation, Sakura praised the idea. That's a great idea. Seeing her reaction, Rikuto continued, They should have the same kind of food as the place we were originally going to, so… But before he could finish his sentence, Saito cut him off sharply. Who asked you for your opinion, Chief? Sensing the rising tension, Nishi quickly stepped in. All right, let's try the convenience store. With his decision made, he stated with a firm expression, Food is the most essential thing for our survival. I think we should seize every opportunity we get to find more. You all agree, right? With the group's consensus, the car continued to move forward. Very quickly, 5 minutes passed. The car came to a stop. Staring at the horrific apocalypse he'd seen before him, Nishi couldn't help but freeze. What's so shocking? He was terrified for a moment, calling out to see if anyone was there, but the only response was an empty, strange room without a single soul in sight. Nishi sighed in frustration. Nobody's here. Just a single cardboard box. Then he stared at it intently, as if it were some strange artifact from before the invasion. Just like that, the group fell into a sudden dead silence. The scene then shifts over. Over here? Oyama was relentlessly shouting at the students, "Shut your mouths!" The teacher raised his club resolutely, declaring, "You girls, and you boys are all Kogan this, Kogan that. I don't want to hear it. A burial for that corpse. Let Kogan come back and do it himself then." Oyama suddenly snarled, laying down the law. "Listen here, Kogan isn't the leader in this survival situation. I am. I'm your teacher. You just need to do what I say. Is that clear?" The moment he finished speaking, the students' faces immediately darkened. Just like that, the school was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the streets were flooded by the appearance of a monster horde. The monster horde was frantically devouring the corpses there. Seeing the carnage, the car immediately accelerated, speeding past the zombie-like creatures. In an instant, the monsters were sent flying. Seeing this, Rikuto couldn't help but praise her with satisfaction. "Awesome, Tachibana." But in contrast, she was overwhelmed with guilt. Understanding her feelings, Rikuto's expression turned serious as he said, "We believe in you, Tachibana." With no other choice, Kotone decisively agreed. "All right." And so the car once again sped through the monster horde. Faced with the vehicle, the monsters shrieked incessantly. A few other creatures were busy relentlessly devouring the bodies on the road. Seeing that gruesome scene, Nishi was instantly shocked, remarking, "It's like the apocalypse is really here." Rikuto, slightly concerned about their survival, immediately asked Nishi, "Do you see any signs of life out there?" Without a moment's hesitation, Nishi replied, "No, nothing so far." Hearing this, Rikuto sighed helplessly. "I'd think there would be more people lucky enough to survive this apocalypse like us out there. Well, hiding is the normal thing to do for survival." Sakura, sitting beside him, agreed. "Actually, people like us, who are wandering around like this, are the strange ones." Suddenly, Rikuto spoke up. "Kotone, stop the car right now." The car quickly came to a stop. At his command, Kotone asked in shock, "What is it?" Saito Nishi quickly and coldly added, "Do you see that? Sitting in the back," the idiotic Saito smugly retorted. "So what, you're gonna say it's a monster and it's dangerous, and that my opinion isn't worth hearing?" He then snarled, blaming Kogan. "You just take the initiative to fight the monster horde. That's all. Can you stop acting like you're the leader? It's seriously disgusting." Hearing this, Nishi immediately spoke up. With a harsh rebuttal, "Hey, Rikuto was just giving his opinion, you jerk." Sakura, sitting next to him, angrily agreed. "That's right, let's just get along." Helplessly, Kotone, sitting up front, also chimed in. Saito, instantly in Nishi's mind, a thought sparked, "This guy. But really, should we be doing this?" A series of questions about their survival popped up in Nishi's head. There's no guarantee we'll find food where we're headed. What if that place has already become a nest for some monster? A stronger monster? Then we're screwed. Should we really go there for food even though it's a huge risk to our survival? Understanding his hesitation, Rikuto immediately spoke up, reminding Nishi, "In this apocalypse, there's no time to weigh options or find the perfect answer." He then decisively stated, "We're moving forward like this for now, but I'm not sure if I'm making the right choice either. Regardless, right now we have to gamble on it with everything we have left for our survival. I'll trust your choice right now no matter what happens." I would accept that. Hearing this, Nishi Dayas hesitated as Rikuto, feeling helpless, thought to himself, "What is with this guy?" In that moment, the group stopped the car and asked insistently, "This is the place, right, Saito?" Nishi immediately urged them on. "All right, let's head inside." Back in the car, Sakura worriedly reminded them, "You guys have to be careful." With that settled, Nishi quickly turned to leave. "All right, if things go south, we will come right back." The group ventured deep inside the main building, causing Nishi to gasp at the sight. "Oh my god, inside. This place is a total wreck." Seeing this, Rikuto added seriously, "But there are no signs of any monster in the store at all." Suddenly, Nishi sighed and said, "The bread and onigiri are completely cleaned out. It must have been the other people still alive, or maybe the monsters took everything." Rikuto replied wearily, "But there are plenty of canned goods left. Quite a bit over here." His words instantly lifted Nishi's spirits, and he excitedly said, "Yeah, and while we're at it, let's grab as many essential supplies as we can." Very quickly, 15 minutes passed, and looking at the pile of items, Nishi nodded in satisfaction and chuckled. "All right, we've gathered quite a lot." "We sure did," Rikuto agreed. Before him, Nishi suddenly grew a little worried. There's only one cardboard box here. But unlike him, when Saito saw it, he got excited and rushed over. Look at this. Check it out, this box is full of bread. What's the problem? This is food for our survival. But then Rikuto quickly spoke up to stop him. Wait a minute. Seeing this, Saito got annoyed and snapped back. What is it now? You better remember I'm the one who found this first, you got it? Again, Rikuto insisted. Something isn't right here. It's one thing for there to be food inside, but there's blood spattered around it that looks really strange. It looks like a sign of a monster attack. Like something bad just happened here, doesn't it? As he spoke, he scanned the surroundings intently. His words immediately struck a nerve with Saito. He suddenly got scared and demanded, What do you mean something is wrong? Without hesitating, Rikuto replied, I'm not entirely sure, but look closely. And with that, Rikuto pointed down at the floor and said on the ground, There are some strange markings. He added worriedly, It's giving me a really bad feeling, so we should stay away from that box. Even so, Saito remained stubborn. You're just saying that so you can leave and then sneak back here to steal. My find for yourself, aren't you? You shameless piece of trash. At this point, Nishi couldn't hold back anymore and yelled out Saito's name. He immediately grabbed the box of bread and said decisively, I found it first, so this is all mine. But in the very next second, the pile of supplies suddenly transformed into a monster, causing Saito to jump back in sheer terror. He frantically threw the cardboard box onto the floor. Immediately after, Saito's scream echoed throughout the area. Inside the car, Kotone jumped in alarm and blurted out, Was that Saito's voice just now? What is happening? Sakura suddenly yelled urgently, telling Kotone to get down. At that exact moment, a massive invasion of giant monsters had begun to appear, swarming around the car like a horde of zombies. Seeing this, Kotone anxiously thought of all times, why now? Rikuto. At the same time, the monster lunged to attack Saito, but just in the nick of time, Rikuto managed to rush in. Without a moment of hesitation, he swung his club and knocked the monster down, sending the creature flying. At the critical moment, Rikuto raised his stick high, preparing to deliver a fatal blow immediately. A sudden scream echoed as he looked at the monster before him. Rikuto gasped, telling himself it must be a monster. A disguised treasure box, just as I thought. The monsters from the game have escaped into the real world. At this moment, Nishi unexpectedly called out, urging Rikuto, They're outside indeed. At the same time, a series of monsters began to appear outside. Rikuto silently speculated about it. If I remember correctly, Niamthayu expressed gloomily, Is that thing a god or a human? They're here to check the situation, there are too many of them. Instantly, Nishi exclaimed, It seems they haven't noticed us yet. What should we do? But in response, Rikuto helplessly said, All we can do is wait for them to leave. 5 of them is already too many. There's nothing we can do. Nishi also agreed, Right, by the way, are the 2 girls in the car okay? At the same time, outside, the group of monsters was surrounding the car of the 2 girls, Koton and Sakura. In an instant, a monster suddenly smashed through the door. Nishi realized this and panicked. It's Koton. They've discovered them. What should we do? Hearing this, Rikuto decisively said, There's no choice left, we have to confront them. The 3 of us need to go now. He immediately urged Nishi and Saito. However, Saito trembled in fear. Are you guys planning to go out there? Hearing this, Rikuto expressed his frustration. It seems this is too much for him. Nishi then chimed in, It's not surprising that we can't help. Very quickly, the monsters easily captured Sakura and Koton outside. The 2 of them anxiously shouted, Stay away from me! I told you my flesh isn't tasty! Immediately, the monsters violently threw the 2 girls to the ground. It instantly raised its spear, causing Sakura to be momentarily stunned, thinking, It's over for me. But from a distance, a monster was suddenly attacked. The monster cried out in pain and fell to its knees. Taking this opportunity, Rikuto grabbed a metal pipe and rushed in from afar. In no time, he easily took down the monster without hesitation. Rikuto immediately shouted, Tachibana, keep an eye on Kuti. If the situation gets too bad, just leave me and go with Nishi. Hearing this, Sakura hesitated for a moment. Very quickly, the remaining 3 lizard monsters surrounded Rikuto from all sides. Nishi from afar exclaimed in shock, Oh my god. He immediately shot an arrow straight at them. The monsters were taken down instantly. Looking at the situation before him, Nishi couldn't help but worry. This situation is really bad. If I don't stay alert, I will reduce my effectiveness by half. In this case, Rikuto at this moment silently speculated, As I predicted, 1 against 3 is too much. Am I going to die here? Suddenly a monster jumped. Determined to withstand this attack, he told himself, I will not just lie down and die. However, at that moment, another monster charged in from afar. Rikuto once again firmly told himself, but before he could think too much, a stone from a distance suddenly flew in and smashed the monster's head. Just like that, the lizard monster collapsed to the ground. Rikuto looked on in shock. He had easily taken down the monster without any hesitation. Rikuto immediately shouted for Tachibana to keep an eye on Kuti. If the situation gets too bad, just leave me behind and go with Nishi. At this statement, Sakura hesitated for a moment. Very quickly, the remaining 3 lizard monsters surrounded Rikuto from all sides. From a distance, Nishi looked on, startled. Oh my god! He immediately shot an arrow straight at them and the monsters were taken down instantly. Seeing the situation before him, Nishi couldn't help but worry deeply. This situation was really bad. If he wasn't careful, he would reduce their effectiveness by half. In this case, Rikuto was on this side silently guessing. As he predicted, 1 against 3 was too much. Would he die here? Suddenly the monster jumped up, determined to eliminate Rikuto. Against this attack, he resolutely braced himself, telling himself he wouldn't just lie down and die. However, at that moment, another monster charged in from afar. Rikuto once again firmly told himself he would not give up. But before he could think too much, a stone from a distance unexpectedly struck the monster's head, causing it to collapse to the ground. Rikuto looked on in astonishment, exclaiming, "What the hell is that from above?" A young man suddenly appeared holding a rock in his hand. Excited and thinking this would be a clean one-shot kill, he beamed with a huge grin and laughed, "This is the finisher." With that, he quickly got into position and hurled the rock forward. From afar, the young man yelled with conviction, "Eat rock, you monster freaks!" In an instant, the horde of lizardmen were struck. In a flash, they all fell to the ground, and seizing that opportunity, Nishi aimed directly at the monster pack and fired. Just then, a monster was taken down. Then another young man suddenly rushed in from the distance to provide support. With a single punch, he effortlessly sent the monster's head flying. Seeing its kind defeated before its eyes, the creature faltered for a second. It took a step back, and seizing the opportunity, Rikuto immediately advanced with determination, thinking, "I don't know who you guys are, but... oh, it's my turn now." With that, he finished off the monster in an instant with just 1 strike, watching the monsters get dispatched right in front of him. Rikuto let out a sigh of relief. Whew, it's finally over. From afar, Nishi rushed over frantically shouting, "Rikuto, Rikuto!" In that moment, he politely bowed his head and expressed his thanks. "You saved my life. Thank you both so much." Seeing this, Sakura from the distance, Tasai approached with a big cheerful smile and said, "We did it! We finally found other people alive." At the same time, Nishi couldn't help but ask in surprise, "This uniform, do you guys go to our school?" Then he immediately furrowed his brow. And urged, "We have a lot to discuss, but we need to get out of here first. This whole apocalypse makes it too dangerous to stay." Indeed, Tuda, who was standing opposite them, immediately proposed an idea. "Hey, why don't you all come with us? We found an awesome hideout." As he spoke, Tuda nudged Takeshi's arm and said cheekily, "Our senior here wouldn't mind, right?" In response, Nishi gave a wry smile. "Just a minute ago, I honestly thought we were all about to be slaughtered." Rikuto nodded in agreement. "Yeah, luck is on your side as long as you don't give up on survival." Then Koto suddenly spoke up and offered, "Everyone get in the car." This made Tuda, who was standing nearby, jump in surprise. "For real, you know how to drive." 10 minutes later, the car was smoothly cruising down the road again. Tuda smiled and started the introductions. First off, "So my name is Ace Tuda, a first-year high school student, and the guy next to me is a third-year senior Yamaoka Takeshi, and that is our secret base." He then pointed definitively toward a massive building looming on the other side of the street. In a flash, a love hotel dramatically came into view. Koto was momentarily stunned and stammered, "This is..." Seeing that Sakura also became flustered, "For real!" But Rikuto, standing off to the side, suddenly spoke up in admiration. "This place is actually a perfect shelter for our survival. There aren't many residents in an area like this, so... that means fewer smartphones for the monster invasion to spawn from." Hearing this, Tuda chuckled with delight. "Exactly right." But unlike the others, Nishi was hesitant and at a loss for words. "No, I mean, I understand that, but..." As if sensing his concern, Tuda quickly jumped in to explain, "Oh, of course, Senior Yamaoka and I don't have that kind of relationship." Nishi's face went pale with embarrassment. "That's not what I was talking about." Then without further hesitation, he got right to the point. "Anyway, let's share what we know." With that settled, Tuda agreed. "Deal." But on the other side, Saito was being incredibly rude, clicking his tongue and crudely telling someone to get lost. Seeing this, Kogan helplessly called out quietly to Saito, and noticing the other party's awkwardness, Nishi had no choice but to step forward. He bowed and apologized. "I'm sorry. Please don't mind him, he's a bit difficult." At the same time, over on his side, Saito was seething with rage. He furiously thought to himself, "Kogan, A moment later, Tuda began to seriously recount the entire story of that fateful day. You mentioned exchanging information, but I don't really have much to tell. I was on my way home from school when I was attacked by the monster horde. The monster invasion began from my phone. I was pretty confident in my speed, so I tried to outrun them and put some distance between us. But he hesitated, looking flustered. In the end, a whole horde of monsters surrounded me. At that moment, I thought I was dead for sure. Then Senior Yamaoka appeared and saved me. Tuda paused for a moment, then praised him endlessly. He's as strong as an ox. He's the one who found this hotel too. My survival is all thanks to him. If he weren't here, I would have died long ago. Hearing this, Nishi was a bit stunned, thinking to himself, a third-year student, Yamaoka Takeshi. I've heard that name before, if I remember correctly. He's supposed to be a notorious top-tier delinquent. Takeda and his cronies are nothing compared to this guy. He's the real deal, Nishi thought, staring intently at Takeshi with a bewildered expression. In that instant, a series of doubts quickly surfaced in Nishi's mind. Violence, pimping, drug trafficking, ties to the Yakuza. There are even rumors that he's killed someone. But then Nishi hesitated, telling himself, but just looking at how he acts, those horrific rumors seem baseless. I want to believe what I'm seeing right now. Soon after, Rikuto's group took their turn to explain. Smartphones are just garbage now, and out there during this monster apocalypse they've appeared everywhere. Our survival depends on finding supplies, so we went out and that's when we ran into you. But then Rikuto paused. He seemed to have a few questions. I have one question, he said, suddenly looking concerned. In the back room of the convenience store, was there a warning about the monster under the floor? Did you two write that? But hearing this, both Takeshi and Tuda stared with wide, bewildered eyes. A warning? What the heck is that? As if he'd just realized something, Rikuto let out a helpless, weary sigh. I get it. Never mind. Seeing this, Tuda immediately turned to Nishi to talk. Anyway, that's everything we know. What about you? Nishi immediately began to recount his own story. All right, A while later, their group had moved into the hotel where Nishi was still finishing his story, and so we were still on our way to that store. Hearing this, Tuda agreed excitedly. Oh, I get it. He let out a soft sigh of relief. He thought to himself, there are still a lot of people safe at school. Thank God. Tuda quickly regained his composure and asked another question. Also, if we can fix Senior Kogan's phone, we can call for help, right? Hearing this, Nishi looked a bit hesitant before reluctantly answering, I have to admit, in this apocalypse, the chances of being rescued are slim. With the situation like this, Rikuto went straight to the point. I'll be direct. What's your plan now? We won't force you to if you don't want to come with us. We can take you back to the school first. Hearing this, Sakura, who was standing off to the side, couldn't help but feel resentful. She complained to herself, and here I was, practically dragged along against my will. In response to the offer, Takeshi suddenly spoke up. I'll go with you guys. Seeing this, Tuda was instantly shocked and cried out. Senior Yamaoka Takeshi generously added, I won't hold you guys back, at least I'll be a human shield to help. You guys, is that okay? In response to this, Nishi was a bit surprised and remarked approvingly, to be honest, if you come with us, it would be a huge help. Very quickly, Takeshi took the initiative and turned to ask Tuda's opinion. What about you, kid? You can wait at the school if you don't want to go. But Tuda firmly replied, what are you even talking about? If you're going, then I am too. With that settled, Tuda immediately shouted decisively, I'm a man too, I have to. Do something. Hearing this, Rikuto couldn't help but get excited for a moment and grinned. Looking back, it was a good thing we stopped at the general store, right? Hearing that, Nishi chimed in with agreement, that's right, but then from afar, Takeshi suddenly spoke up with a reminder. Anyway, to be frank, your plan seems too reckless to me, he continued calmly. There are many residents who lived in that area, so there's a high chance the number of monsters will be unpredictable. Going there without a proper plan is just a death wish. Knowing what's safe and what's dangerous is paramount for our survival. After speaking, Takeshi pointed directly at Sakura and stated firmly, first, the key to your plan is prioritizing the safety of this blonde girl, right? This made Sakura jump in surprise. Me indeed, Nishi momentarily agreed with some apprehension. I think you're right. We might have been too hasty. That's right, Rikuto also quickly chimed in. That's right. We don't want to die in vain during this monster invasion because we've already been through so much. Hearing this, Takeshi immediately spoke with authority. I'll help you work out the specific details for your plan. I'm a soldier, so make full use of me. With that settled, Nishi could only nod in agreement. All right. A few seconds later, Nishi was already getting excited and said directly, okay, then let's brainstorm our plan. Rikuto, standing nearby, agreed decisively, "That's right." But unlike them, Saito stood to the side looking glum. Very quickly, a short time had passed. After that, we ran numerous reconnaissance missions, focusing on securing a safe route for our survival. The group meticulously followed the map's directions, although we encountered trouble multiple times by fighting together. We overcame every obstacle. Indeed, in just a short period they had identified all the key locations on the map. And so a few days later, in that desolate city ravaged by the monster invasion, the car pulled up in front of a tall building. Looking at the sight before him, Nishi immediately let out a sigh of relief. "We're here. We finally made it." In response, Rikuto also replied with a radiant smile. "Awesome!" He expressed his excitement. "It took quite some time to get here. If we had rushed things like in our original plan, we probably wouldn't have made it. We could have died and become food for that zombie horde." At the same time, on the other side, Tuta couldn't help but feel anxious, realizing, "So this is it, Sakura then," added with tears welling in her eyes. "It feels like it has been several years since the last time I was here." Suddenly, as if realizing something, Takeshi spoke up with concern. "Hey, your legs are shaking. Maybe you should." But in response, Tuta firmly declared, "What are you talking about?" "No way, I'm just shaking with excitement. That's all." From a distance, still with a grim expression, Saito sighed and trudged along. Behind them, as the one in the lead, Rikuto took charge and called out, "Everyone stay alert. This is a matter of survival. The real high-level challenge is starting now for real." Nishi then decisively agreed and reminded them, "That's right, from here on out, we will have to face every challenge from this monster invasion. If they come at us, let's go." Around the school, the sky was swarming with flying monsters. They continuously attacked the unlucky students. A student holding a half-eaten piece of bread in their hand said, "Today, it's only half a slice of bread again." The people hiding in the room constantly complained, "How much longer do we have to focus on survival like this?" A girl spoke up and asked about Sakura. "I wonder if she's okay." The other girl replied with a dejected look on her face, "We've heard nothing from them since they left, maybe." That girl, clutching her weak body, approached Oyama, who was gnawing on a piece of bread, and said, Mr. Oyama," he answered while stuffing his face. "What is it, Enomoto?" She hesitantly spoke up. "Please, could we have a little more food? It's really not enough. All of us are hearing this." He immediately slammed his cane on the floor and yelled, "Forget about it." Oyama stood up and said loudly, "Don't you kids get it? How precious food is now? Shut your mouths and do as I say." The nearby delinquents saw this and looked visibly annoyed. While he was stuffing his belly, Enomoto patiently continued, "But sir, with the way things are, we won't be able to hold out until Kurin and the others get back." He scoffed mockingly. "You kids are so naive, they've already become food for the monsters." Hearing this, her face instantly paled. "That's a horrible thing to say. They went out there for our safety." Then Oyama moved closer to the girl, his face filled with shady intent, and said, "Enomoto, if you really need food, then—" He stood behind her, a disgusting smile creeping onto his face, and said, "If you show your sincerity by offering yourself to me, then maybe I'll make a special exception for you. What do you say?" Enomoto immediately jumped away and shouted, "What? Please, sir, don't joke like that." He quickly replied, Sorry. I just thought I'd lighten the mood." The delinquents in the distance were continuously staring at him with angry expressions, cursing that damn bastard Oyama. Faced with the chaotic monster invasion outside the school, every human emotion was laid bare. Hunger, thirst, anxiety, and frustration. The atmosphere in the classroom was reaching its limit during this apocalypse. Just then, an image of Rikuto's group appeared. Rikuto's team, with Nishi in the lead, said, "I don't see any monsters around." Rikuto also agreed that's true, which means Nishi immediately replied, "That's right. It's very likely there's one here." In the darkness, something terrifying gradually appeared. Nishi guessed a strong one. One by one, each monster emerged. We've learned through our investigation that there are many types of monsters, but in areas where there's one powerful monster, the number of other monsters decreases significantly. We decided to call these area boss monsters field bosses, and the strongest one is just like in some games. Nishi asked, confused, "But why are they all common monsters from video games and such?" "Well, thanks to that, we don't have trouble coming up with names for them." Rikuto immediately spoke up. "You have a point, because so far they've all been monsters whose names everyone knows. I can't help but think there's some kind of rule governing them." Rikuto continued, "But right now, carrying out our mission is the top priority for our survival." Nishi showed a determined expression. Right a while later, in a room that looked like a supermarket, Nishi asked, "This floor is Rikuto?" Immediately realized electronics, tools, and chemicals. It seems so. Seeing this, Sakura's face immediately lit up with happiness. She jumped up about to say something. This is amazing. I'm so excited I'm going to live here. Nishi, seeing her so happy, sighed from behind. Oh, good grief. Just as a voice rang out. We won't be staying long. Let's split up the work. Rikuto looked at Nishi, then said, Tachibana and Ice, you two help Kuzu. The young Tuto excitedly said, Got it. Senior Kogen Koton also immediately agreed. All right, understood. Then he turned to the two beside him and said, Nishi and Saito, you two will be their bodyguards. Saito looked reluctant and clicked his tongue, while Nishi beside him cheerfully replied, Leave it to us. Then Rikuto turned to Takeshi and said, And Senior Yamaoka, you and I will patrol the area. A while later at the electronic stalls filled with all sorts of goods, Sakura was completely engrossed in them, saying, Awesome! They have this in stock. She immediately pulled out a pen and paper and began scribbling furiously. In that case, I'll just modify. This a little. Seeing her so focused, Kuton timidly asked, What's that, Kuzu-san, a blueprint? Sakura replied cheerfully, The CPU on this phone is fried. The only thing to do is replace it with this. Then she excitedly said to Kuton, By the way, don't you find the smell of solder exciting? Young Tuto watching this said with exasperation, Seriously, what kind of person is Senior Kuzu anyway? Nishi and Saito simply watched them in silence while Rikuto was busy, moving around thinking to himself, It's eerily quiet. This kind of silence is never a good sign during an apocalypse. Suddenly something in the distance caught his attention. Of paper on the drink shelf. Rikuto wondered, What's this? It says they eliminate the source of the invasion and erase the E on their heads. Holding the note, he vaguely realized, this handwriting is the same as the one on the note from the convenience store floor. Then nearby, a strange wooden figure approached. Rikuto immediately noticed its presence as the monster's eyes began to glow. It spoke heat source detected in the area. He stared intently at the creature before him, a humanoid monster made of what looked like stone. Perhaps a golem. It immediately spoke, intruder identified. Eliminate. Without a moment's hesitation, it charged toward Rikuto, smashing the nearby wall with a single punch. Rikuto was stunned by the sight. It's so fast and strong. He then also sped up, charging straight at the monster and landing a blow with his staff. But because its body was made of stone, his attack had no effect. Seeing this, Rikuto cursed under his breath. Damn it. Physical attacks are ineffective against it. Without giving him time to react, it immediately prepared to strike Rikuto. Faced with its powerful fist, Rikuto froze, realizing he'd lost his balance. I can't dodge. Fortunately, Takeshi lunged forward and blocked the blow just in time. The eye on the monster's chest instantly shattered. Rikuto asked with concern Senior Yamaoka, but Takeshi cut him off. Are you okay? Tato Kogen. He stared at the result of his attack as the monster slowly began to rise again. Takeshi said angrily, I hit! It's straight in the middle, right where its core seemed to be, but it wasn't very effective. Rikuto added, But it definitely has a weak spot somewhere. Our survival depends on doing this carefully. Hearing this, Takeshi chuckled and replied, Sounds good. 2 against 1. Follow my lead, Kogen. Rikuto replied, Okay, Senior. The monster targeted Takeshi and charged. It threw a decisive blow at him, but Takeshi was no pushover and swiftly dodged the attack. Without giving the monster a moment to recover, Takeshi landed a powerful punch to its face, and so the monster began to take a continuous barrage of heaven-shattering punches from Takeshi. Witnessing this spectacle, Rikuto was completely stunned. He now had he's on another level, Rikuto thought. So strong is Senior Yamaoka, a professional boxer. Even among the pros, it's rare to find someone this powerful, he mused as Takeshi continued his desperate battle with the monster. A wave of anxiety washed over Rikuto, but he kept a tense expression as he watched Takeshi. He's facing a powerful monster from this invasion, and he's already injured from the physical blows the monster was now beginning. And its counterattack, it aimed right for him and swung its fist. Just as the punch was about to connect with Takeshi's face, I saw it coming. Takeshi dodged aside in a flash. Rikuto stood nearby, tightly gripping a metal pipe. This is bad, he thought. If this keeps up, our chances for survival in this apocalypse will plummet. Isn't there another way? He suddenly remembered the note from earlier. Eliminate the invader. Erase the letter E on its head. Thinking back every single word from that paper, and came flooding back into his mind. Eliminate the invader. Erase the letter E on its head. His gaze locked onto the top of the monster's head. The letter E on its head. He knew what he had to do. I get it. So that's what it meant. He yelled out, "Senior Yamaoka, get back now," not knowing his plan. Takeshi's attempt to look cool just seemed awkward. Then to Takeshi's astonishment, Rikuto charged straight toward the monster. The creature, hype, froze, unsure how to react. Without a moment's hesitation, Rikuto jammed the pipe directly into the top of its head. The monster howled in pain. Its entire body seemed to lose all life. Its strength drained away, leaving it as lifeless as a fallen zombie as its body began to crumble. Takeshi was stunned by the sight. That kid? What the hell? Hearing the commotion, Nishi and the others rushed over. Nishi called out, "Rikuto Senior Yamaoka. What was that sound? What happened here? Are you two okay?" Her eyes landed on this pile of rubble scattered across the floor. "Huh, what is all this rubble?" Rikuto explained. "It was a golem." She seemed shocked by his explanation. "A golem? So you defeated it?" Rikuto calmly replied, "Yes. I remembered it from some common legends." Rikuto began to explain. "The word written on the golem's head is what makes it move. On this one, it was the word death. However, if you erase the letter E, it becomes a word with a completely different meaning, and it worked," Rikuto continued. After listening, Nishi was still doubtful. She scratched her head, her face a mask of confusion, and said, "How should I put this? Things just keep getting more and more fantastical." In complete contrast to Nishi's bewilderment, Tuta understood it all perfectly. His eyes lit up. "Oh, I get it now." Ignoring the other two, Rikuto turned towards Takeshi. "So basically, it was just a minor monster, huh? Don't get cocky just because—" Takeshi cut him off before he could finish. "No." Takeshi's next words completely surprised him. "You did a good job, Kogen." He went on to offer more and praise for Rikuto. To read the movements of such an agile opponent and land a precise strike on the letters on its head. "I have to admit, I'm impressed by your kinetic vision, and naturally, who wouldn't be happy to hear such high praise?" Deep within Rikuto's eyes, a look of surprise mingled with a hint of happiness. Takeshi smiled at him and said, "You're someone I can trust with a mission." In response to the praise, Rikuto broke into a happy smile. "Thank you, sir." Tuta, now feeling excited as well, jumped into their conversation. "That was awesome, Senior Kogen. I want Senior Yamaoka to trust me." Saito sighed in exasperation as Nishi spoke up. In any case, Rikuto already defeated the boss of this area. Kuzu suggested, "All right, let's get back to it, everyone." But they all noticed Rikuto's thoughtful expression. Nishi asked tactfully, "What's wrong, Rikuto? You look deep in thought." Rikuto stroked his chin and slowly said, that golem seemed way too weak to be called a true monster boss in this apocalypse." Suddenly, a giant boulder crashed down from above, sensing the movement from Ikshiwasump. Above, Nishi told everyone, "Is that something? I hear a noise from the floor above us." Sakura's entire body trembled at the sound. "I have a really bad feeling about this. It sounds like it's getting closer." They all looked up toward the source of the sound. As they looked up, panicked expressions appeared on everyone's faces. Nishi screamed in alarm when he saw the object, a boulder. Sakura, feeling the same terror, cried out, "But we're inside a store." In such a desperate moment of survival, you only think of the one you love. Rikuto, seeing the danger, immediately lunged to grab Miss Tachibana. He held her tight and sprinted forward, just as the boulder crashed down where they had been standing. From the rock that had been lifeless moments before, an eye suddenly bulged out. Then a massive monster emerged from the stone. Nishi was completely stunned when he saw the enormous creature. Sakura also exclaimed at the sheer size of this monster. "What is that?" "It's enormous." Rikuto's face, however, lit up with excitement. "I get it. This is the real boss, isn't it?" Nishi, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. His face was drenched in sweat. "This is really bad." The monster boomed. "Invasion detected. Eliminate." It took a ready stance, preparing to attack. Just 1 second later, it brought down a powerful strike where they stood. They were all sent flying. After a few seconds, they regained their senses and helped each other struggle to their feet. Rikuto looked grimly at the monster. "This is really bad. Even if I attack from that height, I can't reach the letters." Nishi, suddenly filled with a burst of courage, stepped forward boldly. "Leave it to me. You mean the letter E on its head, right?" Rikuto looked at him with a worried expression, but Nishi didn't care about Rikuto's warning. Nishi fired an arrow straight at the monster. The outcome was exactly what everyone might have anticipated. The arrow bent the instant it struck its iron-hard skin. The minor wound it left began to heal and vanished in a flash. Nishi was horrified by the sight. "Damn it, it regenerates like some kind of zombie. There's no way I can even scratch that letter." Sakura on the side was equally shocked. "Is this even fair?" The monster let out a deafening roar, raising its 2 arms. as if it were absorbing some kind of energy. A light suddenly appeared in the center of its chest. Sakura looked at the monster and asked, "Is it charging up some kind of energy?" Nishi saw the impending danger and screamed a warning. "This is bad. Get away from it, everyone." Rikuto, seeming to realize something, screamed, "Everyone run!" Nishi grabbed Sakura by the waist as if to shield her. Kuzu and Sakura could only clutch their heads in despair. Oh my god! While they were desperately running for their lives, the whole group suddenly turned back, shouting a familiar name in terror. Rikuto laser beams began to shoot out from the monster's chest. Everything the laser beams hit was instantly incinerated. Cracks began to spread, and finally the floor was pierced by a large hole. Rikuto's group, hiding to the side, watched the scene in absolute terror. He was panting heavily as he exclaimed in disbelief, "That monster! I never thought it could shoot lasers." Rikuto then looked over at Nishi, his eyes filled with anxiety. "How's Nishi doing, Rikuto?" He observed Nishi's condition. "It's not good. That last hit knocked him out cold." Tachibana, her face pale with fear, said to Rikuto, "Do you think Ku and the others are okay?" Rikuto didn't know how to give her an honest answer in this apocalypse. He just replied softly, "I don't know, not with things like this. But for now we have to do whatever is necessary for survival." Rikuto suggested to everyone, "Let's head for the underground parking lot. If the others are still alive, we can meet them there." As he finished speaking, Saito jumped to his feet, screaming in Rikuto's face, "What are you, an idiot?" Saito began to explain the grim situation. "The stairs are on the other side of that monster, you get it. We'll never get past it while carrying an injured person." Seeing his panicked state, Tachibana cautiously called his name Saito. After a moment of thinking over Saito's words, he had to agree. No, he's right. Tachibana was shocked to hear him say that. Rikuto spoke up. To reach the stairs, there might be no other choice but to leave Nishi here. It seemed that Rikuto would do as he said, but then he made a completely unexpected turn. "But I'd rather die than do that." Tachibana looked at Rikuto, her eyes filled with admiration. Saito, on the other hand, was completely disgusted. He couldn't stand Rikuto's righteous act. Saito spun around, refusing to look, when suddenly a loud crash echoed toward them. The monster had gone into a frenzy, repeatedly smashing its fists into the floor. Saito watched its rampage. He was completely baffled. "What is that monster doing?" Rikuto replied. "It's viciously attacking the spot that's on fire." That rocky creature was pounding the floor with fervor when it suddenly stopped, turning its head to find Rikuto standing right behind it. The two of them, man and monster, stood staring at each other. Suddenly, Rikuto bolted in the opposite direction. As he ran, he glanced back at his friends. Tachibana saw that the monster was now distracted by him. Tachibana quickly announced, "It worked. Let's go, Saito." Saito replied, "Yeah, let's move." As Rikuto ran, he quietly observed the creature's actions. He thought to himself, "I've just realized something. It keeps attacking the fire." He started to remember what the first creature from this monster invasion said. Heat source detected in the area. Rikuto had a breakthrough. That means these things react to heat. The thoughts raced through his mind. So when Tachibana and the others reach the stairs, they'll throw the flare I left for them. Just then, the monster swung its arm, ready to strike him down, but Rikuto was still lost in his desperate train of thought. If it distracts the giant monster for even a second, I can retreat safely. Our survival is on the line. He quickly dodged aside. However, if it turns and attacks them instead, it's all over. Rikuto knew this was the only way for all of them to get out safely. The three of them, Nishi, Tachibana, and Saito, were now inside the emergency exit. She screamed his name, Rikuto. Rikuto, still on the other side, was desperately trying to figure out how to escape this death trap and get to them. "I have to make it over there safely somehow." He made his decision and yelled, "Okay, do it now!" Tachibana heard his command and shouted back, "Got it!" Just as she was about to throw the flare toward Rikuto, a hand suddenly stopped her. That hand belonged to none other than Saito. Without a word, he snatched the flare and threw it in a different direction. Tachibana watched in shock. "Hey, Saito." The flare, it landed right at the bottom of the stairs. Tachibana stared at it with a worried gaze, and Rikuto's heart sank with the same dread. With a furious shout, Tono confronted Saito. "What are you doing?" "I had to do it," he said, defending his betrayal in this desperate fight for survival. "What if it turned to attack us when you lit the flare? What were we supposed to do then?" Tono watched with growing anxiety. She glanced at Rikuto, but if you do that, Rikuto, and just as she feared, her worries were justified as Rikuto took a direct hit. A devastating punch from the monster sent his entire body flying back, slamming him into a pillar. Witnessing this horrifying scene, she couldn't help but cry out his name in anguish. Not wanting her to be in danger, Rikuto yelled for her to get back Tachibana even while he was In a compromised position, Rikuto's only concern was for his comrades. "Don't worry about me, just go protect Nishi." He told Saito, "If you want to leave me behind, that's fine. But you have to protect Tachibana, you hear me?" Tono's eyes welled up with tears threatening to fall at any moment. Rikuto thought Saito would surely feel remorse and come back to save him, but instead he flashed a sickeningly cheerful smile at Tono. He said it himself, "It's already too late for Kogen, let's go, Tono." Seeing his smug expression, her face darkened with utter disgust. Without a single word of rebuke, she let her actions speak for her, punching Saito square in the face. It was so fast and furious that Saito had no time to react and got knocked into a heap on the ground. Tono paid no mind to Saito gasping on the floor and immediately ran toward Rikuto. The monster looked like it was about to fire another laser beam, while Rikuto for his part seemed completely drained of strength. Panting heavily, he just sat there, stunned, feeling as useless as a zombie in this brutal apocalypse. Nothing seemed to matter anymore. "I've given everything since the invasion began, but this is all I have to show for it. In the end, you can't do anything at all." Sotaro's voice echoed in his mind. "You're dead and useless." The monster was now preparing to land a finishing blow. Rikuto accepted his fate, thinking maybe in the end that bastard Sarada was right about everything. Tono was now sprinting toward Rikuto. She threw herself in front of him, holding him tight. Rikuto cried out in surprise, "What, Tono?" It was her courage that saved Rikuto's life. He pushed himself up to look at her. Tachibana, that was too reckless. Tono slumped down, catching her breath, her expression seeming a bit more relieved. "Why?" Tono grabbed him by the collar. Each word was a sharp rebuke from her lips. "How could you give up so easily?" She looked him straight in the eye with a caring gaze. "The Rikuto I know isn't like this." Rikuto wondered the person she knew. His mind suddenly snapped into focus, and the despair that had consumed him vanished. That's right, memories from his childhood came flooding back into his mind. That's right, in the past his body felt like it was overflowing with strength. His fighting spirit returned as Rikuto thought to himself, "No matter what happens, I will always fight until the very end." Rikuto grabbed a pipe and stood protectively in front of Tono. "After all, our survival is what matters." Suddenly an arrow flew toward the monster, but upon impact it bent completely. The arrow had been fired by Nishi. The monster turned its gaze toward them as he spoke up. "Sorry, I must have dozed off." For a moment, Rikuto softly called out Nishi. Tono looked like she was about to cry with relief. "Everyone's okay," Tuta said confidently. "I was pretty worried when we fell to the floor below, but we're all right. Sorry to keep you waiting." Nishi's words ignited his resolve. "Now let's launch our counterattack, Rikuto." Rikuto replied, "Got it," and immediately used the pipe, striking the monster with a nearby piece of iron while yelling a warning. "Look out, Tachibana, get back now!" She immediately got the message, and just then the monster slammed down a powerful blow, but luckily he managed to escape. Nishi, who was standing far away with his bow and arrow set, said nervously, "Oh man, this is a total mess, to be honest. I want to fall back." But the white-haired young man nearby immediately replied, "We can't," and just then the door began to make loud, violent noises. Saito cowered behind the door, his voice trembling. "What is that?" "Something is banging on the door." The white-haired young man looked on with a worried expression. He clenched his fist and said, "So they're here!" Outside, a swarm of smaller monsters were racing up the stairs as the voices of the other students rang out from inside the room. "It's those little monsters from downstairs. I thought our survival was guaranteed, but then right after that, something slammed hard against the wall, making a young boy scream out loud. Sakura stood nearby, her face pale, and said, "We're in a truly desperate situation." Nishi, with a panicked look on his face, called out to Rikuto, "What are we going to do? If this keeps up, our survival is not an option." Hearing the worried voice of his comrade, he immediately reassured him, "Nishi, I'll draw the monster's attention. You just keep shooting." His words were cut short. "Just keep aiming at the same spot over and over, and eventually you'll." Nishi, hearing this, immediately yelled, "Are you an idiot? You won't last that long." Rikuto's face was filled with determination as he said, "We have to do it anyway for our survival. Because we are still alive." His words immediately ignited the will to fight in the hearts of the remaining students. They were stunned for a moment. Sakura's face flushed slightly and her eyes shone brightly as she had a silent realization. "We're still alive!" She immediately called out Kogen. Nishi, Sakura said hesitantly, "I can do something. Maybe I just need some time." Koton saw her and also spoke up weakly. Calling out Kudu, Sakura continued shyly, You might not believe me, but he didn't make her wait long for an answer." Rikuto immediately replied to her, "I get it, I believe you. We just need to buy some time, right?" Hearing this, Sakura was immediately so moved she started to cry. She stammered, You believe me. You don't think I'm just talking nonsense, Rikuto confirmed again. I believe you. You're not that kind of person. Right after that, he shouted Nishi, who then rushed over to Rikuto and yelled, That's right, a distraction tactic. You and I will do it before this monster crushes us. Okay, the little boy Yuta nearby asked curiously, Can you really do it? Senpai Kudo. Hearing this, she clenched her fists and said, He believed in me, so her voice became filled with determination. I can't afford to fail. Takeshi, seeing her determination, immediately put his trust in her as well and ran over saying, I'll support you. You help support the girls, all right? The kid next to him watched this happen, also stunned Senpai Yamaoka. They then moved to surround the giant monster. This seemed to confuse the creature, and it let out a loud roar as Sakura laid out her experiment equipment all over the floor and said, Okay then. Beside her, a worried voice spoke up. Koton saw the anxious look on Sakura's face and her trembling body. Koton immediately asked, Are you okay? You're shaking uncontrollably. Sakura panted and said, Please, Koton, just be quiet for a moment. Faced with the relentless invasion of the monster, the young boy Yuta worriedly called out, Senpai Kogen? He turned back to Sakura, urging her, Senpai. Kudo, hurry up, hurry up! She angrily snapped, Will you be quiet? Sakura's face became panicked as she said, From the very beginning, this experiment is ideally performed in a place with zero vibrations. I'm losing my mind. Then suddenly she remembered Rikuto and paused as his words echoed in her mind. I get it, I believe you. Sakura remembered his trust. She then forced a smile and said, You believe me, right? Her demeanor became much more confident. Now all I need to do is add this. After a moment, she created a golden liquid. Sakura's face lit up with excitement as she said, Phew, I did it. This is it. With a timid expression, the girl turned back and said to Koton behind her, Don't ever shake it, okay? It's really dangerous. Koton replied confusedly, Sakura glanced at the colossal monster in the distance and spoke up now. If we hit its head. With this, if we land a direct hit, Koton asked bluntly, But how do we do that? Sakura immediately froze up. She instantly fell into a panic and said loudly, I'm so stupid, I didn't think about that part at all. What an idiot. The vial was snatched from her hand. Sakura was stunned. Huh? The young boy, Tuta, grabbed the vial, ran off and said, We just need to hit it in the head with this. Right? Koton's eyes widened in shock. Let me handle it. I'm a member of the baseball team. With a panicked face, she screamed, Be careful with it! Koton stammered. Tuta. That monster had left their group breathless in this desperate fight for survival. Continuously. Nishi, with a grimy and exhausted face, said, Damn it, that cursed monster! The creature roared again. A loud roar. Its eyes then emitted a strange light. Seeing this, Rikuto cursed a damn it. Nishi, standing in front, was also shocked, exclaiming, Damn it all, is this our limit in this apocalypse? From behind them, a loud voice suddenly called out, Seniors. The young boy, Tuta, ran over cheerfully with the vial in hand. Sorry to keep you waiting, Rikuto said confusedly. Who are you? The boy with a confident expression said loudly, A special delivery from Senior Kuzu is here. Without hesitation, Tuta immediately threw the vial toward the monster's head. Koton, standing in the distance, said worriedly, Kuzu, what did you just do? Sakura shyly replied, All I did was create a simple chemical reaction. But as the vial neared the monster, a secret about its ingredients was revealed by Sakura. I added nitric acid and sulfuric acid to glycerin. The resulting compound is nitroglycerin. She scratched her head awkwardly and said, in other words, At that moment the vial exploded right on the monster's head. The massive explosion sent the nearby people flying backward. Nishi was blown back and yelled, Whoa! The explosion left the young boy Tuta battered and stunned. The monster's upper body was completely obliterated. The stone fragments from its body then flew upwards. Nishi watched this scene and exclaimed, What the hell was that? The boy, Tuta, turned back to look at Sakura, trembling, and said, Senior Kuzu, what just exploded? Sakura scratched her head awkwardly and replied, It has nitroglycerin in it, so it might be an ingredient used in. Her face was shy. She replied timidly, Dynamite and similar things, I guess. After hearing her words, several people became annoyed. And the boy replied in frustration, You should have told us sooner. The scene shifts to a large building. A loud voice calls out, Senior Kuzu. Nishi is sitting down and meticulously observing the aftermath of the explosion. He stroked his chin and said, That was a terrifying explosion. The entire area is completely scorched. He glanced over at Sakura and said in frustration, We defeated it, but that was a really reckless move for our survival, Kuzu. Hearing this, she also replied shyly, I'll be more careful from now on. Nishi then noticed Rikuto was walking toward the door. Rikuto's voice was heard. Yeah, right. You could say that. Over here, Saito was panicking, holding his head, and his eyes were wide with terror. Nishi saw this and called out worriedly, "Hey!" He screamed while running up the stairs. Nishi called after him loudly. Saito Nishi watched him and shouted, "Hey, wait, don't go too far. There could still be another zombie or monster from the invasion around here. Do you hear me?" Then Nishi used the walkie-talkie and repeatedly called out, "Hello, hello, Saito, where are you? Answer me." Suddenly a figure appeared. Behind them. He laughed sheepishly, scratching his head and saying, Sorry. Nishi immediately asked Saito, "You were here?" Nishi pointed, yet straight at his face and scolded, "The least you could do is answer when I call. And don't you ever go off on your own again, it's a basic rule of survival." Saito looked embarrassed, and replied, "I'm really sorry, I just got a little emotional, you know. Over here." The young boy, Tuda with an excited face said, "Really? You're amazing," Senpai Kuzu Takeshi sitting behind chimed in. "Whoa," Sakura being praised said excitedly, "Well, for me, stuff like this is nothing." To her right, Rikuto spoke up. "Kuzu, is there any information about other survivors or emergency shelters?" Sakura quickly searched on her phone and said, "Hold on, I'll check social media." The screen and system appeared. Sakura spoke up. "It looks like since the day the Psant monster Sanchan upon an invasion began, there haven't been any new updates on social media. It's the apocalypse. Help me! We're all gonna die!" A man suddenly appeared. He said it was like heaven on earth. Nishi, walking behind him, asked Rikuto if you open that. Looking at the corpses of the small bunch monsters scattered on the stairs. Nishi exclaimed in surprise. "Huh? The monster sits on the stairs." Rikuto continued. "Since the explosion happened, there haven't been any more banging sounds." So Nishi added, "Could it be because we defeated the biggest Yamsh monster?" Rikuto replied, "Perhaps, although, I don't quite understand the logic behind it." Rikuto then called out to Sakura in the distance and said, "Hey Kuzu, were you able to get the parts to fix?" The phone," she replied. "I only took the most essential things," he said to her in a low voice. "Anyway, that really saved us back there. Thank you." Hearing this, Sakura's body went limp as she replied, No. It was really no trouble at all." Nishi cut into the conversation. "Anyway, we shouldn't stay here long. Let's go, everyone." Saito, with a worried face, stammered out, "Kotan." She immediately yelled in his face, "Saito, you're a real bastard. The worst." Hearing this, he panicked and explained loudly, "No, it's not like that, Kotan. I only did that to save you. I had no other choice." Kotan, hearing this, was completely unmoved as she turned away coldly and said, "I don't care. Don't ever come near me again." Nishi, hearing the exchange from a distance, quietly asked, "Did something happen between them?" Saito clutched his head, and falling into a panic and cursing, "Damn it, how did everything end up like this? Kotan hates me now." He thought of Rikuto and blamed, "It's all your fault. Damn, you just die already, Rikuto." He angrily kicked away several cardboard boxes in the room, shouting, Die! Die!" Right after a wooden chest with a sword stuck in its top was revealed. Saito wondered curiously, "What is this? A coffin? Why is something like this in a store?" His gaze went straight to the dagger stuck in the lid. Also of the chest saying a silver dagger. Saito pulled the dagger from the wooden chest, picked up the paper seal and read sealed. "Do not touch," and then, The wooden chest slowly opened. A stream of red gas escaped from inside. Seeing the skeleton inside crawling out, Saito, with a look of shock and fear on his face, said, "What is this thing? The zombie." Like skeleton inside, reached its hand out towards him. The scene changes. Over here, Nishon was talking on the walkie-talkie. He said in a reproachful tone, "My God, I've warned you many times that going out alone is very dangerous." At this moment, Saito was right in front of him. He said, "So we've done what we needed to do. Right. So, let's go back." Nishi looked at him strangely and replied, Yeah, let's go." Nishi turned back to look at Saito, who was happily humming behind them. Later, he curiously asked Takeshi, who seemed to be in an extremely good mood, but Takeshi just gave him a puzzled look. He then wondered if he was just imagining things, baffled that he hadn't even noticed the person was behind them. A car then pulled to a stop, Nissi and the others got out, and he sighed in relief, saying they had finally made it. Back to the base, Sakura cheerfully added that while it was awkward at first, this place now felt like home. "It really does. The scene shifts to a hallway bathed in the orange glow of sunset, where a stammering voice from a desk announces, "I did it." Hearing this, Nissi, who was sitting on the bed, excitedly asked Sakura, "Really, what's the status? Were you able to get a network connection?" She immediately replied, "I'll check right now." As the phone's screen lit up, Sakura exclaimed, "It's working. Just as I thought, the network wasn't down at all." Nissi immediately praised her loudly. "Sakura, you did an amazing job." Sakura then looked at the information on the screen and said, "This is Amima City in G Prefecture. It looks like other survivors are gathering there. The message says, 'Come to Amasia City, we are praying. For everyone's safety. Amima City.'" For real, Saito, who was standing nearby, chimed in, "Amima, huh? That's quite a distance, but not so far that we can't reach it." Nishi was also incredibly excited. "Yeah, it's better than just waiting here for this monster invasion to get worse." Kotan looked at Rikuto, her face filled with hope, and said, "Finally, a glimmer of hope for our survival." "We did it, Kogan." He smiled back at her and replied, "We really have taken a big step forward." From behind a wall, Saito glanced over. A strange and sinister smile spread across his face. He crossed his arms and listened silently from the back as Nissi cheerfully announced, "All right, everyone, tomorrow we will inform everyone at the school about this." Kotan raised her hand and added enthusiastically, "It means that even in this hellish apocalypse, there is still hope." Meanwhile, outside the building, a monster flock circled endlessly in the sky, letting out strange, piercing cries. Inside a room, hesitant and pained sounds could be heard continuously. The silhouette of a person being pinned on a bed by a burly man who was tearing at their clothes came into view as the victim pleaded relentlessly to stop. "No." The brown-haired girl's face was streaked with tears as her attacker slammed a knife into the bed right beside her head, threatening, "No matter how much you resist, it's useless, Inamoto." She pleaded in agony, "Please don't do this." The burly man revealed a sadistic smile and replied, "What a magnificent sight." The brown-haired girl could only turn her head away, sobbing helplessly. The scene then cuts to the dead of night. Surrounding the building, grotesque monster hybrids of humans and birds circled the sky, letting out piercing squawks. Squawk! A flashback begins recounting the events after Rikuto's group reached the shopping mall. On the building's rooftop, the monsters were feasting on the piled-up corpses of unfortunate students. Suddenly, a loud shout echoed. "What the hell is this?" Oyama. Two thugs stepped forward, one shouting, "Are you trying to starve us, you old bastard?" With the others trembled and whispered, "This is bad, what should we do?" The thug continued to yell in Oyama's face, "I told you to bring us the food." Unfazed by the thug's outburst, Oyama calmly replied, "And I told you there isn't any. Are you deaf?" Not getting the answer he wanted, the blonde guy behind him lost his temper, pointing a finger at the teacher and shouting, "You're lying, I know all about it. All. I know you're hiding it," he then threatened. "If you keep this up, who knows what Takeda will do to you." At that moment, Oyama's expression became terrifying. He glared down at the two thugs and said in a low, dangerous voice, "Forget it. No matter what, I will never let you have it." Just as he wished, Oyama stood tall before the two, declaring, "As a teacher, any decision I make for our survival is the right one. Absolutely. All of you just need to shut up and obey me." One of the two stammered, "You're a monster who just keeps looking down on us." He then swung his hand and slapped Oyama, saying, "You'd better stop." After hitting him, he cockily lifted his chin. He asked, "The key to the food stash. Give it here." "You have it, don't you?" Oyama just sat on the ground in silence. Takeda lost his cool, shouting, "Silent again. Huh, that's one of the things I hate most." He raised his hand, intending to, strike another blow. "You bastard, you're pissing me off." Blood suddenly splattered everywhere as Rikuto's group watched from a distance. They stared in bewilderment. At that moment, Oyama had plunged a knife into Takeda's stomach, causing his face to pale instantly as blood followed. The blade as it was slowly pulled out. He cried out in agony, "Hey, ah!" Oyama pulled the knife from his stomach and licked the blood off the blade. Takeda screamed in pain on the floor. The blonde-haired guy, terrified, backed away and stammered, "Hey, you stabbed him?" "For real?" Oyama advanced. He closed in on him and said, "You brats just won't listen to your teacher, will you?" With a terrifying expression, he aimed the blade at the other guy, saying, "Rebellious kids like you need to be taught a lesson." The guy, pale with fear, stammered, "Hey, wait, stop." Once again, blood sprayed. Back in the present, Oyama was carrying a female student over his shoulder. He opened the door with a sickeningly cheerful face, announcing to the group inside teacher's back. Seeing him, they trembled as Oyama spoke. "Are you all here, kids? Why is everyone huddled in that corner like you've seen a zombie?" Oyama threw the naked brown-haired girl to the ground. He then said, Enomoto, you're back now with the knife in his hand and a smug look, Oyama added, just as expected from the track team. You're quite the impressive survivor. He approached another young girl, knife in hand, and said, Now then, I still have enough energy. The next one to be taught a lesson is you, Kahara. Hearing this, the girl immediately turned to her classmate and said, Wait, teacher, instead of me take Riko. The girl whose name was called was startled. Huh? Riko, with tear-filled eyes, glared at Kahara with hatred. You're selling out your friend. How could you be such a traitor in this hellish apocalypse? Kahara, unrepentant, shot back. Shut up, you're just a suck-up. Cutting them off, he stabbed the knife into the ground threateningly. Oyama's glazed-over eyes looked at the two girls and he said, Kahara, Nijima, you two are good girls who will listen to teacher, right? Hearing this, the two of them trembled. Suddenly, a boy stood up, attracting his attention. Oyama stood before the trembling student. He asked, What is it? Has's face was ashen. He stammered, No. He avoided the man's gaze and said, It's nothing, sir. Oyama asked again, Is that so? Images of blood-soaked students lying motionless on the floor flashed in his mind. He warned, I'd make it clear, Has. Don't think about any stupid ideas, not unless you want to end up dead like the other boys who resisted. The student immediately panicked, shouting, I'm not thinking anything, sir. Very good. Oyama laughed. Has, I do like your obedience. Then Oyama grabbed Kahara's hand and said, Now then. The girl, her face pale, stammered, No. Oyama, with a cruel expression, said, Let's go. Kasamoto. The girl weakly replied, No. Her desperate voice cried out, Somebody save me! A girl with glasses clutched her head, her face, twisted in horror, saying, I can't take this anymore. Her mind raced. What is this? Ever since the invasion, this world has become hell. Kahara struggled, shouting, Stop, let go! There's no way I'll give in to scum like you. Oyama turned to look at her. The girl asked again, You scum? He slapped her straight across the face, yelling, You're to call me teacher. Oyama grabbed Kahara's hair and said, It seems. You need some extra lessons, don't you? Kahara. A thought surfaced in her mind. How strange this world is after the apocalypse. It's like then two voices spoke. Contradicting each other, echoed heaven, hell. The girl with glasses cowered in a corner, clutching her head, overwhelmed by her thoughts. The world has come to an end. This whole apocalypse is garbage. Oyama, on the other hand, chuckled softly, thinking, The world is over, but there's still something to be said about the way it operates now. His thoughts flashed across his terrifying face. Why didn't I realize this sooner? If everything is over, I'll just create my own world. A car screeched to a halt below the building. Oyama peeked from behind the glass, wondering, Is that my car? That means his face paled in disbelief. It can't be. Rikuto and the others got out of the car. He spoke up. We're finally back, Nishi. Replied, Yeah. We ran into quite a bit of trouble on the road, but Nishi glanced at his phone and said, With this, hopefully, we can bring everyone some peace of mind. The girl with glasses saw the group and her face lit up with joy. That's Kojin and the others. Thank goodness they're alive. In stark contrast to her joy, the teacher Oyama was furious. No way those brats are still alive. What do I do now? His face darkened as he looked at Kahara, saying, Whatever the case, this little invasion of theirs ends now. It's time for me to take care of them first. He glanced at Rikuto's group and thought, The kingdom I'm building? Nishi looked up at the building and shouted, Hey, we're back, let us in. In response, only the building's silence greeted him. And Nishi scratched his head, confused. That's strange. There's no response. Oyama, who was hiding behind a wall, cursed. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! He was in the same room with the imprisoned students. He started sweating and muttered, I can't believe those brats are still alive. At this rate, my kingdom, my key to survival will. The imprisoned children looked out the window, a mixture of worry and hope on their faces. The girl with glasses whispered Kogen's name. Oyama looked at the scene he had created and thought, If they discover that I killed a student, I'm done for. Then a thought sparked in his mind. But wait a minute, they don't know anything yet. He looked down at the group and thought, Besides Kogen and Rikuto are the only real trouble. The rest are no match for me. Then Oyama thought of Sakura and Miss Sonoda, a shiver running down his spine as he schemed, That means if I can just manage to take down Kuzu and Tachibana, I'll have 2 more top-tier beauties for my harem. The thought made him a real monster as he immediately licked his lips in anticipation. Oyama walked over to the students and called out, You lot! He held a rope in his hand, a threatening smile on his face. If you value your lives, don't make a sound. Down below, Nishi said with concern, this is weird, it's completely silent. Something might have happened in there. Maybe a zombie got in. He turned to Rikuto and asked, what's the plan, Rikuto? With a sharp gaze, Rikuto answered, we're breaking in. He said calmly, we'll use the car to ram the shutter. Tachibana, I need your help, Miss Sonoda exclaimed. Rikuto-kun, are you being serious? Nishi groaned, that's another plan out the window. At that moment, Oyama approached them, calling out, children, I was so worried. Seeing him, Nishi called out loudly, Oyama-sensei? With a completely fake expression, Oyama said, you're all okay? What a relief. Oyama then asked, so how did it go? Was it worth the risk? Nishi replied nonchalantly, totally, we fixed Rikuto's phone and gathered supplies. He continued, and we even found other survivors on our way back one. The survivor? A young boy named Tuta stepped forward and raised his hand to greet Oyama, sir. It's been a while. Seeing him appear, Oyama's voice faltered, you! He turned away, his face filled with resentment, thinking another nuisance in this struggle for survival. This is just not worth it. The boy looked confused. Tisk! Then Oyama quickly put on his smiling mask and said, I'm so glad to see you're still alive. Inside he whispered to himself, a miscalculation. I'll deal with Kur and En first. Oyama's voice rang out again. By the way, Kogen Nisi, I need to discuss our next steps for survival with both of you. Can you two come with me for a moment? Nisi asked suspiciously. Just the two of us. Can't everyone join in? Hearing this, Oyama hesitated. Yes. He then continued under the watchful gaze of Rikuto. There's a small complication. I want to hear your opinions first. Nisi turned to him and asked, if that's the case. All right, Rikuto immediately replied, yeah, I don't mind. Oyama then pointed towards a dark area and said, okay, let's go talk over there. Nisi turned back to the others and said, sorry everyone, we'll be right back. Koton replied, oh, all right then. Young Tuta turned to Sakura and said, now we can start bringing our things in. She replied excitedly, great, I can't. To wait to see everyone's happy faces. Koton then noticed something unusual and said, come to think of it, where is Saito-kun? She looked inside and said, did he already go in? A stream of thoughts raced through Oyama's mind. I did it. By doing this I've already won. One of them anxiously asked, sir, is this far enough? Oyama with a wicked monster-like expression turned to them and replied, sorry, just around this corner. In his mind he thought, if I can get Nishi's bow, victory in this apocalypse is thus mine. Behind him, Rikuto was also observing him carefully. Oyama thought smugly, this is my final kingdom. I won't let anyone stand in my way. Nisi looked at the place they were led to and wondered, this is just a classroom. Nisi watched. As he fumbled with a fire extinguisher and said, so let's hear it, sir. Oyama replied, yes, I just wanted to say. He immediately unlocked the fire extinguisher and without hesitation sprayed it directly into Nisi's face. He cried out in surprise, Gage! Afterwards, Nishi continuously rubbed his eyes. My eyes, while Oyama Tisk clutched a knife in his hand and laughed maniacally. He lunged straight at the blinded Nisi, yelling, die! You're all such annoying brats! At that very moment, a steel pipe silently flew through the air. The knife in his hand was knocked away by Rikuto. Oyama's face was dumbfounded. What the hell? Rikuto stood in front of Nishi and said, my suspicions were right all along. Nishi, relieved, softly called out Rikuto. Rikuto pointed the steel pipe at Oyama and continued, I thought something like this might happen. And sure enough it did. Oyama's face turned to shock. Impossible. How did you know? Then Rikuto glanced at one of his shoulders. He said, on your left sleeve, sir. That's blood, isn't it? It's not from some zombie after the invasion, is it? His words hung in the air, met by Oyama's disbelieving face. That blood wasn't there the last time I spoke with you, sir. His sharp words echoed, I don't know what happened. While we were gone, but I'm certain of one thing now. Rikuto looked him straight in the eye and said, Oyama-sensei, you've crossed a line. Haven't you? Oyama remembered when the blonde-haired boy had grabbed his shirt, his voice trembling. The boy's words rang in his head. Oyama, one day you will. The boy had tightened his grip on his shirt and said, face judgment. Oyama's body trembled. He gritted his teeth and said, you brats, every single one of you. Then exploded with rage. He threw a punch at Rikuto, screaming, how dare you humiliate me? Instantly he was sent flying backward. With just one blow, Rikuto sent Oyama soaring. His face, He showed no emotion while on the rooftop of the building. The monsters were dominating this place. A figure opened the door. He looked at the monsters before him and said, "Look there. You are exactly what I need." Saito grinned with a sinister smile. He said, "Now it's time to start everything." Saito looked at the monsters in front of him and smirked slightly in the golden-orange light of the evening. The quiet school was only filled with the cries of the monsters. Kahara was being untied. A classmate had just freed her and said, "Here he comes!" The boy Tuta from afar was untying the ropes and said, "Senior Tachibana, I've untied everyone." Tan with a sad face replied, "All right, that's enough, right?" "Huh, over here." Sakura looked at the poor girl. Enomoto with tears streaming down her face, saying, "How did it come to this?" Hasi, after being freed, had a gray face and said, "I can't take it anymore. It must be a dream. Wake up already." Tan couldn't stand it and tears flowed as she exclaimed when we just saw a glimmer of hope. "Why is this happening?" She covered her face, standing in the classroom, unable to bear it, and exclaimed, "It's so disgusting." The shout from the loudspeaker rang out, "Yama, how could you do this?" Rikuto beside him immediately stopped Nishi. A strong pair of hands grabbed him by the collar, angrily shouting in his face, "You are a teacher, right? Isn't it your job to help others in this situation? How could you betray us like this?" Hearing this from the boy, he immediately laughed loudly. "Nishi, you still think you will be saved?" Nishi was confused. "What do you mean?" His words echoed to the monsters that were devouring the corpses of the unfortunate students. "You should look at reality. Go on, look closely and face the truth. This world is doomed." His desperate words rang out. "There is no hope left. Everyone will die sooner or later," Amma continued, "and would be eaten by those monsters." His twisted face appeared along with those words full of despair. "That's why I choose to have some fun before I die. I won't be punished by anyone." In front of the terrified female students, his immoral words echoed, "Don't you want to join in? Right. Do you want to team up with me? To start, you can have Tachibana with the little brat." Immediately, Nishi's calm voice rang out, "Shut your mouth!" He angrily directed his fist at the man's face, cursing, "Shut your damn mouth!" Immediately, a hand stopped him. Ruta stepped forward and said, "Nishi, just ignore him." Nishi grumbled. Rikuto's face darkened. "It's just a waste of time and energy." He continued, "But since this happened, we can't take this guy with us anymore." Nishi replied, "Yeah, right." The girl with glasses spoke up, "Take Nishi with us." At this moment, Nishi interjected, "Oh, right," Nishi said loudly. "I forgot to tell you we might be saved." Oyama was startled, asking again, "What?" The phone lit up along with Nishi's voice. "Thank goodness, because Rikuto's phone has been fixed. I know the settlement of the survivors." The girl, hearing this with hope, happily exclaimed, "Really? There's still hope." "That's right, we will be saved." In contrast to the others, Amma, pale and trembling, said, "No way." He hurriedly stopped the crowd. "Wait, please, I'm begging you, don't leave me alone." Oyama continuously pleaded, "I'm really sorry, I know I was wrong. Shamso, please take me with you." In front of the astonished eyes of the students, Kahara angrily shouted, "How dare you say that?" Nishi sighed, scratching his head. "It's just one problem after another." Rikuto spoke up. "Anyway, wait, please, I'm begging you, don't leave me alone." Oyama kept pleading, feeling miserable. "I know I messed up. So please take me with you." Before the astonished eyes of the students, Kahara angrily shouted, "Do you still dare to say that?" Nishi sighed, scratching his head, saying it was just one problem after another. "Dám nói vậy được Nishi lúc ấy." Thở dài gãi đầu nói, "Nó chỉ là hết vấn đề này đến vấn đề khác." Rikuto lên tiếng, "You sao thì, we'll decide what to do with him later. We still have a lot to talk about." Nissi hesitated. "What do we do now?" "We should." Outside, a strange formation appeared, leaving them all bewildered. Nissi stared at the scene before her. She stammered, "What the hell is that?" Rikuto seemed to realize something was wrong. Don't tell me." A pair of legs was seen hurrying down the hall. In the hallway, the two quickly peeked outside to assess the situation. Outside, a horde of enraged monsters was roaring. They continuously appeared, their numbers swelling by the second. And worse, this monster invasion was targeting the school. Nishi was stunned. "What's going on?" "The monsters are emerging from those beams of light," Rikuto exclaimed. "This phenomenon. It's just like that day." Sakura, standing nearby, added anxiously, "But why aren't they coming from phones anymore?" Rikuto shouted. "I don't know. The only thing I can say is," he continued, "they're definitely tailing us." Looking at the monster horde below, Nissi grew anxious. "This is terrible. Their numbers just keep growing." Kotan turned to him worriedly. "What are we going to do, Rikuto?" A monster's wing slammed hard, shattering the glass door as they charged straight into the room. "What?" The girl with glasses stared in terror at the monster before screaming loudly as it quickly pinned her down. To everyone's horror, No, Nissi watched the scene unfold and roared in anger. Damn it, what the hell is happening? The students panicked, scattering in every direction. No! Takeshi clenched the iron weapon in his hand and said, Let's get everyone back and run. Go now! The boy immediately replied, Got it. Tuda, with an iron pipe in hand, charged directly at the monster pack and yelled, Damn it! I'm not dying here. His face was filled with a grim determination for survival. I will never die in a place like this. He immediately sent one flying. Monster. Outside, the horde of monsters continued to snarl and roar. Takeshi systematically took down each monster one by one. The young boy Tuda shouted, Seniors! Takeshi immediately asked, Ace, are you all right? He turned back to Tuda, puzzled. Are there only 3 of you? Where are the others? The boy replied sadly. Senior, I'm sorry, and we got separated on the way. Even though I entrusted them to you. He quickly took down the monster behind the boy, then said with regret, Let it go for now. He said grimly, For now, just focus on survival in this apocalypse. Got it. Tuda stammered, Right. Meanwhile, Koten was being cornered by a monster. From behind, Sakura cried out in fear, Another one! Koten stared in horror at the monster before her. And as it charged toward her, suddenly it zipped past her and without hesitation lunged straight for Sakura. Faced with its sharp fangs, Sakura's eyes welled with tears as she whimpered, Why me? I'm going to die! Just then, the familiar iron pipe slammed into the monster. It was instantly smashed to the ground. Rikuto turned back and asked, Are you okay? Sakura blushed and replied, I'm fine. Meanwhile, Koten had stared in horror at the monster on the floor, thinking, Did that monster avoid me? Just then, Nishi looked up and asked Rikuto, What do we do now? The lower floor is crawling with a zombie-like monster horde. He glanced down at the swarm of creatures and said, In this situation we're, doomed. Rikuto immediately said, If we can't go down, there's only one way left, up. Hearing this, Nishi said in disbelief, No way. Without hesitation, Rikuto shouted, Everyone, we have to get to the rooftop. Nishi asked doubtfully, Go back to, Chang. The starting point. While running, Rikuto yelled, Don't get separated. Our survival depends on sticking together, right? Koten replied, Right. Meanwhile, in another hallway, desperate panting echoed as Hayashi was being chased by a giant spider monster. He thought to himself, I don't want to die at the sharp claws of the monster. My will is slowly fading. I'm going to die. I don't want to die, but at this moment the system shows that I am a hero starting an adventure. Are there any thoughts continuously appearing? What is this? I suddenly hear a voice in my head. Am I the hero? Along with that, a corner of the screen displays AES. It continuously announces the creation of a sword to eliminate evil. That thought continues to flow. What is this? Suddenly I am filled with power. I face the monster with the sword in my hand. With one decisive strike, I end it. Immediately, blood splatters and my breath is rapid as I grip the sword tightly. I am still in shock, wondering if this is my power. Sakura beside me is excited, saying, Wow, you did it. She hugs me and praises me. That's amazing, please protect me. At that moment, I shyly respond, Wait, Tachibana and Kuju Nishi. Over here, with determined expressions, they say, If we can't go down, we just have to go up. Rikuto also excitedly says, After all, you are the best. When praised, I feel happy and say, Thank you, everyone. From now on, I will protect all of you. At this moment, my hands are covered in spider webs. Yes, we will be everyone's saviors. With my body being torn apart, my thoughts are still confused. I will save each person in the slime pile. A weak voice calls out, Wait, Kahara is crawling out. From the slime, her pitiful face says, Don't abandon me, Riko. We are friends, right? Riko, don't you feel a bit of hesitation? I shout, Shut up. You tried to sell me out to Oyama. You are not my friend anymore. She shouts back, You should die immediately. Behind her, a monstrous sword strikes down and Riko is cut in half right in front of Kahara. Her face turns pale and her voice trembles. What the hell? This is terrible. The sound of breathing echoes in the bathroom and on the floor blood is splattered. A scream rings out, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I tremble, curled up in a corner, muttering, I will survive and build a paradise for myself. Then the door is suddenly opened. A girl calls out, I found you. Teacher Oyama looks confused and stutters, What are you doing here? Enomoto, the girl, her face slightly flushed, says, Even though your hands and feet are tied, you still managed to get here. You really are as stubborn as a cockroach, aren't you? I love you, Enomoto, she continues. By the way, teacher, do you have any wishes you want to fulfill? His face smiles faintly as he replies, Huh, Enomoto, what? His words ring out, I once had a dream, a scene of a flower field and a warm family appears. I meet my true love, hold a wedding, and build a happy family. A simple, ordinary dream. Enomoto grips the knife tightly and says, I once wanted to fulfill it. Her face contorts, tears uncontrollably streaming down, but now I can't anymore because you have humiliated me. Oyama, horrified, shouts, Enomoto, what? Please, wait! He shouts loudly, please spare me, I will do anything, I will take responsibility. With that, she plunges the knife straight into his chest. She says, of course you have to take responsibility. Then shadows gradually appear following her words. Not just with me, but the ghosts surround him for the whole class. Teacher, you must bear all of it. And the haunting voices echo, hurry up, overcome it, I will kill you. He continues to plead, please spare me, but then throw him out and laugh, saying, of course it has to be done, you have to take responsibility. Then the shadows began to appear. Following her words, it wasn't just me. The ghosts surrounded him for the whole class. The teacher had to bear it all. The eerie voices echoed, hurry up, get through, I will kill the teacher. He was still pleading, please spare me. But then, the knife strikes kept landing as his miserable screams echoed. Enomoto panted, then laughed loudly and said, this teacher. A price like this is still far too lenient, isn't it? Then her tears began to stream down. There's nothing left anymore. At the same time, the monster behind her also began to act. Meanwhile, Rikuto looked up and shouted, I see it, the door to the rooftop Nishi running from. Behind asked with confusion, but hey Rikuto, what are we going to do? Once we get to the rooftop, Rikuto replied, whatever happens, let's just get up there and figure it out then. Without any hesitation, Rikuto immediately threw the door wide open. Before their group stood Saito, who said formally, I've been waiting for you. Seeing him, a relieved Nishi asked, Saito, are you okay? Kotone also happily called out Saito. From behind Saito, a ghostly figure spoke up. Finally, everyone is gathered. The voice reached Rikuto. I was here waiting for you. Kogen Saito leaned against the iron railing and said arrogantly, everyone, thank you for coming to the rooftop to escort Kotone. You did well. An innocent Nishi scratched his head and said, escort. Hey, are you okay? Saito, did you hit your head somewhere? Rikuto quickly stopped. Him? Wait, Nishi, something isn't right. Saito tilted his head and sneered. Come on, don't be so cold. Behind him, a demonic god appeared. Saito laughed and said, I'm on your side, you know. A terrified Sakura hid behind Tudo and stammered, a monster, a skeletal monster. The young boy. Tudo also shouted in shock. What the hell is that? Rikuto explained. A type of immortal monster. A zombie, I think. Nishi said loudly, they're common in fantasy stories, but now that you mention it, why is that? Monster with Saito. Saito bluntly admitted, him. He is also an ally of mine. Nishi was confused. An ally. Saito recalled the scene of the skeleton crawling out of the wooden box and said, once I let him use my body, he gives me power. He said triumphantly, that's right, a glitch in this world's existence. The mythological summoning system, you get it. Nishi asked, confused. Mythological. Saito sneered, that's not something you need to know. Then he looked up at the sky triumphantly. More importantly, immediately a surge of power shot straight down towards them. A shocked Rikuto exclaimed, what the? Monsters immediately began to spawn from it. Soon a horde of monsters, a true invasion, surrounded Saito. Nishi looked at the scene before him in astonishment and said, what the hell is this? Kotone also quickly covered her mouth and whispered, no, it can't be Sakura then. Repeatedly shook young Tudo while crying, is this real? What on earth is happening? The boy being shaken got dizzy and said, my head is spinning. A shocked Rikuto realized, this is it. It's really just like that time. Saito, now full of pride, showed off his accomplishment. Do you see? This is my power. I have obtained the monster control skill. His words rang out clearly. They're just weaklings for now, but soon I will control even more powerful monsters, Saito shouted, loudly amidst the towering skyscrapers. Do you know what that means? In other words, as long as we're here, we don't have to be afraid of any monster anymore. His voice softened as he said, Kotone, I made you worry, didn't I? But now. It's okay this time, I'll be able to protect you, Saito yelled. You don't need to rely on that bastard Kogen anymore. Then he extended his hand toward her and said, come here with me, Kotone. Let's ensure our survival together in this new world born from the apocalypse. From a distance, Sakura softly called Kotone, then firm voice rang out, no way. A shocked Saito stammered, oh Kotone, you're… She continued, it's hard to believe, but that's your power, right? Saito. Kotone looked at the monsters surrounding Saito and then asked, "Those monsters? The monster invasion that just hit the classroom? You summoned them, didn't you?" "Saito," he casually replied. "Yeah, so what?" Kotan's voice was filled with disappointment and sorrow. "So do you realize they killed one of the girls in our class? Not just her, but probably others too." Saito tilted his head with a puzzled look and replied, "Huh? So what? I really don't need anyone but you, Kotan." Hearing this, Kotan continued, "I get it now. Hey Saito, I really didn't want to say this, but then," her clear voice rang out, "you're not human anymore." He looked back wickedly. "Huh?" Memories started flashing through her mind. Kotan spoke up. "Goblins, slimes, demons, we've faced every kind of monster in this apocalypse. That's exactly why I can tell." Her face streamed with the tears as Kotan screamed, "Saito, right now you're the worst monster of all." Rikuto was also stunned and turned to her. Tachibana Sakura hugged her comfortingly. Saito's face darkened and he tilted his head in confusion. Kotan tears began to unconsciously stream down his own emotionless face. "You're wrong. I'm not a monster. You're wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong!" Saito lost control repeatedly, clutching his head and muttering, "No, no, no!" Nishi shouted from afar. "Hey, this doesn't look good at all." Saito's body was instantly enveloped in blackness as he kept repeating, "You're wrong, right?" At that moment, a latent power emerged. Takeshi spoke up. "This overwhelming presence," the kid Tudo also exclaimed. "Is this for real, Ate?" That moment, Saito had transformed into a demon-headed monster. He said angrily, "Koton, you like that Kogan guy that much, don't you? If you won't belong to me then." Immediately after he spoke, a horde of monsters charged at them from behind. Saito roared, "Fine, I don't need you anymore." Rikuto immediately took a fighting stance and told the two girls behind him, "They're coming. Tachibana Kuzu, get back." She immediately replied, "Got it." Rikuto instantly blocked an attack from a monster as he struggled against its immense and overwhelming power. Sakura screamed with a horrified expression. "Kotan, behind you, Kotan!" Was startled by this. Behind her, a massive monster was swinging its axe down. Seeing this, someone immediately rushed forward and quickly blocked the blow for Kotan, but the monster's attack was too powerful, causing the steel pipe in his hand to bend instantly. The pipe was sent flying and he was thrown back with it. Kotan watched with a worried face. Rikuto. He slammed hard against a nearby wall. Nishi shouted from a distance. Rikuto, Kotan, and Sakura immediately ran to his side. Rikuto Kotan called out worriedly, "Hey, hang in there." Sakura's voice trembled. "What the hell is happening?" Kotan cradled Rikuto's face. In her hands, her expression horrified. "No way. Don't tell me, is someone calling me? What did I do?" The scene before my eyes changed again. Rikuto, wearing a school uniform, was standing in a room. "This is..." He looked around confused. "My room? Why, I was certain I was at school." And someone walked in. A voice rang out from behind him. "You say this is your room. Don't be ridiculous. Even in death, you're so pathetic." Rikuto's face paled. "You're..." He stammered in horror. "Sotaro." The man stood with his hands in his pockets looking at him. "Long time no see, huh?" Rikuto. "In the real world?" Kotan shook his body. "Rikuto, please answer me. Come on." Rikuto remained motionless, not waking up, causing her to embrace him and scream, "No, Tuda!" And Sakura were horrified, refusing to accept the reality before their eyes. "It can't be. This isn't happening." Senior Rikuto Nishi was firing arrow after arrow into the monster. "Damn this monster invasion, you bastards." He fearfully turned to look back at them. "Is it true, Rikuto? Please tell me this isn't real." Nishi was lost in thought and didn't notice a monster attacking him. "Damn it, without you, our survival is impossible. Everyone will be wiped out." Hearing this immediately, Takeshi sent the monster flying with a punch, saving Nishi's life. He collapsed to the ground and looked up at his savior. Senior Yamaoka Takeshi began to rally everyone's morale. "Don't give up, Captain." As other monsters continued to land, Takeshi stood tall, facing them. "No matter how dire the circumstances, we must fight to the very end." That's the kind of person Kogan always wanted to be, right? Nishi stared in amazement as he spoke. Behind them, the other three were moved by Takeshi's resolve and called out, "Senior." Yamaoka Nishi's spirit was reignited and he gripped his bow firmly. That's right. He recalled all the times Rikuto fought to protect everyone. "Rikuto, you were always like this. No matter how hopeless the apocalypse seemed, you never gave up. If I give up, hope for survival here." Nishi drew his bow and felled a monster. "I won't be able to face Rikuto Tuta." Feeling inspired, also joined the monster fight. Me too. Sawa summoned more monsters trying to crush their spirits. "Forget it, Kogan is already dead." His heart has stopped. Koton, you should know that better than anyone. You always wanted to be a doctor. Sakura watched her with concern, softly calling her name. Koton. Koton stopped crying, her expression hardening with resolve. Sakura was taken aback, her face flushing red as she saw Koton press her own lips to Rikuto's. Rikuto, huh? Then she realized her mistake. Oh right, CPR. Koton was performing CPR on Rikuto. I absolutely refuse to give up, she analyzed. If the impact is what caused his heart to stop, then it might not be too late. Sakura watched everyone fighting desperately, trying to save Rikuto. Everyone is giving it their all. I have to do something too. She sat on the ground, took off her backpack, and started thinking. But unlike the previous monster encounter, I can't make any more explosives. What am I supposed to do now? Huh? She spotted a broken steel pipe. Sakura recalled some information she'd heard about an immortal monster, a kind of zombie. I've got an idea. She watched the others fighting the monster invasion. I can do this myself. But Sakura wasn't confident in herself. Honestly, there's absolutely no scientific evidence. I have no idea if this will even be effective. She picked up the shattered steel pipe, but there's no other option but to try it. Sawa, seeing they still wouldn't surrender, grew furious. All of you. What's so special about Kogen anyway? Whoosh! Something zipped past Sawa's horn. It was an arrow from Nishi. We all admire him and are eternally grateful to him. Tuta chimed in. That's right. Jealousy is a really ugly look on you. Sotaro sneered. Hearing this, he covered his face and laughed scornfully. Is that so? His power erupted, summoning even more monster creatures. If that's the case, I'll send all of you to join him. In the illusion, Rikuto was once again defeated at Sotaro's feet as he stomped down on him. You got what you deserved. Rikuto glared up resentfully as Sotaro, like a madman, repeatedly stomped on his head. What is it, Rikuto? Don't you look at me like that. You want to die, don't you? Sotaro relentlessly punched Rikuto in the face. I've taught you since you were a kid that your existence is meaningless. Unlike me, you're useless. Nobody needs you and nobody loves you. He frantically punched and kicked, leaving Rikuto a bloody mess. You're a loser, a piece of trash, a good-for-nothing. You're worthless. He laughed vilely and kicked Rikuto hard, sending him flying. Just die already. Rikuto was being brainwashed by his brother's verbal assault. Yeah, that's right. Maybe I deserve to die. His mind was besieged by an invasion of worthless, meaningless thoughts. A living dead man. Rikuto lay face down on the floor. I tried my best, but in the end, I accomplished nothing. His body began to sink into a black ooze. I've had enough. I'm exhausted. I'll just go back to being a mindless zombie. His despair was absolute. I'll go back to being an emotionless shell like a corpse. But then someone called his name. He felt a hand grasp his. Rikuto. He looked down in surprise as someone held his hand tightly. You can't go back to being alone. It was the friends who had fought alongside him, who cheered for him. Everyone is waiting for you to return. Kotoni, still, with her short hair, held his hand, her face on the verge of tears. So please come back, Rikuto. He looked at her as tears welled up in his eyes and streamed down his face. Kotone. The scene shifted once more. He saw his bastard brother Sotaro. Huh, he looked surprised to see Rikuto rising back up from the black mire. What is this? Rikuto grabbed his leg. That I should die. A while ago I might have believed that, but not anymore. Rikuto pulled 2/3 of his body from the sludge. He held Sotaro's leg firmly. Now I have somewhere to return to. Sotaro angrily swung his fist, aiming to punch Rikuto. You're so stubborn. But he was done just standing there and taking it. Sorry, Sotaro. Rikuto ducked and threw a counterpunch. No matter what you say, I'm still alive. A single punch landed square on Sotaro's face. The illusion of his wretched brother shattered into pieces. The nightmare was over. Time to go back. Everyone is waiting. Rikuto gasped awake. He shot up, coughing violently. Kotone was startled. Rikuto, he saw her. Tachibana. Kotone wiped the tears from her eyes. Thank goodness, I really thought we had lost. You. Rikuto smiled. Tachibana, thank you so much. Kotone looked confused by his thanks. Huh, Rikuto explained. I was alone in a dark, empty void. If you hadn't called out to me, I might have truly become one of the living dead. He smiled brightly again, making Kotone blush furiously. So thank you. Her head was practically steaming as she stammered, It's okay. It's nothing. Inside her heart was racing. I don't really understand, but this is the first time I've seen Rikuto smile like that, so this is good. Sakura approached them, shouldering a dented iron pipe. Rikuto, thank goodness you're okay. He looked over at her. Sakura held out the iron pipe. But this is no time to celebrate. Use this. Rikuto took it and held it up to the sky. This is Sakura's face was filled with pride. It's your trusty iron bat, I modified it with a silvering. Reaction. This whole monster apocalypse reminds me of something. Those creatures are just like figures from mythology, right? Our survival depends on finding their weakness. I used to be really obsessed with a game that featured some super strong monsters like skeletons. But if you use a silver weapon, you can take them down with just one hit. Sakura wasn't too sure about that. She fiddled with her fingers to clarify that it was just in the game. I don't know if it really works. No, the iron pipe has been modified into a sharp, jagged point. It will definitely be effective, Rikuto. Grabbing the weapon, I ran to fight alongside everyone, not forgetting to say, "Thank you, Ku. You're really reliable." "All right, I'll be back soon." Sakura, praised by you, was overwhelmed with joy, and only she replied, "All right, be careful." The three of them saw Rikuto running strong toward them. "Rikuto!" they called out. "Senior Yamaoka Nishi," they exclaimed joyfully. "I knew that kid was still alive. We were worried sick." Tuta's face was bruised, and he looked at Rikuto as if he were a savior. Senior Kogen and Saito were furious to see Rikuto. "You haven't gone to the underworld yet." Kogen wasted no time. "Rikuto, give orders. It's time to fight, so support me." Nishi didn't understand. "Hey, why support you?" He noticed the sharp weapon in Rikuto's hand. Then everyone followed Rikuto's command. "Keep fighting." Nishi shot his bow, realizing what Rikuto meant. "So that's what you meant." The two of them took care of the monsters blocking their path. "All right, leave these to me." Suddenly, two monsters burst forth from the ground and rocks were thrown, hitting the monsters. Tuta, with one eye swollen, still participated, saying, "I won't let you touch even a single hair of Senior Kogen." Rikuto felt moved. "Everyone, you're getting closer." Saito thanked everyone, his deep black eyes staring intensely at Rikuto. Kogen, he frantically attacked Rikuto with a tail made of bones. Rikuto jumped high to dodge Saito. He held the iron rod with a sharp point and thrust it down. "Sorry, buddy!" The sharp point pierced directly into his chest. Blood gushed from the wound and dark energy rose. Saito, unwilling to accept his fate, shouted, "I don't want to die! I don't want to die!" His hand reached out toward Koto, calling her name. But the wound was too deep and Saito slowly faded away. Koto, with tears in her eyes, watched her friend disappear. "I'm really sorry," Nishi said, surprised as the monsters vanished. The monsters that Saito was controlling were disappearing. "What is happening?" The sunlight returned. Takeshi crossed his arms, sighing just like with the clay monster. "So maybe that's it," Tuta recalled and said, "Ah, I understand now." Rikuto lay flat on the ground, the sky clear and blue after such a desperate fight for survival. It truly hit home how much his friends meant to him. They were excitedly running toward Rikuto, feeling the incredible sensation of being alive. And so we were ready to depart again. The black vehicle was loaded with supplies and water. We checked the food and everything was ready. Nishi looked back at the school. "Finally, we can leave this place," he said, feeling a sense of loneliness. Rikuto felt the same. "Yeah, a lot has happened here. Things we couldn't avoid, times we could have saved more people if we had done things differently, but we can't let that stop us from moving forward," Rikuto concluded. Nishi and Koto, hearing these words, were moved. "You're right," Nishi said. "That's true. Seeing this, yes, many things had happened here. Unavoidable things, moments when we could have saved more people if we had acted differently. But we can't let that stop us from moving forward." Rikuto concluded that this is the meaning of living. Nishi and Koto, hearing these words, were moved. He was right. Yes, the three of them, the remaining ones, feel energized with a new beginning. "Kuren, I will do my best." Rikuto sees that. Then declares, "Let's go then, to Amima." The black car slowly rolls forward as Rikuto and the others head towards their next destination, Amima. They believe there is hope there and move straight ahead. But ahead lies a monster resembling Medusa. Struck down in the middle of the road among the monster's remains stands a girl with white hair. She uses a knife to pin a piece of paper to a telephone pole. The paper reads, "This entire area is their den. Do not look into their eyes. Use a mirror." She takes off her hat, revealing a girl with short white hair and emerald green eyes. Her name is Gino. She rides off on a motorcycle, leaving behind an even. A few days after leaving school, we are on our way to Amima. Along the road, many cars are overturned. We face various types of monsters and realize that there are monsters that threaten humans as well as those that do not. Inside the car, some people are sleeping while others look outside. Rikuto checks the map and talks to Nissi. Nissi leans forward and asks Rikuto, "Where are we now?" He points to a spot on the map. "It should be around here, Nissi. It doesn't seem too far away." "We still have enough fuel to get there," he says. The car continues to run smoothly on the road. Rikuto asks, "Why do you look so sad?" "I'm just thinking a bit," Nissi replies. "What are you thinking about?" Rikuto asks. Nissi sadly recounts, "I told you before that I have a younger sister. My family is quite complicated, so I live far away from her. He looks at the dot on the map. Fortunately, the place where my sister is located is near our destination Amima. I just hope she has managed to evacuate safely, but I'm not very confident. Given the state of the world right now, he slumps back in his seat. Maybe I shouldn't Nisi notices Rikuto's downcast mood and doesn't know how to comfort him. It's okay. Rikuto folds the map. I'm sure she'll be fine. Nisi furrows her brow and asks, how can you be so sure? Rikuto replies, because she's your sister, right? Isn't she supposed to be strong and resilient like you? Nisi is taken aback. Rikuto recounts the times they fought together, saying, you survived this long because you're tough, so don't worry too much about it. Nisi's face shows frustration. You're the last person I want to hear that from, she says, leaning closer to Rikuto. All right, I get it. Like you said, worrying won't help. Then she boldly declares, we'll handle everything when we get to Amima, okay? Hearing this, Nisi smiles softly. Rikuto encourages, that's right. Suddenly, Kessie looks back and sees a red-winged monster in the sky. He quickly announces, everyone, we have an enemy targeting us. Nisi leans out to see what it is. A monster resembling a red dragon is flying above their car, roaring fiercely at the moving vehicle. Tuta and Sakura also peek out, terrified at the sight. What is that? What is that? Tuta exclaims. A giant dragon, it's chasing us. Nisi quickly turns to Tachibana and asks, can you shake it off? She grips the steering wheel and replies, okay. Tachibana floors the gas pedal, steering sharply and reminding everyone to hold on tight. The red dragon closes in on them as the car under Tachibana's control narrowly avoids its foot. The dragon sees its prey fleeing and spreads its wings to chase after them, flapping vigorously to catch up with their vehicle. Nisi and Sakura look out to assess the situation. It's too fast, it's about to catch up. The dragon is now right above the roof of the car. Tuta and Sakura, panicked, cover their heads and scream, we're done for! Nisi points in a direction. Tachibana, look, there's another road beside us, she says, indicating an escape route. Saw the red dragon flying above their vehicle, roaring fiercely at the moving car. Tuta and Sakura also peeked out, frightened when they saw it. What is that? What is that? A giant dragon was chasing after them. Nishi quickly turned to ask Koto, Tachibana, can you get rid of its tail? She gripped the steering wheel and replied, okay. She pressed the gas pedal hard and reminded everyone to hold on tight. The red dragon was closing in on them, and under her control the car swerved to avoid its leg. It saw its prey running away, flapping its wings to catch up with their vehicle. Nishi and Sakura, it was moving too fast. It was about to catch up. The dragon was right above the car. Tuta and Sakura, terrified, covered their heads in panic and screamed, we're done for! Nisi pointed in one direction. Tachibana, look. There's another road next to us, he said, indicating an escape route. Hết chúng ta tiêu rồi. Nisi chỉ về một hướng. Tachibana, nhìn kia có một con đường khác bên cạnh cậu, nói lời ra tiếp. We can get off the highway. Tachibana yanked the wheel and took the exit as the red monster saw its prey change course. It roared, but everyone in the car cheered. We did it, we lost it. The red dragon spread its wings, determined to continue the chase. It showed them no mercy and resumed the pursuit. Nishi cursed in frustration. Damn it, this thing is relentless. What do we do now, Rikuto? Rikuto observed, there's no way we can fight that monster. We have to find a way to lose it. Nishi agreed with the assessment. You're right. The dragon was now right on their tail. Its maw stretched wide. Everyone in the car was focused on their desperate survival. We can't die here, not after we've come this far. Meanwhile, a figure stood on a bridge railing. It was the girl with short white hair and jade-green eyes from before. She was looking through binoculars. She saw the red monster chasing a black car and recognized them. It's Gino's group. Standing on the railing, she clicked her tongue in annoyance. Then she hopped onto her motorcycle. Gino sped off the bike, tearing down the road. The red dragon was right behind them, roaring. The car's sunroof was open and Nishi stood up to fire arrows at it. Tuta and Sakura, sitting on either side, cowered away in fear. At this rate, we'll run out of steam, Nishi grumbled, frustrated. His arrows were having no effect on the monster. One arrow he fired struck the dragon's neck, but it didn't even leave a scratch. Nishi dropped back down, his voice filled with dread as he reported, it's no good. It didn't even flinch. Rikuto assessed their dire situation. It looks like all we can do is run for our lives. Suddenly he yelled as he saw the car was about to hit a pillar. Tachibana, watch out, we're going to crash! Tachibana swerved hard to the left. The dragon continued flying straight ahead. The car veered sharply left. The group was thrown around inside the vehicle as they watched the monster slam into the pillar. They all shouted in relief. We lost it. Nishi praised her. Awesome move, Tachibana. It's too big to make a sharp turn like that. Tuta sat beside them, pale and breathless. I can't breathe. Sakura's eyes, however, sparkled like stars as she clapped her hands in praise. Tachibana, you're amazing. You've got the skills of a professional racer. Hearing their praise, she just gave a wry smile. Suddenly, the car gave a violent shudder and began to slow down. Everyone panicked. What's happening? Why are we stopping, Tachibana? She was confused. I don't know. I'm flooring the gas pedal, but it's not working, Rikuto guessed. Maybe the engine's busted after that maneuver. The car came to a complete stop. The dragon had recovered. It spread its wings and flew towards them. It's coming, Rikuto yelled. Everyone get out of the car. Now they threw the doors open and scattered, running for their lives. Just as they escaped, a giant foot of the monster crushed the car flat. It targeted Sakura, who was the slowest to get out. Tuta screamed in fear. Senpai, the dragon's sharp horned tail stabbed towards her. Sakura was frozen to the spot, paralyzed by fear. I'm sorry. Please don't eat me. Fortunately, Rikuto swept her up and dodged the attack. Being carried princess style by him made Sakura blush slightly. How could it let them escape? The red monster roared at the two of them. Takeshi, using his incredible strength, lifted a massive boulder. He shoved it into this monster's maw. Seeing this, Rikuto's face lit up. Senpai Ryomaoka. Beside him, Nishi drew his bow and fired. At this range, the arrow slammed directly into the red dragon's eye. The monster shrieked in pain, flapping its wings wildly and stomping its feet. Everyone seized the opportunity to flee during this brutal monster invasion. Let's get out of here, Nishi asked Rikuto. But what do we do now? Rikuto didn't have an answer. I don't know. In this apocalypse, our survival depends on finding a safe place first. Suddenly he stopped and looked up at the sky. What are you staring at? Rikuto, why did you stop? The other three looked up at the sky, filled with confusion and fear. What is that? No, it can't be. What is that thing? More red dragons are flying this way. They were completely surrounded by the damn monster invasion. This entire area is their territory. Nishi, stay alert. Rikuto, behind us, there's another monster too. It's closing in on us. It's the one Nishi shot in the eye and it's roaring. It looks like our survival is at stake. We're surrounded and the other monsters are all attacking in unison. Rikuto grabs a steel pipe standing in front of Koton Run Tachibana. She cries out his name. Rikuto! A gunshot rings out. The dragons look up at the sky when they see something. It's a signal flare. A blinding light explodes, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. The intense light sends the dragons into a chaotic retreat. Rikuto watches them fly away in shock, amazed that the dragons are actually leaving. Nishi wonders what the hell just happened. What was that light? Jinko's vehicle suddenly stops nearby. Looks like I made it just in time. She leans against her car, looking at them all. The group hiding behind Takeshi peeks out at her. Huh? Who is that? Another survivor. Jinko raises the red flare gun she just used, explaining those things are called W's. They react to flashing lights and tend to gather around them. But using a flare is just a temporary trick for survival. They'll be back soon enough. Jinko climbs into her car and points the way. This way. Koton tries to ask, who are you? But she snaps irritably. Hurry up. Or do you want to become a meal for that zombie monster horde? Koton gets spooked and immediately agrees. Okay, Nishi asks in confusion. So what do we do now? Rikuto says, honestly, this person is a little suspicious. But in this apocalypse, we don't have any other choice. Nishi knows he's right. You're right. Seeing their decision, Jinko scoffs coldly. The group starts running together, following her car. Let's go, everyone. The others have already headed down into the underpass, but Sakura is still on the main road. Nishi and Tuta shout this way. Hurry up. A red monster is right on her tail, roaring loudly. She's terrified and about to cry. Get away, just before its jaws could clamp down on her. Sakura manages to leap down into the underpass and Takeshi catches her. I thought I was dead. Nishi reminds her, it was right on your tail. Jinko speaks up, shattering the tense silence. The worst is yet to come. She says irritably, thanks a lot, you idiots. The plan is ruined. Nishi flinches. What idiots? She smirks, driving a car into this area. If that's not idiotic, I don't know what is. Tuta and Sakura look bewildered. We were desperate. You don't have to talk to us like that. Rikuto steps forward to defend them. Tuta quietly calls out, Senpai. He offers Jinko a polite, friendly smile. We don't know your circumstances, but thank you for saving us. She just clicks her tongue and turns away. Nishi is confused as she starts guiding her car downwards. Hey, where are you going? Jinko doesn't explain, just says, let's go. Or don't, it's up to you. Everyone hesitates, not knowing what to do. Rikuto makes the call, let's go. The whole group follows her into a gloomy, dark passage. Rikuto, carrying the steel pipe on his shoulder, asks Jinko, is it safe in here? What about the monsters? She replies, this area is safe, we've already cleared it out. He catches the keyword we. She continues, you're heading to Amima, right? You aren't the only ones? Nishi is shocked. Wait, there are other people here, Jinko says nonchalantly. Of course there are. There's a pretty large group just ahead. It's better than wandering aimlessly in this apocalypse. She looks a little sad as she says it. Maybe so. Hearing that there are other survivors, the group's spirits lift. Sakura exclaims, "That's great, we're saved, Nishi." Agrees, yeah, what a relief. I was a little worried too, but it seems our survival is assured. But then he sees the expression on her face. Rikuto was worried except for the cheerful faces of the two girls in the group. He noticed Jinko's intense expression. Everyone continued walking into a dark path. Sakura, exhausted, asked, "Is it still far? We've been walking for a long time." Jinko looked ahead. She replied, "Just a little further. Look, there's light at the end of the tunnel." That meant everyone perked up when they saw. The others were there with a fire and a makeshift shelter. Tuta squinted against the sudden light while Sakura cheerfully exclaimed, "Is this it I see?" It was an entire underground neighborhood. People climbed up gradually. Rikuto helped Tuta up while Nissi looked around. Although he found the surroundings quite gloomy, he assessed, "The atmosphere here is strange." Suddenly there was a shout from Jinko. "You little brat!" 3 thugs were looking at her, led by Ejima Mei, a real scumbag. He grabbed her shirt after abandoning the hunt. Amidst the rubble, he shoved Gino, causing her to slam into a wall. "You think you can just come back here whenever you want?" Ejima pressed her head hard against the wall. "You brat, you only do what you want. Have you forgotten that the rules are everything for our survival here?" He snarled, grabbing her hair. Gino's hair. "Do you want to become one of them, a mindless zombie?" Ejima, enraged by her silence, raised his fist, threateningly. "Say something, brat." A steel pipe blocked his way as Rikuto used its curved end to hook his fist, stopping Ejima. "Stop it!" He whipped around. What his shoulder was gripped tightly, looking extremely painful. It was Kishi who warned him. Ejima clutched his shoulder and shouted in frustration, "It's one thing after another. Who the hell are you people?" The 3 of them glared at him unpleasantly, and he understood. That defiant look. "So that's how it is." Ejima, still clutching his aching shoulder, spoke strangely to them. "You're the rebels who think that the rules don't matter, right?" He ordered his underlings. "Let's see how we teach you a lesson. Get them." A red-haired man stopped them. "Stop it right now." Ejima looked at him as the man clicked his tongue. "For real." Hayaki spoke up to mediate. "What's the point of going against the rules like this?" A flustered Ejima explained. "Hayaki, these brats started it." Hayaki said nothing and just gave a dark smile that silenced Ejima. Never mind, it's nothing." He spoke on Ijima's behalf too. "Rikuto's group. I'm very sorry about Ejima. They just got back from a hunt, so they're in a bit of a mood." Nishi heard the strange new word. "A hunt," he explained. Well." Hayaki rubbed his chin, feigning understanding. "I see. You all are also on your way to Amima City and ended up here, right?" "Yes." Suddenly he expressed a desire to cooperate. "In that case, let's help each other out." Gino stood silently in a corner as Hayaki continued his long-winded speech. "What do you say? Please join our community." He spread his arms persuasively. "It's everyone's last hope to reach Amima City together, isn't it?" Rikuto and Nishi were silent and looked at each other. A moment later, the scene shifts to a desolate room. Here, a beaming Hayaki began to speak. "Welcome, everyone." He immediately started his charming speech. "On behalf of everyone here, allow me to welcome you with open arms. I am the leader here, Hayaki. It's a pleasure to meet you." As he spoke, he let out a smug chuckle. Seeing this, Nishi, standing to the side, interjected, "Hayaki, what about the situation here?" At these words, Hayaki didn't hesitate and replied, "Of course I'll start from the beginning." He emphatically stated with conviction, "The day the Great Apocalypse happened across the country, the majority of humanity was lost on that day. It's completely understandable because from every single smartphone a monster appeared. The sheer number was truly overwhelming. It would have been a different story if the Japan Self-Defense Forces had been prepared to deal with it, but it happened so suddenly they didn't stand a chance. Modern society was destroyed in an instant. Furthermore, according to rumors in the middle of military bases all over the world, giant dragons like something from a fairy tale appeared. It seems the entire military force was wiped out on that day." Hearing this, Kotone couldn't help but be horrified. "No way." The young woman's face turned pale with confusion. "So that's the reason the Japan Self-Defense Forces didn't come to save us no matter how long we waited." Sakura, standing beside her, added in shock, "This is insane. We're really in the endgame now." At her words, Rikuto, standing to the side, thought to himself, "However, if that's true, then something isn't right. Why would such a powerful monster appear at military facilities as if they were being directed? It was intentional." This is suspicious. He hesitated for a moment, remembering that he had mastered the technique to control them, the monster. That's right, Rikuto thought to himself, there's a flaw in this world, this mythical summoning system of yours. See, just like that, he slowly realized it all. That's it. The monsters that appear all follow a common pattern. There is some kind of arrangement in this apocalypse. Rikuto wondered to himself, could there be someone behind all of this, a mastermind? Mastermind behind the apocalypse. Who could they be? As he thought this, Rikuto grimaced. At that moment, Hizaki, who was standing nearby, suddenly spoke up. Let me continue. He quickly explained, although many people in the world have died, luckily, there are still survivors like us and you folks. We all banded together for survival and somehow managed to connect to the internet. We learned that Amima City was still safe and headed in that direction, a gathering of survivors just like us. Luckily, there are still a few cities in the world that can withstand this monstrous invasion, and Amima City is one of them. For us, Amima City is our last hope. Hearing this, Tuta was ecstatic and immediately replied, we thought if we could just get there, we'd be saved. Indeed, Sakura, standing to the side, chimed in with joy. I can actually see a glimmer of hope. But then Rikuto hesitantly interjected. However, we can't reach Amima by land. That's right, isn't it? At this, Hizaki helplessly conceded it was an accurate assessment. He continued grimly, you must have encountered them too. Those flying dragon monster creatures. Indeed, that girl with the white hair saved us. This entire area is a dragon's nest. The road to Amima City is occupied by hordes of flying dragons. No amount of resistance can get past them. They attack from above in massive numbers and that's the end of it. Hizaki frowned helplessly, saying so. Reaching Amima City through the underground is also a huge task. We're trapped. Hearing this, Nishi immediately asked, a huge task. Why is that? Without any hesitation, Hizaki said decisively, there's a terrifying monster lurking underground, a grotesque giant earthworm. A worm? We've lost several members because of it. Upon hearing that, the group anxiously asked if that's the case. Doesn't that mean it's dangerous here too? Without hesitation, Hizaki replied, luckily the worm is weakened by light, so the platform area is safe. In that sense, this place is much safer than the surface. This is all too terrible. Sakura cried out, clutching her head. But now we're completely stuck. Tuta also became frantic. What are we going to do now? Immediately? Hizaki warmly reassured them. Please calm down, everyone. Actually, we have a survival plan to get out of this situation. Hearing this, the group grew excited and asked, really, is it true? Hizaki's face lit up. For that very reason, we're all cooperating, dividing up the tasks and working hard every day. With that, he took the initiative and made an offer. What do you all think? Are you willing to lend us your strength? At his words, Nishi looked a bit troubled and turned to ask Rikuto, what should we do? Without any hesitation, Rikuto calmly replied, just like before, we don't have any other choice. As long as we are here, we must cooperate. Then Nishi turned for a moment to gauge the others' reactions. What about the rest of you given the situation? Everyone in their group nodded repeatedly in agreement. This is really quick. Hayaki immediately brightened up and laughed loudly. Wonderful, thank you everyone. So let's decide. Your mission will be to hunt. Jino suddenly appeared from afar, resolutely emphasizing her words. Hayaki, a bit confused, asked, hunt? What do you mean? Once again, Jino grimly stressed, we're short on people, so let them join that group. Upon hearing this, Rikuto and Nishi were at a loss for words, unsure of what to say next. Suddenly, Hayaki abruptly agreed. That's right, I feel guilty asking you to do something so dangerous, but in the end, someone has to do it. He quickly smiled and made a decision. All right, we will let the boys join the hunting group. Tuta, hearing this, was startled. Are you making us do dangerous work? In a moment, Hizaki showed visible displeasure and replied, but what about the girls? We can't let them do dangerous work. Then he suddenly suggested, how about they do the cooking? But then a loud voice interrupted Hayaki from afar. Jinko shouted, we already have enough people for cooking. I suddenly came up with a great idea, let's cook. But then a loud voice interrupted Hayaki, digging in. Seeing this, Hayaki hesitated for a moment, but I think that might be a bit difficult for the girls. True, she said, making sense. In an instant, Aki agreed and spoke up. All right, you two will join the digging group. Upon hearing this, Sakura couldn't help but feel disheartened and sighed. Our job is really terrible. I'd rather cook. Tuta eagerly chimed in, unsure if they could manage. Then Jino proactively started a conversation. I admit it's really terrible. I'd rather cook than deal with this. She quickly agreed, not knowing what we were getting into. So you guys are here for your first mission? Immediately, Nishi felt shy and replied, okay, nice to meet you. In a moment, she took the initiative to introduce herself. Jinko, a hunter. Upon hearing this, Nisi didn't hesitate to ask, "So what do we have to do?" "What else hunt, of course," Jinsi said confidently. She suddenly added with a growl, "Because of you, we can't get what we want. You all have to make up for that loss." Hearing this, Tuta unexpectedly called out softly to Rikuto. The voice added, "Because of you, we can't get what we want. You need to compensate for the damage." Hearing this, she was taken aback, but he confidently reassured her, "Don't worry, Chibana, we'll be fine. We'll come back." Upon hearing this, Tuta had no choice but to agree. "All right, stay safe." Seeing the situation dragging on, Jin-si immediately urged, "Let's go already." With that, Rikuto nodded. He suddenly encouraged everyone, "Let's go." No hesitation. They quickly responded, "Yes, sir," in the town adjacent to Amima. Heading south to Minami Azahara, this area had become a den for the one species, forcing the residents to flee. The area near Minami Azahara has become a nest for the one species, forcing the residents to flee. Survival underground came with its own problems, though. Indeed, at that very moment, a resident suddenly yelled out, "Can't this mad dash slow down a little?" He immediately reminded them sternly, "There are women and children here." But in response, the other person bluntly scolded him, "You idiot, what are you trying to do if that monster catches up to us? Besides, there might be a monster in this tunnel." Indeed, just as he finished his sentence, a tremor suddenly shook the ground. The crowd instantly panicked. "Is that an earthquake or what?" From the distance, a giant monster suddenly charged towards them. It swiftly aimed its claws directly at their group, and just like that, the direct route from Minami Azahara to the city, Gandal, of Amima had become the nesting ground for a giant worm. So neither the surface nor the underground was safe for survival, and we were forced to. While fortifying the station, the man hesitantly explained as they walked. Then a look of glee crossed his face as he revealed what Hazaki had come up with, an idea for something unrestored, making Nisi momentarily curious. What does unrestored mean? Just then the man slyly answered with a sinister grin, "It's a train, a locomotive." The man bluntly emphasized that we just need to deal with that damn giant earthworm monster. We need to use the train's power to crush it. At these words, Nisidias nodded. "I understand." Then the man once again continued in a calm tone, "Luckily there's a train near the station that looks usable, but it's buried in the rubble from the apocalypse. So it needs to be excavated and repaired." Hearing this, Tuta began to understand, recalling, "So this is the excavation that Tachibana Senpai, and so this is the place Senior Kuzu was talking about. I wonder if they can even pull it off," Rikuto said, shaking his head in doubt. Noticed Jinko's strange expression, but before he could think too much about it, the man leading them spoke up again. He took the initiative to say the train will take some time to fix, and that's when we hunters come into play. Nishi replied instantly, "I understand." He quickly caught on, guessing, "So collecting supplies to ensure our survival. Underground is also called hunting." At this, the leader seemed offended and shot back, "That's right. I don't have a problem with smart kids like you," he suddenly growled, emphasizing, "We are the elite team that supports this entire community. We don't need useless or stupid people. The rejects will be used as monster bait. Got it?" After saying that, he immediately burst out laughing. Tuta stood to the side and turned pale, wondering, is hunting really such a dangerous job? Over here, Nisi grimly remarked, "We've gotten ourselves into a terrible situation." Rikuto replied helplessly, "There's no other way. Someone has to do this now that we've been accepted into the community. We have to follow the rules." Saying that, he resolutely stepped forward, and the others agreed with a nod. Right suddenly, as if realizing something, Nisi unexpectedly spoke up, asking, "Are these people really fulfilling an obligation? So newcomers like us have no right to complain?" Right in response, Rikuto hesitated for a moment, but there is something a little strange. Seeing his expression, Nisi was shocked and quietly called out, "Rikuto, really?" Rikuto immediately continued piecing things together. Isn't their morale and unity abnormally high? Hearing this, Nisi suddenly wondered, high morale is a good thing, isn't it? After all, we're on our way to the surface. That's right, it's definitely dangerous up there. You could lose your life to a monster or even a lone zombie at any moment. Rikuto agreed with a nod. He wondered to himself for a moment, even though this is a job everyone wants to push onto others, they're so positive about doing it. Hearing this, Nishi immediately recalled, "Now that I think about it, at school there was a huge argument over who would go get supplies. I guess Mr. Hizaki is really amazing, huh? He has that leadership charisma, doesn't he?" he said with a smug snort. Very quickly after that, Rikuto mumbled, "Yeah," and added, "Besides, there's one other strange thing." He immediately emphasized the monster on the route to Amima City is a worm, right? Why doesn't it but before he could finish his sentence, the leader once again angrily snapped, "Hey, what are you newcomers whispering about? We're heading up to the surface from here," he suddenly yelled. Hearing that, Tuta paled and forced a smile. "So it's time." "Really?" Nissi frowned with determination. "We just have to do it." Very quickly, the group moved to a certain base. Here they carefully rode an elevator up, standing before the exit. The leader immediately confirmed, "The exit to the surface is right there." He instantly put on a serious face and said loudly, "Listen up everyone, the plan is simple. We'll use a flare to attract the attention of the monster horde, and in the meantime, we'll gather supplies from the target facility. That's the hunter's job. But we're running low on flares, so we can't waste them." At these words, both Nishi and Rikuto couldn't help but frown. Once again, the leader spoke up. Decisively, he said, "That means we need to know where the monster is and its exact numbers, understand?" Hearing this, Rikuto wondered, "What do you mean?" Without a hint of hesitation, he suggested, "Go outside for a bit. You newbies want to be our companions, don't you? Then prove that you can be useful." As he spoke, he couldn't stop an excited chuckle. Then the leader's demeanor suddenly flipped as he goaded, "Or what are you going to refuse? Just admit you're useless trash right now." These words struck Nishi, leaving him momentarily at a loss for words. "What should we do, Rikuto? These guys are really messed up. With this situation, it's no surprise if they see us as disposable pawns." Hearing this, Rikuto briefly frowned, lost in thought. Out of options, he decided to speak up. "All right, But before Rikuto could finish his sentence, Jino cut him off from a distance. "I'll go. Is that okay?" As she spoke, she gave Rikuto a determined look. Staring at her, Rikuto was momentarily stunned, thinking to himself, "Fui Jinko." Hearing this, the leader became slightly annoyed and chided Jino. "You've really changed, haven't you? You're being pretty nice to the rookies." But in response, Jino bluntly continued, "That's irrelevant. The reconnaissance mission is just too important. A small mistake in creating a diversion could get the whole squad annihilated. I don't want to entrust it to a rookie, that's all." After saying that, her expression turned serious. Seeing this, Rikuto, standing to one side, immediately spoke up. "Then I'll go too." Nishi was also stunned by Rikuto's declaration. At his words, Jino bluntly questioned him. "Weren't you listening to me? I'm saying you'll just get in the way. Or what, you think you're some kind of knight?" Without any hesitation, Rikuto firmly stated, "It's not like that." He added in a low voice, "I just think it's better to have two people on reconnaissance. In a worst-case scenario during this apocalypse, one person can act as bait. If you want to increase the chances of survival, this way is smarter, isn't it?" Hearing that, Jino felt helpless, thinking to herself, "This kid." With no other choice, she clicked her tongue and turned away. Jino instantly relented after a moment. "Fine, just do whatever you want then." "I'll do just that," Rikuto said with a smile as he started to leave. Seeing how things were unfolding, Nishi, standing to the side, immediately spoke up. He declared, "Rikuto, I'll go with you." But at these words, Rikuto flatly stopped him. "It's okay, Nishi, you just wait here." With that, Rikuto decisively turned around. "I have no intention of becoming a disposable pawn. I will definitely ensure my survival and return." Very quickly, Jino shot forward and urged, "All right, let's go. Immediately." Rikuto's face turned serious as he agreed. About 15 minutes into their reconnaissance, looking at the surrounding scenery, Jino thought to herself, "These narrow alleys are safe because they're too narrow for the monster invasion to pass through, huh?" Suddenly, Jino's actions caught Rikuto's attention. He spoke up and asked, "What are you doing?" Without hesitation, Jino sighed and replied, "Mr. That's the name of this type of weed. Hey, that's a type of monster, so don't even touch it. If you're careless enough to pull it out, it'll let out a horrifying shriek at close range. It could even kill you." Hearing that, Rikuto instantly realized what it was. "Oh, right. I think I've seen a species like this. A plant like this in a movie before." Meanwhile, Jino swiftly carved a warning in front of the monster's location. "Do not pull." Seeing this, Rikuto immediately thought to himself, "This warning sign, it's just like those others, isn't it?" He suddenly recalled. Those strange lines of text. "Danger monster, stay away. We will eliminate the source of this invasion. Remove the letter E from its head." All of a sudden, Jino spoke up, questioning him sharply. "You really don't know anything at all, do you? What are you even doing out here?" She immediately sneered at him. "If you're just trying to act tough because I'm a girl, that's seriously pathetic. I'd stop it. I'm not doing this for you." But in response, Rikuto declared with conviction, "I'm doing this to earn the community's trust. I need to contribute even if it means taking risks. The strength of our community is the most important thing for our survival. In this apocalypse, it's like paying a necessary price," Rikuto said, looking at Jino with a resolute stare. At the same time, he thought to himself, "Fortunately, with Senior Yamaoka still behind us, those guys won't dare to try anything." Rikuto quickly pressed on, "That makes sense, right?" At his words, Gino could only sigh in exasperation. "Makes sense," she scoffed. In an instant, she lunged forward with a devastating kick. In that life-or-death moment, Rikuto dodged back just in time, narrowly escaping. Seeing this, Gino couldn't hold back her scorn. How ridiculous, even absurdity has its limits. The words had barely left her mouth when Gino lunged at Rikuto again. She suddenly stomped hard on the ground, gaining momentum as she unpressed her advantage, soaring into the air for a surprise attack. Fortunately, Rikuto managed to block the lethal blow just in time. But right after Gino unleashed another relentless barrage of kicks, facing this onslaught, Rikuto desperately thought, at least to himself, "She's so fast it's almost inhuman, but she has no real fighting stance. Her attacks are just a clumsy, relying solely on raw physical power." He thought with determination, "I can block these easily, but, I have no intention of attacking her with this steel pipe." In that moment, Rikuto suddenly stopped dead in his tracks, allowing Gino to grab him by the collar. He stood perfectly still as she slammed him down hard onto the ground. Without a moment's hesitation, Gino pressed a knife to Rikuto's throat. She immediately chided him, "Like I told you, you're just too weak." In an instant, Gino leaped back. Grabbing a railing, she easily launched herself up, climbing between, the stories. She then began moving effortlessly between the buildings as Rikuto watched in utter amazement. Gino called back sternly, "Scolding. You're just a burden. Go back before you get in my way." But Rikuto immediately replied, Tim with firm resolve, "Wait, Fusus. No matter how strong you are, going alone is reckless. The old rules don't apply. To a monster like that, I don't know how many battles you've survived, but a single moment of carelessness could, get you killed." Hearing this, Gino just scoffed and replied, "That sounds pretty arrogant. Why don't you try taking me down first, before you say things like that? Anyway, you should head back to the outpost. See you later." And with that, Gino vanished in an instant. Ignoring Rikuto's desperate screams, Furious watched Jinko's retreating figure as Rikuto momentarily fell into silence. The scene shifts to the rooftop of a building where Jinko was relentlessly counting the monsters below. 1, 2, 3. "No problem, that area is still safe," she said, letting out a sigh of relief as Jinko seriously told herself, "All right, piece of cake. A Wuvan monster this big is easy to spot from afar. As long as we keep our distance, this invasion won't detect us." With that, she leaped away decisively. "Enemy spotted. It's time to head back. All right, on my way. I'll just grab a few supplies." As Jinko moved, she kept calculating but quickly sighed in frustration. Damn, in this respect too. Bringing that idiot back was the right call. Jinko immediately leaped, vaulting between buildings and landing with ease. She landed gently, map in hand. Jinko pondered her route, thinking to herself, now the safe path back to the shelter is right through here. Suddenly, a strange silhouette appeared in the distance, instantly piquing her curiosity. Jinko was momentarily stunned by the sight before her, realizing with dawning horror, what the hell is this, a miniature Wuvan? I've never seen a monster like this before. Her attention was immediately drawn to a clutch of hatching eggs right in front of her. Jinko was horrified, thinking, those are eggshells. Which means, just as she had that thought, the monster suddenly charged from the distance, launching its attack on Jinko. Terrified, she scrambled backward, Rikuto's earlier warning flashing in her mind. No matter how strong you are, going it alone is still reckless. Common sense doesn't apply to them. Jinko fled in a panic with the relentless pursuit of the horde of monsters. She panted heavily in pain, and words of self-reproach flooded Jinko's mind during this desperate fight for survival. Everyone sees me as a freak. My hair and eye color, my physical abilities that far exceed human limits. Suddenly, from the intense exertion, her wound burst open. Jinko cried out in pain, lost her footing, and collapsed to the ground. Her heart ached as she thought, no one is on my side. There never has been anyone. Instantly, Jinko's memories flashed back to a time before the apocalypse at her old familiar school. A group of girls were gossiping non-stop. So is it true? Suddenly, one of them deliberately spoke louder, her words a clear provocation. You know Furious, right? She's such a total fake. Annoying as hell, right? The other person laughed and replied, yeah, right. Thinks she's the center of the universe just because she's a little pretty. I heard her hair and eyes are natural. That's so creepy. Hearing this, a helpless Jinko could only remain silent. Emboldened, the girls pressed on with their gossip. Hey, have you heard the rumor? They say she's involved in some shady business. Really? That's so disgusting. A moment later, the scene shifts to outside the school where Jinko had easily taken down a man who was now panting on the ground before her. So strong. What the hell is she? With a single command to get lost, she easily made the other guys run for their lives. "We're sorry," Jinko immediately walked over to the victim. "Are you okay? Did those scumbags do anything to you?" But in response, the girl looked at her with disgust. "Stay away from me!" she sobbed, recoiling in fear. "Monster!" Her words wounded Jinko, who froze on the spot. Helpless, she thought to herself, "That's right. I'm a monster. No one wants me around. That's why I can't expect anything from anyone." Back in the present, Jinko lay sprawled and defeated on the ground. She struggled to get up, a wave of pain washing over her as she thought, "I've lived this way until now, and in this apocalypse, nothing is ever going to change." It's true. A fleeting memory of her mother surfaced in Jinko's mind. "It's all right, Jinko. You have a kind heart, and one day, you'll meet someone who understands you. I'm sure you'll become friends with them in no time." Thinking back, Jinko was now completely drained and lying helpless on the ground. The monster horde seized the opportunity, immediately rushing in for the attack. Realizing her survival was hanging by a thread, Jinko's eyes welled up with tears. "Mom, you were just lying to me. In the end, there was no one at all." And then suddenly, from the distance, a figure suddenly dashed in. It was Rikuto. He effortlessly took down the monster that was looming over Jinko. Her eyes widened in astonishment. She blurted out, "What are you doing here?" Without a moment's hesitation, Rikuto replied with a stern face, "Stay put and don't move." Then he quickly rummaged inside his jacket, thinking to himself, "Good thing I brought this along just in case of a worst-case scenario." In an instant, Rikuto pulled out his secret weapon. Seeing the object in his hand, Jinko was instantly horrified. "A flare? Don't tell me you're actually going to do it." Rikuto immediately dashed away, shouting decisively, "This way, you monsters!" Very quickly, the pack of monsters took the bait and swarmed after him. In the face of this desperate survival situation, Jinko could only watch in horror. "You idiot, those things are attracted to light," but paying her no mind, Rikuto kept running. As he reached an alley, he felt a moment of triumph, thinking to himself, "Good, everything is still going according to plan. Now it just depends on whether I can lead them to that location." But before he could think any further, a monster suddenly closed the distance behind him. It raised its sharp tail, ready to eliminate him, but luckily Rikuto managed to block it just in time. He had a narrow brush with death, but he still couldn't avoid getting injured. Rikuto gritted his teeth and backed away, thinking to himself, "They're too fast. I can't escape them just by running on foot, but all I can do is run." Instantly, Rikuto turned to flee again, but then he froze at the sight before him. Rikuto was stunned, as he realized, no wonder they weren't all chasing me. High in the sky, massive dragon-like creatures were gathering, arriving and appearing all at once before Rikuto's horrified gaze. This wasn't just a chase, it was a full-scale monster invasion. They had called for reinforcements, and just like that, they began to dive towards him. Rikuto had no choice but to brace for a fight, but he hesitated for a moment, faltering with dread. Meanwhile, Jinko was still trying to crawl forward, cursing, "Damn it!" She couldn't stop cursing that guy's name. What was he planning to do after luring that monster away from me? Just then, a horrifying sight appeared before Jinko's eyes. She blurted out, "No way, that idiot Kogen Rikuto, are you trying to get yourself killed?" A wave of regret washed over Jinko as she knelt, thinking of him now. Countless dark shadows were converging over the city sky. It wasn't a flock of birds, but a horde of monsters. At the same time, Rikuto was being relentlessly pursued by the monster swarm. As he ran, he gasped for breath and thought, "Just a little further. Please, body, just hold on until then," he thought, trying to reassure himself. In the next instant, a monster caught up to him without warning. Just like that, it sank its teeth into Rikuto with a sickening crunch. The searing pain caused him to immediately collapse to the ground. Rikuto's entire body trembled as he thought, "My leg, I can't go on. Is this really where my struggle for survival ends? Right here." But in this very next second, his eyes shot wide open in shock. From the distance, a massive swarm of monsters descended upon him. Rikuto just sat there, helpless, staring into the hopeless void of the apocalypse. His face darkened as he finally gave up. It looks like this game is over. Checkmate. But just then, the vine monster horde was pushed back. They were thrown yards away from Rikuto in an instant. That horrifying sound quickly echoed all around the area. Over here, Gino heard it and was utterly stunned. She cried out in pain, quickly covering her ears. Gino collapsed to the ground, screaming as she clutched her head. Thinking to herself, that terrible sound couldn't be from that idiot, could it? Gino immediately scrambled to her feet and ran. Damn it! A moment later, the scene shifts to a small alley where Gino suddenly stops. She couldn't help but be shocked by the scene before her. What is this? She stood stunned for a long moment, staring at the monster corpses. sprawled all over this ground. Her heart ached as she thought they're all dead. Without a moment's hesitation, Gino quickly rushed forward. She found Rikuto and spoke in a low, trembling voice. Rikuto, I can't believe you pulled up the mandrake. Don't pull it. You'll die if you hear it scream at close range. I told you, you idiot. As she scolded him, tears began to well up in Gino's eyes, ready to fall. Then it dawned on her and she asked, Did you sacrifice your life just to save me? Why would you do that? At her words, Rikuto's eyes slowly fluttered open. He woke up with a start, sitting bolt upright, which made Gino jump back in shock. Her entire body trembled and she was speechless for a moment before Gino let out a terrified scream. Her scream echoed all around. After a moment, she finally managed to ask why. How are you still alive? Your ear is bleeding. Look! As she said that, her attention was drawn to Rikuto's ear. You didn't. Gino was shocked when he didn't react to her words at all. In that moment, Rikuto had made a huge gamble. The scene flashes back to just before the monster invasion was repelled. He was about to pull up the mandrake. He pressed his hands firmly against his ears, using the air pressure to rupture his own eardrums, then immediately yanked the mandrake out. By deafening himself beforehand, he avoided the mandrake's deadly scream. Back in the present, a stunned Gino asked, He ruptured his own eardrums. Just how insane is he? The horrified girl thought to herself, absolutely stunned. Instantly, Gino began to tremble with rage. She yelled at him furiously, Are you completely insane? You're such an idiot! She yelled while slinging Rikuto's arm over her shoulder to help him up. Sure, eardrums heal, but who would go this far for a stranger? Gino continued to berate Rikuto without stopping. Looking at his dazed expression, she finally shouted, Oh my god! You can't even hear what I'm saying? What a pain! Gino sighed helplessly for a moment. But for someone like you, I think I can tell you everything about how this apocalypse began. At this, Gino's voice grew somber and quiet. She stressed, Why did this monster invasion start in this world? What was the reason? Gino reassured herself with a determined whisper, I can tell you everything. My mother. Gino then took a precious item from her bag, too emotional to speak. And just like that, the door to the truth about their survival began to open. In another room, a sudden startled cry rang out. The Wyons. A group of people huddled together, talking over each other. Ijima, this is really bad. Hearing this, Ijima shouted, Calm down, you idiots. But then he too lowered his voice. But this means people will die if we keep going like this. It seems we need to rethink our hunting strategy. Immediately, Ijima turned and clapped Rikuto on the shoulder, praising him. Anyway, you did a great job. Not bad. I'll have to add some points to your evaluation for that. Seeing Ijima's rough pat, Gino immediately stopped him and said, Hey, he's injured. Don't pat him so hard like that. Seeing this, Tuta, who was standing aside, couldn't hold back and spoke up to Senior Kurogen, and Nishi followed suit. Also chimed in, Honestly, you're always pulling reckless stunts like that. You probably can't even hear me. Right now, can you? Rikuto remained silent, lost in thought for a long time. The scene then shifts and 2 weeks have passed. After joining the community, the group was now in the process of relocating. Rikuto felt a moment of satisfaction, thinking to himself that going deaf that day was worth it. Because of that, their group earned the respect of the man who now had to bow his head to them, which accomplished his initial goal. He had won the community's trust. From that point on, his group was no longer treated unfairly. Ijima fired a flare into the sky, interrupting Rikuto's tangled thoughts. However, danger is a constant companion in the work of a hunter in this apocalypse. They face death every single day. Ijima commanded them to push the supply cart with a serious tone, but Rikuto was still lost. Then, in his own thoughts, it seemed Fuji Jinko had also come to acknowledge them, and since then she had been fighting by his side. He had gained another trustworthy ally. But it wasn't just about the people around him. Rikuto also hadn't forgotten about his friends who were far away. He thought about Tachibana and Kuzu, recalling that their work was incredibly difficult, but they were still giving their all in their roles as diggers. In the end, he concluded that this life of survival was anything but easy. Every day was a struggle, but everyone was striving together. We are simply continuing to survive, he affirmed to himself with resolve, but he still couldn't escape his wandering thoughts. It's just, there's one thing that's been bothering me. Rikuto seemed to sense something, a strange and unsettling feeling. It was spreading throughout the community. I still can't identify the source of this feeling, Rikuto vaguely thought as time went on. As time passed, that feeling lingered. Then one night, Nishi suddenly called out to him, By the way, Rikuto. He asked with concern, Is your ear okay now? Rikuto answered honestly, It's okay. He explained the condition of his ear to his friend, but it's still a bit hard to hear. Nishi seemed somewhat relieved and replied, Oh, really? I'm glad it's recovering. Nishi then sighed in frustration. He complained to Rikuto, "But hey, how much longer does this go on? This survival underground." Hearing that, Rikuto calmly replied, "Who knows?" Hearing this, Nishi mocked his answer, "Who knows, huh? Humph." Suddenly he noticed something. He turned to Rikuto and said, "Fuji Jinko, she's talking with someone." A voice from the other side echoed back, filled with anger. "I told you I don't want it." Seeing their hostile attitude, Jinko didn't get angry but simply and calmly, "What are you talking about? Anyway, just drink this." The other person immediately showed anger and slapped her hard. "It hurts, stop it." Moments like this, every time you give us that, I just feel more frustrated with everything, like, you're forcing us to face an inescapable reality. She justified herself saying, "You don't know our feelings, how we feel." A hunter like Eugino, upon hearing this, could only feel sad and remain silent. Nissi, seeing her friend get slapped, rushed over to ask, "What's going on? Is there a problem?" "Jin, you're still so stubborn." Not clearly saying anything, just replying, "It's nothing, don't worry about it." Immediately you approached her and asked, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I won't ask more," but even as you said that in your mind, you couldn't stop wondering, nothing. Why was it that when I first met her, she didn't realize it, but she was facing this zombie apocalypse just like Rikuto. Rikuto, who had been silent this entire time, suddenly spoke up anyway. "This is so strange." Nishi heard that and asked what's strange. Rikuto quickly explained Ijima and the others look like they're having a festival. Now that I think about it, that old man seemed really happy. In contrast, there were some people who looked incredibly grim. Furthermore, just like those women from earlier, some even seemed angry. He paused for a moment, then added, "The atmosphere in this community is just off. Is something about to happen?" At this point, Gino also stopped hiding things and admitted that's right, because it's time for the rewards. Nishi finally understood. A reward, he thought. I remember the older men mentioning that. Hayaki will reward those who have performed well. Jinko then suddenly cut him off. More importantly, Kogen Rikuto, I have something to tell you. Nishi sensed something was off and turned to ask his friend, "Hey, is she about to confess her feelings?" Instantly, Jinko spoke up saying, "I've been observing you for the past 2 weeks. You seem to be a reliable person. Let's talk somewhere else. Follow me." The scene changes to where Sakura and Kotan are. Sakura approached her friend and whispered, "Kotan, is your leg okay?" Kotan quickly replied, "It's much better." She explained, "Thanks to the bandages Hayaki brought, I could perform first aid. I think I'll be able to walk again soon." Hearing this, Sakura couldn't help but thank the heavens. She replied, "Thank goodness. I was terrified when I saw you were injured." Afterwards, she couldn't stop praising Hayaki, but we're so lucky that Hayaki is such a good person. That's right. The two of them then reminisced together. It really is like that. Just as he had thought digging is too hard for girls. Rest assured, I'll move you two to cooking duty. I will quickly take care of this. Sakura couldn't help but shout with joy, now we're officially on cooking duty. No more backbreaking digging. Kotan was just as happy. That's good too, I guess. As she said this, Kotan silently wondered, but what is this? Looking into the distance, she couldn't help but feel a chill thinking about the gazes of the others. Why are their eyes filled with so much pity? Sakura immediately urged her, "All right, Kotan, let's get back to everyone." "Slow down a bit, Sakura." Arriving back at their spot, the two girls called out, "We're back." The people inside quickly replied, "You three are back, huh? Tachibana Kuju, you're back." Rikuto saw them and quickly asked, "So Gino, what did you want to tell me?" Jinko heard his question and replied coldly, "I wanted to speak with you alone, but I guess the others are fine too." Gino then replied seriously, "All right, I'll get straight to the point." She then asked Rikuto, "Do you want to know the truth about the great catastrophe?" The others looked shocked. The truth. Gino quickly explained in other words the origin of this apocalypse. Nishi asked in complete confusion, "You know about it?" Gino replied humbly, "Not everything, but I will tell you what I'm almost certain of." She then explained this whole apocalypse, this devastating monster invasion, very likely has someone behind it. Nishi suddenly interjected a man. Jinko then confirmed that man's name is Kogen Serato. As soon as the name was spoken, everyone was unable to contain their own horror.